Alrighty guys, and welcome back to another educational informative build on what I run and why I run it on the killer. Now this is my build I recommend on Demogorgon. Now there's two perks that I highly recommend on this build much rather than the others, and those two perks are Corrupt Intervention and Save the Best for Last, but we'll get into details real soon. But before we do that guys, make sure you hit that subscribe button for more educational killer and survivor content. If I don't remind you at the beginning of the video, I'll probably forget to remind you at the end, but let's just see how it goes. Now realistically, am I following the 4 principles of how to play killer in terms of the 4 basic fundamental perks? Now you can run any perks you want, but generally I like to break them into categories. Not all my killers apply by these categories, but this one does. Gen protection perk, yes. Situational awareness perk, yes. Stability perk, yes. Utility perk, yes. I'm following all those principles on my Demogorgon. Now, I'm not saying that's how you have to play him. You can go for a crazy I'm all ears build with Bamboozled and Moonwalk Mind Game. Some incredible shred players, you can do that as well, which wouldn't follow all the principles. But this is what I run and have a lot of success with in the red ranks with no add-ons on your boy, Gordon. Alright, first of all, what does Corrupt Intervention do? In fact, let's explain the ability. He has 2 abilities. First ability is going to be Shred, and the second ability is going to be the Portal of the Abyss. What does Shred do? Gordon will open his face, like you guys can see there. He will hold his hands out, and he will be able to do an incredible dash at 460% movement speed, being the fastest lunge, the furthest lunged in Dead by Daylight. It's even faster than a nurse blinking. It will not go as far as a nurse blinking. It has a maximum distance of 11 meters, and it has a 2.25 second cooldown if you miss. If you land a successful hit, it will be longer than that too. Keeping in mind, if you land a successful hit, you will do 1 damaging point, and you will lose all momentum for about 3 seconds or so while you recover from it. Now that we know all about Shred, let's look at the next one. The longer you hold your face open, the further you go as well. So keeping in mind, you can go for a cheeky moonwalk, a quick shred, and then go for a small dash as opposed to a long range dash. Much like a nurse blinking, where she charges her ability and a fully charged is a closed fist. Demogorgon, when his full ability is charged, you can't really tell. I'm pretty sure his face jitters, but you know, it takes a little bit of time, about 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds to go the whole 11 meters. When you dash, you go in a straight line, and because of that, you can't really turn, but you do lack. You've got an incredible amount of movement speed, but it's easy to flick around. Keeping something else in mind with Demogorgon, if you shred on an angle up against a wall, you will glide along the wall. You won't like collide straight with it. So if you need to do like a cheeky moonwalk, hide light shred because the guy's coming to a pallet, you can twist around the corner and then go straight for the wall. It can be really well played. It's more of an advanced Gordon technique. I've done it in a couple of my videos, but I just wanted to try and explain it for you guys too, what I try and do when I do it. Now the next ability is going to be the Portal of the Abyss. What does this do? I can basically walk almost anywhere on the map and put my hand on the ground. This will activate a portal. One portal or one tunnel, by default, does nothing. I can then walk to another area and put a portal on the ground. If I were to look over my shoulder, the previous place will now have a white portal. White portal means it is not active. If I hold my right mouse button as if I was going to shred, my face opens and my senses are connected to the portals. Okay? An unopened portal means it is not active. If I then go through the ground, through the portal I'm currently at, and go through the other one, I am undetectable during this time, but it makes a large sound indicator for survivors to know. This will activate both portals. Activated portals can be physically seen by a survivor. They can walk up to the portals and break them. That being said, if I am to right-click while they are anywhere near my portals, I will hear a very fast pulsation of their heartbeat, much like you would as Legion, of where they currently are if they're within 3 meters of an open portal. If the portal is not open, that will not work. Therefore, you can track people when they're working on Jennies, if they're coming in for a hook save, all these kind of things. So keep that in mind. That is very hard and complicated to use on Gordon, but it's one of his strongest features, especially if you double portal an area. One invisible portal around a wall, where people can't see it, blocking line of sight, one obvious portal in front of a generator. Therefore, they break the obvious portal, you take the other portal, and you catch them off guard. A lot of ways to work with it. You do have a limit of, I believe, 5 portals per map. Every time a survivor destroys a portal, you get a portal back. They get blood points for it. They also cannot hear your heartbeat while they're on top of a portal or breaking a portal. Keep that in mind so you can come up behind them. However, Demogorgon has some big feet. He sounds like Happy Feet walking around very damn loud, so they can use that against you too. There's nothing to reduce your footstep sound in Dead by Daylight. Now let's have a look at the perks. What do we have? Corrupt Intervention. Like always, it's going to seal the 3 furthest generators away. The entity's hands will cover the generator. They will be glowing white. Why is this good on Gordon? Well, Gordon's a bit of a prep killer as well. Just like the Hag and just like, well, realistically, Michael Myers is a bit of a prep killer too. So like the Hag, like Michael Myers, like the Trapper, even a slow killer like a Huntress at 110% movement speed. I want to spend the first 2 minutes making sure I have good portal placement. Obviously, it's not what I would commit to. I'd commit to chases if I saw the right opportunity to take a free M1. I'd take that as well. But this is going to seal the 3 furthest away generators that I'm not going to have to deal with. And it's 6 portals by default, not 5. Thrilling Tremor. When I down a survivor, when I pick them up, any generator a survivor is currently not on will have the entity's claws go on it. For 16 seconds, it'll glow white, and they will not be able to work on it. Any portal or any area that does not have a glowing white generator, I instantly know there is a survivor working on that generator. Therefore, I know what portal to go through and activate if the portal is not activated prior. If the portals are activated prior, I can just activate right-click by right mouse button and see where people are. If you are going through the upside down world, which is through the portal in the ground, keeping in mind you can't just teleport. You need to have a hole in the ground to dig through. So if you have no extra portals, you cannot dig through the ground. If survivors are smart and complete a Jenny with a portal in the middle of nowhere, they shouldn't break the portal and leave it there. That way you're 1/6 weaker. Okay? If you are going through the portal and a survivor is breaking the portal, they instantly let go of the portal. They cannot break it while you're mid-underground. In the Upside Down world, Nurse's Calling does work, and so does Spies of the Shadows. Nurse's Calling will allow you to see people, but because you're tunneling in a straight line, you cannot turn your camera. You're going from Destination A to Destination B. So you can take note of where people are and use that against them, but at the same time, very high skill gap, very situational, that kind of play. Keeping in mind you don't have a heartbeat while you're in the Upside Down world too, or in the portal. What does Pop Goes the Weasel do? Pop Goes the Weasel, and obviously the further away you are from one portal, and the travel distance will vary based on how long you have to go underground to the other portal. Pop Goes the Weasel, what does it do? When I've downed a survivor and hooked the survivor, the next generator I regress is going to be regressed 25% more after my first kick. So it'll instantly knock off 25%. A Jenny takes 80 seconds to do with one player, 47.5 with 2 players. If the Jenny's almost done and I regress it for that one player, it's going to make them take an additional 20 seconds. It'll knock 20 seconds off straight away and then start ticking back straight away. So that could be very good to do, especially on these generators that people try and do. I would take Shred with Pop Goes the Weasel, more so than taking Shred with Surge. Surge will not activate off a Shred, even though Surge is a Gordon teachable. It does not activate off your dash attack. It will activate off an M1. Now the next perk is an S++ perk on Demogorgon. It is by far his best in slot perk. Just because it's best in slot doesn't mean it's his best at all. It just means it's what will obviously give him the most value, much like Michael Myers is Monitor and Abuse. What does Save the Best for Last do? Every time you M1, which is your left click, you M1 a survivor, you will receive a stack of 5%. You can have one token equals 5%. You can have a maximum at 8 tokens. At 8 tokens, you recover 40% faster from a successful attack with an M1 on a survivor. If you are to hit your obsession, you lose 2 tokens. If you were to have 6 tokens, then hit a survivor, you recover off what you had prior to the tokens. Therefore, if I hit somebody who wasn't my obsession and have 7 tokens, I will still recover at 30%, which is 6 tokens. If I have 6 tokens and hit my obsession, I will then recover at 6 tokens worth rather than 4. Keep this in mind. It's very important to note. Therefore, if you have 8 stacks and the obsession's coming in for a hook trade, you can hit the obsession, recover from 8 stacks, and hit him again. You'll have 4 tokens, but you recover off this 8 stacks. You'll then recover off the 6 stacks, and you'll have 4 left. That way he can't do a hook trade if you were under the hook for whatever reason. However, in hindsight, if your obsession is in front of you trying to force you to hit them, you can activate Shred, which takes about 1.5 seconds, and then just dash on them. And that way you do not consume a stack of Save the Best for Last, and you can save that for the other guys. You see, I kind of steer away a little bit from Shred with Save the Best for Last, because Shred is very powerful. I can bait things out. I can make it look like I'm going to Shred for the window, walk up behind the survivor, watch him try and spin, then M1 him and get a stack. I can use that. At the same time, even though, like I said, Save the Best for Last is best in slot, you could even run Modern Abuse. While you're in the Upside Down world, keep in mind your body is moving. So if you have make your choice and you're all the way away, you can come back in with no heartbeat and then down the other guy. You can do some crazy good plays with make your choice. You can run Sloppy Butcher for the consistency. You can run Barbecue. You can run whatever you want in the slot. But like I said, Save the Best for Last is best in slot. Anyways, guys, that's going to be all for this educational video on Demogorgon. I have done a little bit of Demogorgon content recently, and I hope you guys can tune in and check that out. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, guys, and pop into the educational Dead by Daylight streams that I stream 5 days a week. It's great to have you guys in here, and if you have any questions about DBD, I'd love to answer them all, and you can help me teach the people that are learning the game also. Thank you all for watching, guys. Guys, and welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at an educational, informative video based on the build that I recommend on Hag as of the current patch that we have as well. So you might be wondering, what build do I recommend? Now, much like a lot of killers, I generally follow the 4 basic principles when it comes to playing this killer. Now, keeping in mind, before we go into details about the Hag, the 4 basic principles are as follows. A gen protection perk, a situational awareness perk, a stall perk, and a utility perk. Now, I am lacking a situational awareness perk based on the fact I have monitor, but I'll explain all that why momentarily. What does the Hag do? Right, Lisa is known for her finger paintings, so she does a finger painting on the ground. If a trap is triggered, which means the survivor has ran over it, or walked over it, or been anywhere near it not using urban evasion, it will explode and light up. She will, a clone called a mud clone, or mud phantom, will come out of the ground and scream. It isn't actually Lisa. However, Lisa gets an indicator, Lisa being the Hag, where she can press the control key, which will allow her to teleport and become the mud clone. It would do like a little phasing predator kind of thing, so a survivor knows that she did it, keeping in mind she can teleport straight away, as long as she's within 40 meters of the triggered trap. Now, she's only 110% movement speed killer. She is the shortest killer in the game, even shorter than Freddy. That being said, that means her line of sight is a lot lower than other killers. She does have a 24-meter heartbeat. She can teleport 40 meters. It takes her 2 seconds to put a finger painting down. She doesn't have to walk around the board and collect them like the trapper does to his bear traps. She can just paint them wherever. If she puts more than 10 paintings on the ground, the next painting she puts down will replace the first painting she did place. Her biggest weakness is a flashlight. With a flashlight, you can destroy a trap on the ground, therefore she can't teleport to it. Now, there are many ways to build the Hag, and realistically, they're not all correct, but at the same time, the most common meta way that I see a Hag currently built will be Corrupt Intervention or Ruin. It'll be Monitor and Abuse, it'll be Nurse's Calling, and it'll be Make Your Choice. Now let's walk through what I run and why I run it. Corrupt Intervention is going to allow me to seal the 3 furthest generators away from my starting spawn point for 120 seconds. This means that no survivor is going to be able to work on these objectives. The entity's hands will be wrapped around the generators, and the generators will glow white for me, not for the survivors. They'll see that they can't work on it, but I will know. I'll also have a time indicator in the bottom right-hand corner, which will be a red line going all the way around to seal, telling me that I have X amount of time of Corrupt Intervention left. Very powerful perk on killers that need prep time. Even the Trapper. Can backfire on the Trapper, much like the Hag, based on the time if you spend too much time prepping and not enough time. You see, this is really hard to explain on the Hag, because you don't want to chase as the Hag. You want to play smart around your placement. You want to place in high traffic zones. Unlike a Trapper, where you can place at a jungle gym, it's much easier to play with the Hag in terms of better trap placement, in terms of the fact she can just do them really fast. But she suffers the 5% diminishing returns for the penalty for the movement that the Trapper would not. So this allows me to seal the Jennies far away. If you remember, I said she has a 24-meter heartbeat and she can teleport 40 meters. Monitor and Abuse means I now have a 16-meter heartbeat. A 16-meter heartbeat is a tier 2 equivalent of a Michael Myers without any add-ons or without Monitor and Abuse. Therefore, I will have a very small heartbeat. I'll be able to teleport 40 meters. This perk, I alternate as well. Now, before I quickly go into details, I'll talk about other unique perks, but I swap it out for Blood Echo. A lot of people don't agree with Blood Echo on the Hag, but I feel it makes a lot of the higher ranked players hesitate or want to heal or not want to run around. What does Blood Echo do? When a survivor is hooked, basically every other survivor that is injured will now bleed more, meaning their blood will be easier to track. It also means they're exhausted for 45 seconds, so they can't sprint burst, they can't dead hard. They can still adrenaline if they pop a generator, because adrenaline does trump everything. So that is why I run Blood Echo rather than Monitor, but I've been having a lot of fun with Monitor. Why do I take Surge? Now, Surge is one of the hidden gem perks in Dead by Daylight. So many people overlook. I recommend this on a lot of the killers, not all of them, but a lot of the killers, because this is a massive time saver. Say I was prepping a jungle gym, and there's a guy working on a generator beside me. and I was to down one of the people, that generator instantly regresses 8% of what is completed on the Jenny. It takes 80 seconds to do a generator, therefore 10% of 80 would be 8, therefore we're looking at about 6.2, 6.4 seconds off the Jenny, and then it instantly regresses. The difference between Surge and Pop is Surge requires you to hook a survivor, then you get to regress 1. Surge is whenever you down a survivor, anywhere within 32 meters around you. Doesn't matter how many generators, 1, 2, 3, 4, not 5 because they're not that close, but you get the point, right? Any generator around you that has any work done will instantly start regressing. Now you can see why this is a very good perk. I even recommend it on my nurse based on the fact on my rotations on my nurse, but I also have surveillance on her, but that will be in a separate video. So what happens here is I just down Jeff. The last thing I want to do is pick Jeff up, hook him, put a painting under Jeff, run over to a generator, kick the generator, put a painting under the generator, then run across the board. Now I can do one of two things. Pick Jeff up, hook him, put a painting under Jeff if I want, or not, or go straight through the board and get more prep. I don't have to worry about going upstairs to a platform to regress a Jenny, because it's instantly regressed because of the information that I know through Surge. Surge will trigger and does have a cooldown too. This is one of the most hidden gem perks in Dead by Daylight that not a lot of people use. I think when people understand how powerful it is, even though it's been out a while, they'll start using it more. It by far is the best teachable perk that came in with the Demogorgon DLC. Just keeping that in mind. Now the final perk is going to be Sloppy Butcher. Sloppy Butcher is here for consistency of keeping multiple targets injured. Like I said before, Blood Echo only triggers off an injured target that isn't on the hook. So that is something to keep in mind. Realistically, this perk can be replaced with 3 choices, right? Sloppy Butcher gives you consistency no matter who you hit. It stalls out the game in your favor. If people heal, it takes some additional 8 seconds if they're self-carrying, but a lot more 4 seconds if they're doing it in a team. It just comes in a lot of handy. It doesn't matter if they're the Obsession. No matter who I come across, I can always slow them down. If they're trying to revive a slug from the ground, it will take them longer as well, unless they have botany knowledge to counter Sloppy, but the vast majority of people don't. So it's all about consistency. What is a perk that's not about consistency? Well, Save the Best for Last. Is Save the Best for Last the better option? Realistically, yes. If you can get your stacks, it's brilliant. Once the killer M1's a survivor, she will do an animation where she dribbles blood, and then she recovers from attack. Alright. Every time she does the M1, she'll receive a 5% benefit to her next attack and cooldown between attacks that is successful. A miss doesn't account. So what is Save the Best for Last? Let's take a little bit of a closer look at Save the Best for Last. I see Make Your Choice, which is important. We'll talk about that in a moment. Save the Best for Last. Every successful M1 you do on a survivor, you will then receive a token. Maximum of 8 tokens. If you are to hit the Obsession, you lose 2 tokens. Therefore, an Obsession taking a hit will punish you. You will recover off however many tokens you have. If I were to have 6 tokens at the time, and then M1 somebody and have 7 tokens, I will recover off the 6 tokens. Then I will recover off the 7 next attack. Much like before, if I have 8 stacks to Save the Best for Last, and I hit the Obsession, I will now have 6 stacks, but I'll recover off 8 stacks. Then my next hit will be off 6 stacks, even though I'll have 4 stacks left. It's always off the amount of stacks you had before the action was done. You have 4, and then you got 5, recovers off 4. Then the next hit will recover off 5. You add 6, hit the Obsession, recover off 4. Not off the 6. I mean, it will recover off the 6, not the 4. I'm making this overcomplicated. Anyways, Save the Best for Last is a great perk rather than Make Your Choice or Sloppy Butcher at your own leisure. It is the highest skill gap out of all of them you can do. After you have more than 4 stacks to Save the Best for Last, a 20% recovery time will allow you to hit control after you M1 a survivor and pretty much teleport on them and M1 them again, and they won't get the 150% movement speed depending on your trap placement. Therefore, a lot of high skill hags will recommend Save the Best for Last. I agree. It's a great perk, but I take Sloppy Butcher for the consistency. Keep in mind, Surge activates when I hit a survivor into Dying State. The more people in Dying State, or the more people I can get to Dying State in one attack, the better off I'm going to be. Therefore, the synergy between these 2 perks. Alternatively, the other perk you could choose to run would be Make Your Choice. Remember, this is a utility perk. You could run Make Your Choice. What does Make Your Choice do? If a survivor is unhooked while you are outside of 32 meters, so even if you have a 16-meter heartbeat, doesn't matter. You have to be 32 meters away, which is a trapper heartbeat, but just by default, or the length of whispers. If you're out of that range, the survivor who did the unhook will go down in 1 hit from you for the next 60 seconds as the hack. Your M1 won't have to take 2 hits. Very powerful, very good if you want to play around the proxying as a hag, if you want to play around the hook. Remember, you can teleport 40 meters, and this is 32. When a trap is triggered on the ground and the clone pops up, the clone's there for about 3 seconds. Plenty of time to do the unhook, then you teleport in, then you take the trade. I don't like Make Your Choice because it relies around that kind of gameplay more so, and I would rather have more prep, more information, more rotations throughout the board to apply more pressure based on the fact the current meta is all about destroying generators. I mean, not a lot of survivors heal nowadays in the lower ranks, so you got to keep the pressure out as much as you can. Realistically, you could run Ruin and Surveillance. Monitor does work nicely. Another common pick, like I called out before, would be Nurse's Calling. Remember, Nurse's Calling and Monitor means I have a 16-meter heartbeat, I'm the shortest killer in the game, and I can see you healing 28 meters away. Therefore, there's a 12-meter gap before you hear the slightest bit of a heartbeat, so just keep that in mind too. I don't really like it. I don't recommend it. You could take Pop as well. It just depends on your playstyle. I personally think Surge is an MVP perk on the Hag, much like I think Sloppy Butcher is too. Tell me what you guys recommend on the Hag or what you guys want to run. I know some Hags like to run Blindness. Some Hags I know like to run Infectious Fright. But let me know in the comments down below, guys. That's going to be all for today's educational informative video. Why I recommend this build at rank 1 as a Hag player. This gives me the most consistency. However, at the same time, like I said, I like to swap in Blood and Echo out on Monitor, especially based on the fact I don't use add-ons and I don't use offerings. Therefore, if you have Monitor Abuse on a Hag on a map like Blood Lodge, it's not going to help you as opposed to how much it would help you on an indoor map like Lyre. So I'd take Blood Echo for the consistency and try and keep the split pressure out on everyone. But thank you all for watching, guys. Make sure you hit the subscribe button for more educational survivor and killer content like this, and make sure you pop into the live streams where I stream DVD 5 days. Guys, and welcome back. We're going to be looking at the Billy today, and this is the build that I recommend on him. Now, the thing about the Billy is, he's such a strong killer in Dead by Daylight. He has so much versatility, he has so much movement built in, he has instant lethality. He's one of the strongest killers in the game ever since he came out, and he's been holding the top place, always in the top 5 in Dead by Daylight, both with and without add-ons. Now, the build I recommend on the Billy is what you can currently see based off no add-ons. Now, there are a couple of things that are subject to change based on you as a player and an individual, but this is what I find the most success with. Now, the first perk, I'm going to be following pretty much the exact same principles that I follow on all of my killers. However, this first perk is integratable based on the map that you're currently on, and at the same time, you don't really need it based on the Billy's default ability. You might be wondering what the Billy's default ability is. It basically gives him 2.3 seconds to rev a chainsaw, or 2.2 seconds, sorry, to rev a chainsaw, which will cause instant down dying state, and give this killer 230% base movement speed, as opposed to 115%, until he collides with something or ends the action. He will pull a chainsaw up, he'll rev it, and then he'll run at 230% with reduced steering. So it gives him a lot of map momentum, a lot of movement throughout the entire board. He can curve, and he can also down a survivor in 1 hit, as opposed to 2, therefore making him one of the most threatening killers in the game. Now, you'll notice the build follows pretty much the same principles as a lot of my builds do. We've got a gen protection perk, we have a situational awareness perk, we have a regression perk, and we have a utility perk. Right, so right now we've got Corrupt Intervention. It'll seal the furthest 3 generators away from me. Realistically, as a Billy with his base movement speed, you don't need this. You could replace this at the beginning of the trial for Discordance, based on the fact that it assists you more to the mid to the late game, as opposed to Corrupt is an early game perk and will only work for 120 seconds before the perk stops. However, based on how powerful the Billy is, he doesn't even need more than 3 perks, especially if you know how to play him really well. The next perk I've got is Thrilling Tremor. Some people tell you barbecue and chili. My builds are generally about, remember, protection of generators and killing survivors. At the same time, these are based off no add-ons. So you could run barbecue in wake of this, but I prefer the information I get through Thrilling Tremor, allowing me to know where I need to go, what generators are being worked on, and vice versa. A lot of people expect you to have barbecue over Thrilling, so you catch them off guard, especially if they get in a locker and they don't hear the generator beside them getting sealed. Next perk I've got is Pop Goes the Weasel. So what does this do as well? Basically, generators will seal white if there are no survivors on them when you hook another survivor, and if they're not sealed white for 18 or for 16 seconds, you know there is a survivor on that generator. Therefore, you can move across the board at 230% movement speed, or if you have Doom or Death Engravings, even faster, you can get around the board and then regress that generator with Pop Goes the Weasel. Now, I can't recommend Surge based on the fact that Surge will not apply off a chainsaw hit. Pop Goes the Weasel will give you 25% regression on a generator that you regress, with and it'll give you 60 seconds as well for that too. Very powerful perk, especially at stopping them from completing a generator that's nearly done. You can knock multiple seconds off it and really hurt survivors that have put all their eggs into one basket if they chose to stack. I also have a perk called Infectious Fright. Now, Infectious Fright is when you put a survivor into dying state, all nearby survivors within your terror radius, my terror radius being 32 meters as a Hillbilly, will be able to scream and reveal their location for 6 seconds. The scream indicator is the exact same as a doctor. A bubble will appear above their head of their current location of where they were, and it will fade after 6 seconds. So the survivor can continue to run. The bubble will not follow them. The bubble will stay where it currently was when you downed somebody else. They will put their hands in the air near their head. They'll make a yell, an animation and sound, which is also countered by Calm Spirits. If a survivor gets in the locker, they will still scream. if they don't have Calm Spirits, but it will not give you an indicator of their current location as well. So with Infectious Fright, if I just downed somebody like Megan on the ground, and I see Nia and Jeff scream at the same time, I'm going to pick this guy up from the ground, I'm going to take him to the hook, and I'm probably going to leave. However, if I just down Jeff, and then I only heard one player scream, and he's nearby, I'm going to leave Jeff on the ground, go for the other person, based on how I feel, and if I think I'm going to be losing a generator, or if I'm not going to be losing a generator. If she's at a really good jungle gym, I might just try and take an M1 or the pallet, break the pallet, pick Jeff up, hook him, and then chainsaw across the board, try and get her to hook save early. So Infectious Fright is a fantastic perk. Some people would stick with Enduring on Billy based on time management. It can be really good. You can even replace Corrupt Intervention with Enduring, but I just think Infectious is one of his golden perks, and a lot of people undermine how snowball potential this is. Remember, you have an instant down on you at all times, so if you come up behind somebody trying to hide, you can down him straight away, rather than hitting him, have him get 150% movement speed for a few seconds, then trying to hit him again and catching him. You could just down him there and then, providing he doesn't have sprint burst. It can be a very lethal build for you to run on the Hillbilly, but guys, it's that simple. Highly recommended perks is you could, like I said earlier, you can alternate between Thrilling Tremor and Barbecue and Chili, depending on what you prefer. You can get rid of Corrupt, and if you wanted to put on Ruin, I personally wouldn't recommend Ruin. You can also put on Discordance, also great perks, and Infectious. You could even look at Enduring Spirit Sphere. You can go Enduring Barbecue and Chili, Enduring Bamboozled. It just depends on how you want to build him. He's a very strong killer, keeping in mind that I were to say he has a weakness, his weakness would be, I want to say Windows, but he's no more weak against Windows than a killer like a Wraith. Do you know what I mean? Like, you could still outplay Windows with crazy curves if you know how to do it, but I wouldn't say he has many weaknesses. He has a lot of strengths, but no weaknesses. It's just, the biggest thing is a lot of people don't know how to time manage properly as a Billy, resulting in them overcommitting to a chase or not applying enough pressure, which will cause them to lose generators too fast. But guys, that's going to be all for today's educational, informative killer game in terms of updating information with the Hillbilly. If you guys had a great time, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I do stream DVD 5 days a week over here live on Twitch, and make sure you guys pop on in and say g'day. It'll be a pleasure to see you guys over in the fog. Take care, be awesome, and I'll see you guys then. Thank you. Oh, hello there. Welcome back to another educational, informative video where I am going to be explaining my personal favorite killer right now. That's not true. I really like this killer. I have been having a lot of time with Leatherface. I actually think of myself more as a Leatherface main now than anything else, but I'm still going to say Plague's my favorite. Okay, but right now, we're here to talk about Leatherface and not the Plague. So let's have a little bit of a look at my build. Now, at first glance, the build looks pretty simplistic, yeah? But this build is high skill gap. It also has high risk, therefore it has high reward. That being said, we only have one risk perk in here right now, and that is Ruin. But before I get into it, guys, make sure you slap that subscribe button for more educational, informative content like this one before, and if you want to see me with a new hat, by all means, let me know in the comments down below as well. But we're going to be having a look. Now, generally, I follow the 4 principles on majority of my killers when I play Dead by Daylight. These 4 principles is 4 different perks, right? We have one perk, which is Gen Protection. We have one perk, which is Situational Awareness. We have one perk, which is Stall, and we have one perk, which is Utility. My build right now is kind of lacking out on one of them. Surveillance falls under 2 different categories, and so does Ruin. Ruin's falling under Gen Protection and Situational Awareness in terms of the fact that Surveillance is entwining with it, yeah? But I am lacklustering in a Stall perk. However, how does this build work? What does Ruin do? Whenever a survivor has worked on a generator, when they let go of that generator, it will regress at twice the rate. Now, a generator regresses at 0.3% of what is completed per second, therefore it will regress at 0.6% of what is completed per second. So it actually regresses really fast. When a survivor is working on a gen, when they let go, they'll instantly see the sparks, therefore they'll know I have Ruin, and it will give them an indicator on the right. Full disclaimer about Ruin though, if you're using Ruin and Surge, and a survivor's working on a Jenny, you will make the generator explode, they'll let go, and it will start regressing, then they can jump back on it. So Surge does work with Ruin, but Pop does not, based on Ruin always happening. But if you run Pop and Ruin, you have the stability for when you lose Ruin. Now, the issue with Ruin is it sounds like a great perk, however, it will be on one totem that appears randomly on the map. 5 totems will appear on the map, 4 of which will be dull, and Ruin will be on the lit totem. This being said, it could be in a good spawn, it could be in a bad spawn, therefore the risk for the reward for the strong benefits that this perk comes with. Now, the next perk entwines hand in hand with Ruin, right? This perk is called Surveillance. What does Surveillance do? When a survivor is working on a generator, when they let go of the generator and I force it to regress, therefore, with Ruin, it will automatically regress when a survivor lets go. The generator will then glow white. Permanently. The second a survivor starts working on that Jenny, the generator will now glow yellow or green. It's a mixture of yellowy green color. It'll be like that for 16 seconds. Right? Therefore, I know when a survivor is on that Jenny. It'll also have louder indicators. You don't want to worry about the second half. So what happens now? How do I play Bubba? Bubba has a 32-meter tear radius. Quick look at his build. He has a 32-meter tear radius. He's classified as easy to play. That's true to a degree. He has 4.6% movement per second. That equals out to 115%. He's a tall killer with a 32-meter tear radius. So what I actually do when I play Leatherface is I use my heartbeat to tell me where survivors are. As you'll note, his 3 teachables, Knockout, Barbecue, and Franklin's, I use none of those perks. A lot of people assume because you're playing Leatherface, you're going to be running Barbecue if they don't see Thrilling Tremor, because it's his own teachable perk and it gives good information. So what will happen is I will spawn in a map and I will walk around 2 Jennies but not check them. I will walk in about 20 meters, 24 meters away, and I'll use that to check a generator through Ruin, through Surveillance. Because if somebody's on it and they let go, it'll then be glowing white, so I'll know somebody was on it, so I can come over and check. That way I don't have to worry about going upstairs for a platform or downstairs, and I'll use that to rotate around the board. Remember, when Ruin is destroyed, I will need to physically walk up to a generator that hasn't worked on it, hold the spacebar key to regress the generator. At default regress rate, Ruin only works while the perk is active, therefore I'll regressing at 0.3% per second, as opposed to the 0.6 with Ruin activated, but it will glow white until a survivor comes and touches it. So even with Ruin destroyed, Surveillance just gives me that massive bit of information of knowing where to go. Now the build comes together. Rather than explaining, I'll try and explain Play With Your Food first, right? Play With Your Food, you're obsessed with one survivor. Every time you enter chase, and then you end chase without downing the survivor, you receive 5% movement speed until you use your next attack. Now, if you don't know what Leatherface's special ability is, it takes him 2.5 seconds, he will pull up his chainsaw, and then he'll release it. He'll go left, right, like a dance, then go up, down. During the up, down animation, he cannot hurt anyone. His left and right receive no movement speed benefit, but then his final 2 lefts and right, he does get a little bit of a bonus. Therefore, you'll notice this a lot with add-ons like Award-Winning Chili and even Beast Marks, even though Beast Marks gives you the consistency through each chainsaw release. What does Play With Your Food do? Like I said, I need to find my obsession. How do I know who the obsession is? In the bottom left-hand side of the screen, you will see the entity's hand around somebody's name. When I enter chase, you will hear a sound that you've initiated chase of the obsession, different to any other survivor. You will see the hand moving. Now I need the chase to end. When the chase ends, if I haven't downed the survivor, I get 5% movement speed. So, if I'm a good killer, and I can moonwalk, hide my light, and hit the survivor, and he pallet stuns me, or he gets a window, I will technically end chase. If these 2 survivors are together, and one's my obsession and one isn't, and I am the guy on the left, and I turn to look to the guy to the right, I'll get the 5% movement speed. If I even look at the guy on the left, and then I chase the guy on the right, I'll get the 5% movement speed. 5% movement speed is a lot. Remember, a survivor moves at 110% while running, with no enhancements like, obviously, Hope or Sprint Burst Active. They move at 100%. I move at 115. I get a stack of Play With Your Food. I now move at 120% movement speed. The next perk is Nemesis. What does this do? It stacks up to 3 times, but remember, every time I attack, I lose a stack. Therefore, I need to know that when I attack, I'm actually doing it. If I were to do an animation like a grab out of a locker over a window, when somebody's working on a pallet, if I were to do something like that, it doesn't consume the attack or a stack, so it doesn't count as an attack. If I were to rev my chainsaw, it doesn't count as an attack. When I release the chainsaw, counts as an attack. Keeping in mind, Bubba receives a penalty when he pulls up his chainsaw based on the fact that it has a multiple instant down potential. Play With Your Food count as a penalty and allows me to move faster than any survivor while doing this. Therefore, I'm not moving at 96 something percent, I'll be moving at like 101% movement speed, so I will be going faster, even with 1 stack. The thing about this build is so many bubbers try and build themselves around running multiple stacks of Play With Your Food. Now that's great, but that takes a lot of time, and generally you don't have a lot of time when playing DBD nowadays. So even 1 stack is huge. 1 stack, you can easily catch a very good survivor at a decent jungle gym. If you're a good bubber and you know how to work with stacks, you'll catch them at a god jungle gym. I'm talking really experienced loopers, just based on the movement speed alone. All the jungle gyms in Dead by Daylight, that my understanding out of playing the game for thousands of hours, are based around 115% movement speed killer. Pallet here, window here, distance, travel, and time, won't catch. Survivor can still outplay until you get Bloodlust. That rule doesn't really apply based on obviously your skill gap, your mind games, your baits on taking the window, not taking the window, the killers, moonwalks, M1s, chainsaw baits, body blocks. That's not taken into account, right? But the jungle gym's distancing generally is based on how many pallets there are, how unsafe the pallets are. There's going to be more unsafe pallets than safe pallets, of course. Remember, what does Play With Your Food do? It gives me 5% movement speed whenever I end chase with my obsession. What does Nemesis do? If you pallet stun me, if you decisive strike me, if you flashlight me, if you look at me, no, if you do any of these things, you become my obsession. If I pick a guy up who DS's me, I look at the ground, I instantly look at him, therefore I'm building a stack of Play With Your Food while he runs away. Now, the difference that separates the very experienced bobbers that know how to work with this build is the people that understand moonwalking. Now, moonwalking is complicated, right? A lot of people just think, oh, I turn around and I walk backwards in a line. You're right to a degree. If you walk backwards in a line against a wall, survivors can see your light clipping through the wall sometimes, so you need to aim out to the left-hand side and cuddle the wall on an angle. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the fact that you just M1 to David, he threw the pallet, so you're going to break the pallet while he takes distancing, getting a stack, then you're going to initiate chase, and then end chase again to have 2 stacks to apply it towards somebody else, depending on how well David's pathing is. Okay, different scenario. David King just took an M1 and didn't give you the pallet. Alright, so here's what you're going to do. You just M1 David, he baited the pallet, he now takes distancing. You have one of 2 choices. You instantly do a 180 and go the other way and chase somebody else, or you do a 180 and you moonwalk behind David, listening for his cry, while watching for his scratch marks and strafing through his scratch marks, while you're chasing him while outside of chase. Like the old school Legion that would follow you while you had to mend. You can do that on your bubber to gain your stacks of Play With Your Food. You can still do that on Legion if you're going to be running an anti-mend build, but at the same time, this is what separates people that know how to use Play With Your Food and people that don't. Understanding how good this pallet is. Is it a really good pallet? Don't M1 through it. Walk through it, pull up your chainsaw, watch the pro survivor try and bait you out by waiting at the pallet to make it look like they'll stun. Remember, this build gets stronger the more times you get pallet stunned. I can't stress that enough. You should almost never respect the pallet. You respect the pallet if the guy's injured and it's an unsafe pallet and you know you can mind game him where he currently is and he's already giving you a stack of Play With Your Food, or you already have like, there are situations. I can't play out every situation the correct way. I still make mistakes. I can't tell you the proper way. I can't tell you, you take this pill 3 days a week and you'll grow an extra inch. I can't tell you that, right? I can give you hints and advice for the situations. If you can't get a hit in 15 seconds, if you can't get a pallet in 15 seconds, you've made a mistake. You know, if you play your cards right and you go for a moonwalk play and force them to pallet stun you and you're already in chase, you'll get the stack. But if you're doing a moonwalk play and you don't look at the guy while he pallet stuns you, he'll become the obsession. Remember, I forgot to mention, Nemesis allows you to know if somebody's running away or baiting the pallet. Generally, a lot of survivors will run to the right, wait there, see if you break it, then run back on the scratches. Therefore, a good Huntress will turn to the right, moonwalk, pull up the hatchet, and then get him over the pallet. That's one of the options that you can do. Nemesis removes the uncertainty of knowing. Nemesis is the equivalent of alert, but for the killer when you're stunned. Keeping in mind, he's not going to hear a heartbeat for the next 60 seconds. He's going to see the red stain. And on top of that, he's also going to give you 5% movement speed. So maybe you don't want to catch him. Maybe he just threw a pallet. You'll take the stun. You'll break the pallet while he's block line of sight. You'll walk out. You'll hide your light. You'll moonwalk. You'll get a stack in the next 2 to 3 seconds. You'll then chase him. You then hear somebody working on a generator beside. You continue to chase the guy around the loop. You then end chase with that guy to initiate. That way you pull up your chainsaw. You release your chainsaw. You end a chase with that guy. You get another 5% movement speed. That'll apply through your chainsaw. You're now running a mile as Bubba, and nobody expects these mind games, these plays. Do you know why? Because a lot of people recommend Bubba to a new killer. If you're new to Dead by Daylight, yeah, play Leatherface. But when you've got somebody who's played for a while in the game that understands a majority of the mechanics, they can turn around and do these incredible plays that people don't understand. Generally, when people see you have Play With Your Food Nemesis, they'll throw pallets early. And that's great. Get the pallet out of the way, rotate. Get the pallet out of the way. He's going to throw pallets. He threw 2 pallets in 20 seconds. Brilliant timing. What do I have left on the map? Do I want to protect that platform, Jen? Do I not want to play? The thing is, this build doesn't work without Play With Your Food Nemesis. You need both. You don't run one, you run both. You run both or you run none. If you were to run none, you can go Enduring, Spirit Sphere. You can go Enduring, Bamboozled. You can go Discordance and something else in wake of that too. You can run your build around that. You can go even, keeping in mind that I would love to run Surge if it applied off a chainsaw hit, but it doesn't. If it did, I would change my build. At the same time, you can get rid of Ruin for Corrupt for stability, but you won't be able to run the Ruin the Ruin. You wouldn't be able to run the Ruin Surveillance combo. You could run Corrupt and Surveillance. It wouldn't have the wow factor. It would still be good, but this has great synergy, and even when this perk's destroyed, this perk is MVP, especially at forcing out stacks for the people that think you've rotated away and you've came back in. And majority of the time when a guy gets unhooked, he's going to run to his Jenny that's 80% completed to tap it, to then run to the shack with Dia, and you can outplay those. Keep in mind, 5% movement speed doesn't sound like a lot, but all killers lunge off 115% movement speed. Apart from Michael Myers, even a nurse moving at 96.5% movement speed, if she doesn't blink, she lunges the equivalent distance of 115% movement speed. There's one killer who's the exception, Michael Myers. Michael Myers in Tier 1 has the smallest lunge in the range. Even running an add-on called the Boyfriend Memo, which prolongs his lunge slightly, is still the smallest lunge in the game. Michael Myers in Tier 2 is the same lunge as a Trapper. Michael Myers in Tier 3 is the longest lunge in the game. At 115% lunge, and then he makes a wick sound at the end where he goes an extra couple of inches because everyone wants those extra couple of inches. Keep that in mind. It's very important to know. Even a Hag at 110% movement speed lunges at the equivalent of 115. A lot of people misunderstand Freddy and think Freddy has the longest lunge in the game. Freddy's lunge is the same as the Trapper. Why does it look like he goes farther? Well, he's shorter, therefore when he does his attack, he needs to make it look like he's moving further and faster to cover the same distance as somebody who's taller. Think about it. That's how you cover the distance. With Play With Your Food, it enhances your lunge. One stack of Play With Your Food can out-lunge dead hard. Yep. 3 stacks of Play With Your Food can lunge pretty just shy of the length of the shack. I'm not even kidding. If you're running, you can cover literally almost to the end of the shack, minus a meter and a half. You can cover some disgusting distance if you have all the stacks. Now you build those stacks based on what's happening. You're chasing Jeff, Nia's on the hook, and you slug Jake, and there's 3 Jennies left. Therefore, Claudette has to come off the final gen. She can't pop Adrenaline, it has to be altruistic. Therefore, you can get stacks of Play With Your Food out of the other guy to then apply for a snowball potential. Understanding when to go for your stacks. Realistically, you should be running around the entire trial with 1 stack or no stacks and playing to that 1 stack. When you try and build up multiple stacks, that's when you lose the game because you get slammed in gens. That is how you play Leatherface, realistically, in a nutshell. Now, his add-ons do change him a bit. Beast Marks and Tuning are his 2 MVP best add-ons. He also has Primer Bulb for a faster chainsaw. He has Shop Lubricant down here as well. And you're looking at Spark Plugs, also honorable mentions to the Vegetable Oil, and the Meme Limiter, also the Speed Limiter. Not a great add-on, but still. Award-winning Chili is nowhere near as good as it seems, and alongside neither is Begrim Chainsaw, applying the Mangled penalty and decreasing generators, because keeping in mind, you're not going to only chainsaw down, you're going to be M1ing downing people, you're going to be trying to keep split pressure and multiple targeting, and if they choose to group and stack and heal, that gives you time to get stability and regression on all the gens, which is good, because then they're going to be down 3 pallets, they'll have no gens done, and they've all hid to group heal. Like, those kind of things are important to keep in mind. Plus, you know exactly where you're going throughout the board, through Ruin and Surveillance, and like I mentioned before, people assume you have barbecue, so they're going to be using lockers to hide. I was playing a game of this with Leatherface. If you've looked at any of the educational Leatherface videos I've done a lot of them, you'll see how strong this build can be. People are going to be playing lockers thinking you have barbecue and chili, but you're going to be going over there because you have Ruin Surveillance, which they don't think about. And then when Ruin's gone, they don't understand you have Surveillance. I've caught many people out with it, especially on maps like Liars, which are not strong maps for Leatherface with a 2.5 second chainsaw rev with no add-ons. So keeping that in mind, guys, that is going to be all for the educational, informative video on Leatherface. Make sure you hit that like or that subscribe button to support the stream as much as you possibly can, and the YouTube algorithm. It'd be great to have you guys in here. Make sure you pop into the educational, live, informative content I do over here at Twitch 5 days a week. It'd be great to have you in here. If you think you know everything about Killer or everything about Survivor, you can help me teach people that don't. If you think you're going to learn a couple of things, it's a great place to have you guys. But thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. And let me know in the comments down below, what's your favorite Leatherface build? What do you run? What perks do you like? Do you think this build is great? Would you like to see Leatherface reworked? What would be a good add-on for Leatherface for being a pink add-on? I personally think a pink add-on for Leatherface increases chainsaw time, and he no longer stops when he breaks a pallet. He continues to go through, increase it by 0.5 second or so, therefore it's a 3 second chainsaw rev rather than 2.5. Let me know what you think, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Stay awesome, stay safe, and thank you all for watching, guys. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to an educational, informative video on a little bit of Nia. Oh wait, I mean Julie. I said Nia because Nia has the exact same jacket, but I tell you what, Julie looks great in this outfit. Now let's talk about our build real quick, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to be able to see what I'm currently running and why I recommend it. Now, there are a lot of different ways to build this killer. I put Legion as the weakest, if not one of the weakest killers in Dead by Daylight. Some of you will disagree with that, but keep in mind my builds are based off no add-ons, versing people in the red ranks. This build is what I've been running recently, and believe it or not, it's been really freaking good. It's been really good with and without add-ons. Now, I'll talk you through that in a minute. What I want to talk about is some basic numbers and understanding Legion's ability. Legion is also known as the guy or the girl, or whatever you want to refer to them as that kind of person that has the rubber blade. That sounds horrible. Cut the video. Cut the video. Let's try that again. Alright. Okay, cool. I was gonna bring up the fact they have a rubber knife. Okay, let's try again. Alrighty guys, and welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at an educational, informative Legion video of what I recommend running, and I just got to quickly say massive shout out to the devs for making a fantastic Nia, Susie skin. I said that because Nia wears this same jacket. She does look fantastic in the skin. So what are we going to be pointing out? We're going to be pointing out this is the build I recommend for the red ranks. Now there are other builds, but this is what I've had the most success with against really good survivors. As of the fact that the meta right now is not healing and slamming down gens, this works really well for me because a lot of people try and pallet stun Legion so they can't use their ability, but I'll be talking about that in a second. Let's talk really quickly about the ability. Now Legion is commonly known as having a rubber knife based on the fact when they use their ability, they pull the knife upside down, they'll make a heavy panting sound, and they're going to be able to run at 130% movement speed. Default killer movement speed is going to be 115%, so they only receive a 15% benefit, but that is still really fast. They're also going to have that for 10 seconds by default. They'll have the knife up, they're going to be able to run at 130% movement speed for 10 seconds. When they hit a survivor with Feral Frenzy, you will hear pulsations or very fast heartbeats, which will be other survivors within your terror radius of 32 meters. This can obviously be changed by running certain add-ons. However, this being said, when you M1 a survivor, if you M1'd him with no matter how much of the timer is done, it will instantly reset. Therefore, you can run and get the other person. That survivor is now in borrowed time status effect, therefore he needs to mend. The issue with Legion, which really hurts them. So what's good about Legion? Legion can vault a pallet while their ability is activated and vault a window at a very fast rate. Therefore, they can get their ability to activate. Their ability is all about injuring survivors. Not downing them, but keeping them injured. This being said, when you fast vault a pallet, it takes 0.9 seconds. Much faster than breaking it, except it doesn't destroy it. Therefore, if you activate your ability, survivor pulls a pallet down, you can vault the pallet, you can then M1 the survivor. However, you cannot turn around and break the pallet. You have to cancel your ability. You can only activate your ability when it's fully charged, much like the spirit, so keep that in mind too. When Legion cancels his ability or his ability timer runs out, they will look, or her ability timer, they will look at their hands and look down for 4 seconds. This is why I put the killer in the bottom tier in terms of how strong they are in Dead by Daylight. 4 seconds is a long time. They lose pretty much all their movement speed. They can't build Bloodlust. They can't build Chase. They're looking at the ground. If you looked at the survivor before you look at the ground and you have play with your food, you're in Chase, and you're going to end Chase because you're looking down. Normally, looking down doesn't end Chase, but while you activate your hand ability as Legion, it does end Chase. So keep that in mind. You're going to get a stack really fast. It does take 20 seconds to get your ability back. If you manage to run around the entire board and use the 130% movement speed for distance, it'll take you 20 seconds to wait for that timer to reset. Now, there is a green add-on you can run as well, which is going to add, I think it's considerable amount of time. Considerably. That adds 2.4 seconds to your duration. So now your duration is not 10 seconds, it's going to be 12.4 seconds. So keep that in mind. That could be very good to keep in mind. So, looking at our build here, we have a gen protection perk, we have a situational awareness perk, we have a stall perk, we have a utility perk. That is the basic way of how to build a killer. I could tell you I do not follow those principles as Legion. Now, even though Legion is one of the weaker killers in the game, I have to play this killer in a different manner. I have to play this killer in a different manner to be able to come out on top for the vast majority of chases. If I were to run add-ons with the build I'm currently running, I would be running these two here. This is going to increase how far away you can detect a survivor, but generally, when a survivor hears your heartbeat, they'll leave running really early. I personally love this add-on right here, which is duration, and I love this other add-on here, which is mending. So what does this do? This space is broken status. After you activate your ability on the first target hit, if you are to hit any other targets, they cannot heal for 60 seconds. They can mend, but they can't use self-care. They can't use a med kit. I really love that add-on. Basically, what does that mean? That means they're going to be injured. And if they're injured, they're more likely to utilize a pallet. They're more likely to pallet stun me. They're more likely to give me something to allow me to build Play With Your Food Nemesis. So what does Corrupt Intervention do? Corrupt Intervention seals generators at the start of the trial. It'll seal the 3 furthest generators from my current location of where I spawned, and survivors cannot work on them for 120 seconds. The generator will glow white, and the entity's hand will be covering it, and survivors will see this, and they'll know they're not going to be able to work on it. Under no circumstances can a survivor work on that generator. Surge, what does it do? When I down a survivor, not hurt them or injure them, but put them into dying state, Surge will activate. When Surge activates, this basically allows me to cause all generators within not my heartbeat, but within 32 meters. All generators within 32 meters will instantly explode and regress 8%. This is very good for Legion because time management is important. You don't want to overcommit to how much time you're spending in trying to activate your ability, alright? You getting around the board using your ability, you still have to look at your hands for 4 seconds. That can be very hard to time manage efficiently, yeah? So saving time by having gens automatically regress, not having to run up to the platform and kick the gem with Pop Goes Weasel before going through the board, it's going to really help me in the long run, and it can play towards the 3-gen strat. It can also play towards slugging a guy under a generator if you think he has DS, and then run straight across the board rather than regressing his Jenny. I then have play with your food. You become obsessed with one survivor. Once you enter chase and end chase without putting the survivor into dying state, you can still hurt them. You can still use your special ability to hit them with the rubber knife and then make them have to mend because of the borrowed time effect. You can still do that. Once you M1 them, you will receive 5% movement speed. Yes, the 5% movement speed does stack with Feral Frenzy 130% movement speed. Therefore, if you had maximum stacks, you would be moving at 145%. If you swing and hit a target, it does count as a lethal hit. Therefore, you'll consume a stack. Be very careful with that. Keep these things in mind as well. The thing that makes this work really well with Legion is going for, this is what allows you to catch people at the jungle gyms off guard. Okay, you've got Nemesis. What is Nemesis? If you pallet stun me, if you blind me, if you decisive strike me, if you head on me, if you do any of these features, you then become the obsession. This means I do not have a heartbeat for that player for the next 60 seconds. They will still be within my heartbeat, but they won't be able to hear it, keeping that in mind. This also means they're my obsession, therefore when I look at them, I will be able to build a stack of play with your food as long as I don't put them in dying state. If I run up to him and I hit him with mend, or force the rubber knife effect of Feral Frenzy, and then run away, I'm running away at 135% movement speed, as opposed to running away at 130. I can then apply the lethality to a different person who hasn't healed, who's trying to apply pressure towards objectives. Now, I'm not saying this is the best Legion build. I'm saying this is the build that I recommend, that I run on Legion, that works really well against rank 1 survivors. Generally at rank 1, people are going to try and gen rush you and split pressure, and they're going to be mending right in your face based on the fact that when you cancel your ability, you can't do anything for 4 seconds. They can make it to a window, they can make it to a pallet, they're really comfortable. Legion is one of the weakest, if not weaker, killers in the game, in my personal opinion and experience of playing the game. What are honorable mentions? I do recommend Surge, but realistically, if you don't like the idea of Nemesis play with food, you can go Pop and Thrilling Tremor for the stability on gens. Try and keep everyone injured. Understand what pallets to respect, to break. You could run Enduring. I don't recommend that because a lot of Legions will either go for the pallet break or not. Some Legions like Bamboozled as well. That way they bamboozle a window. It allows them to vault faster with their ability active, M1 the survivor, and then run down the road, or, you know, force them to utilize the jungle gym with only the pallet at the disposal. So there are other things you can run, but like I said before, this is definitely what I recommend. They do have some interesting add-ons, Legion, but I'm not going to get into too many details. I'm not a Legion expert. But I do understand some of the movement speeds and how to play the killer decently to 4K for a vast majority of games. I will still get destroyed sometimes, especially if survivors know how to counter play with your food Nemesis by dropping pallets early. It might sound silly, but sometimes maps have an overwhelming amount of pallets, like a map such as The Mountain. Also, I wouldn't say the game, because you can hide your light moonwalk and force them to hit pallet stun you if you play correctly on that map. So do keep that in mind. But guys, that is going to be all for this educational video on Legion. I'll have more informative Legion content up on YouTube real soon of me running this exact build, so you're going to be able to see it in action. I'll do some with add-ons and some without add-ons, and you guys can see the difference. Also keep in mind, Legion, I wouldn't say is horrible on any map, but I wouldn't say they're great on any map. Obviously, they're going to excel on maps like The Game, as opposed to maps like Hattonfield, but they can still make pretty crazy comebacks, especially running this build based on the fact that people don't expect that additional 5% movement speed that you can punish them with. Because when you're versing Legion, because you know they can't catch you fast, you generally utilize jungle gyms much more than you normally would. Therefore, when you make crazy mind game plays, or you have that additional 5% movement speed people don't expect, you can really catch them out. Keeping in mind, your killer lunges based off your movement speed, with the exception. So if you notice Feral Frenzy, you might see Legion ages away and use Feral Frenzy and hit you. That's because he's lunging off a incredible movement speed. Normal M1s will be lunging off 115% movement speed, but with Play With Your Food, you lunge off 120% movement speed, which is enough lunge distance to catch somebody that dead-hearted in a straight line, just so you know. Something to keep in mind. Anyways, guys, that's all for the video. Make sure you hit that subscribe button for the YouTube algorithm and to support the stream. It'd be great to have you guys pop into the live stream where I stream DVD 5 days a week over on Twitch. It'd be good to have you in there. But guys, thank you all so much for watching the video. Stay safe, stay awesome. And let me know in the comments down below, what Legion build do you run? Do you think Legion is weaker than Clown? Do you think Clown is stronger? Let me know. It's very interesting to see what a lot of you guys think. And let me know your opinion behind the reason. Anyways, guys, take care, be safe, be awesome, and I'll see you in the next video. Alrighty guys, and welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at an educational, informative, quick guide onto Michael Myers. Now keep in mind, all my guides are based off no add-ons, rank 1 gameplay, and versing 4-man pre-made. So without further ado, let's jump in and straight look at Michael Myers. Now firstly, quick of all, recap on Michael Myers' abilities. Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3, right? To build your Rage, or to build your Evil Within, as it's called, you need to hold the right mouse button, therefore your right click, also known as your M2. You'll be stalking a survivor. A lot of people don't know, but unlike Ghostface, Ghostface stalks based on what he is doing, whether he's leaning or standing in the open. 5 seconds standing in the open, 2.5 leaning. Doesn't matter how far away the target is. Michael Myers is different. The closer the target that Michael Myers is stalking, the faster he will drain. If 2 targets are beside each other, whichever one's closer will be stalked. He cannot stalk multiple targets at a time, keeping that in mind. The closer they are, the faster you stalk. The further away, the slower you stalk. Every survivor has a certain limit to how much stalk they can give him. Now, keeping in mind, once he levels up from Tier 1 to Tier 2, he cannot level down, unlike the Doctor's Madness, but he can level to Tier 3 for a 60-second powerhouse benefit, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Tier 1 Michael Myers moves at 105% movement speed, giving him the slowest movement speed bar the Nurse at 96.5% movement speed, and the smallest lunge in the game with an M1. Therefore, it can be enhanced with an add-on called the Boyfriend Memo, which you'll see a lot of Scratch Mirror Myers using too, but we won't go into details about that. He has a 0-meter heartbeat, an 8-meter heartbeat while he is in chase with the survivor as well. Therefore, if somebody's stationary and not running, you're not in chase. Therefore, you'll have a 0-meter heartbeat. He has very loud breathing and very loud footsteps. That's how you're going to be able to track him. Now, this being said, Tier 1 allows him to walk around at 105% movement speed and try and go for a grab or an M1. He needs to stalk to get out of Tier 1. There are certain add-ons that'll prevent him from getting to Tier 3 and to Tier 2 based on you running a Vanity Mirror or a Scratched Mirror. Depends on what you are choosing to run if you're running add-ons, but we're not talking about the add-ons. Once you stalk the survivors for the right period of time, you will then hear a ringing of a bell that it won't be a bell, but it will just be the indicator that you have leveled up. Once your evil levels up, your heartbeat goes up to your heartbeat goes up to 16 meters. You will also have a longer lunge. You'll have the exact same lunge as any 115% movement speed killer, and you'll be moving at 115% movement speed killer. I just want to quickly point out that the Trapper moves at 115% movement speed. Michael Myers in Tier 2, which will be a permanent buff for him when he gets out of Tier 1, he moves at 115% movement speed. The Trapper has a 32-meter tear radius. Michael Myers has a 16-meter tear radius. Michael Myers' heartbeat is half the size of the Trapper, and he can have it lowered as well. So let's have a quick look at something else too. While Myers is in Tier 2, he has a 16-meter heartbeat. When he tears up to Tier 3, his heartbeat will then go up to 32 meters. While his heartbeat is in 32, he will be holding his weapon upside down. So the blade, it'll be a very easy to indicator. You'll hear the Tier 3 music. This means he has his full potential and he has his highest buff. What is going to happen now? He's going to vault windows at a 10% faster movement speed. He's also going to be able to lunge at the furthest range in the entire game. He will do 115% movement speed lunge, then you'll hear a whoosh, and at the end of that, he'll go an extra couple of inches, because every guy wants an extra couple of inches when they play Michael Myers. Now, keeping that in mind, he only has Tier 3 for 60 seconds. Unlike the Plague, who has Tier 3 for her special ability, her Corrupt Var, for 60 seconds. When she's pallet stunned, she loses her ability. Michael Myers, when he's pallet stunned, doesn't lose his ability. He also has add-ons that'll allow him to keep his ability up for a longer period of time, if not permanently, if he's going to be running the Tuft of Hair, for example, with the J Memorial for faster drain, depending on if you're choosing to use add-ons. But let's have a look at the build. Now, like always, I follow the same principles on my build. I have a Gen Protection perk, I have a Situational Awareness perk, I have a Stall perk, and I have a Utility perk. For this video, we're going to be having Corrupt Intervention. You'll notice I use it quite often on slow killers, based on the fact that I want to get out of stage 1 as quickly as possible, and into stage 2, I want to have the stall. Realistically, in 120 seconds, in that time, if I can get out of tier 2 and break 3 pallets or get 2 hits, it's a worth it trade for me personally. Okay, so that's going to allow me to move around the board, seal far away generators, forcing people to funnel closer to me, allowing me to get my prep quicker, and I might be able to commit to that chase to get it. Keeping in mind, while you're a stage 1 Michael Myers, you cannot build Bloodlust. The next perk we've got here is called Thrilling Tremor. Thrilling Tremor is integratable with Barbecue. I just find that information is very powerful, knowing that the meta is currently Gen Rush, so Thrilling Tremor, stalling out certain generators for 16 seconds where a survivor cannot work on it, is very informative and very good for me as well. So therefore, when I down a survivor and pick him up and take him to a hook, any generator not glowing white means the survivor is currently working on it, or... well, that's all it means. The survivor is currently working on it. Therefore, I'll know how many Jennies are being worked on. I'll know where I need to go with my Pop Goes the Weasel. I won't have as much information as I would if I had Discordance, but still, I can rotate throughout the board. But keeping in mind, I have a 16 meter heartbeat. You can react to 16 meters. But if we look at this last perk is called Modern Abuse. This is an S perk of Michael Myers. He has a 16 meter heartbeat in tier 2. This reduces his heartbeat by 8 meters. He can run an additional add-on, which will reduce it by an additional 25% as well, the Rabbit, and that is going to make him have a 6 meter heartbeat. But at 8 and a 6 meter, moving at 115%, it's not really that much of a difference for you. For 2 meters, it's not worth your bang for your buck unless you were not running Modern Abuse. You're better off looking at an alternative. Now, realistically, you could replace Modern Abuse with a perk called Nemesis, and then you could be running double Stalk add-ons depending on how you want it to play. You've got things over here like the J Memorial alongside this one here, the Judith. Now, the Judith means you are obsessed with one survivor. Remember, my builds are based off no add-ons, but if I wanted to run add-ons, this makes me obsessed with one survivor. You considerably stalk them faster, therefore you will get out of your tier 1, you'll get your tier 2 prep for your tier 3 ready, available. It makes it very fast, and this will allow me to drain. They both stack together, and if I were to run a perk called Nemesis, in case people don't know what that means, when you're pallet stunned, when you're blind, when you're decisive strikes, whatever happens, you can now, that person becomes your obsession, so you can change your obsession throughout the trial, allowing you to get your tier 3 at a wickedly fast rate. It can be scary and disgusting how fast you build at that in Rage, and people will be very intimidated about it. Now, we're not here to talk about the add-ons though, guys. There are a lot of great add-ons in Myers. We're here to talk more about the build. So we have our pop for stability on generators, keeping in mind it's going to regress 25% of what is completed. Jenny takes 80 seconds. If the generator is completed 99.9%, therefore 79 seconds of a generator, and we get the regression on that, we're going to be look at regressing that Jenny from 79.9 seconds by 20 seconds, and then it will start at the regression rate of, by default, which will be 0.3% per second, as opposed to Ruin, which is 0.6. You cannot have Ruin and Pop, and then kick a Jenny with Pop, based on the fact that Ruin is always active, and if a survivor lets go of Generator, and you went to pop it, the Generator would automatically regress through Ruin. However, if a survivor is working on a generator and you down another survivor with Surge, the 8% regression will explode the generator, forcing that survivor off, and then Ruin will take effect. So you can make that work as well as a combo. Now, this perk can be integrated with Discordance. If you notice something I said earlier in the video, while Michael Myers is in his final form, his tier 3, while he has his knife, or his, in this case, his pipe upside down, he has a 10% window vault benefit. He also has the longest lunge in the game. Based on these kind of things, there's a perk called Bamboozled. Now, Bamboozled is a bit of a hidden gem on Michael Myers when you know how to use it properly. This is going to allow him to vault 15% quicker. 15 plus 10% means I'm going to vault a window 25% faster in tier 3. I will go through that window almost instantly. Now, I could run Fired Up as well to make it faster, but you don't need to. Anyone who's making it through that window, as long as they don't have life, you're going to be able to walk right through the window and catch them. It's as if you don't even take a step through the window. You pretty much go right through it. You'll be very fast, and the window will be sealed, and a survivor won't be able to use it. So this here, as a utility perk, you can decide between Modern Abuse and Bamboozled at your own leisure, what you prefer and what you think is going to better benefit and work for your direction. There are a lot of choices on Michael Myers, keeping in mind this is an 8 meter Michael Myers heartbeat build based off no add-ons in the red ranks. If I'm in an open map like Blood Lodge or the gas station, it's not going to be great having a small heartbeat because they're going to see me a mile away, but if I'm in indoor maps like Larry's, The Game, Hawkins, it's going to put me in a massively good situation based on if you're going to choose to use an add-on or an offering to take you to that area, or if you're going to go off RNG. Monitor can be a bit of a double-edged sword. At the end of the day, it still helps you regardless, but you could get more value out of this perk slot for something else. Keeping in mind, Nurse's Calling is 28 meters, and you have a 16 meter heartbeat by default. If you were to have Modern Abuse and Nurses, you're now going to be looking at having, like I said before, an 8 meter heartbeat, and you could see them healing 28 meters away. Therefore, you have a 20 meter no heartbeat range. And when I say your heartbeat is 8 meters, I mean the slightest bit of a heartbeat, or the smallest bit of a heartbeat activates at 8 meters. But then the music ramps up real quick. Much like if a trapper was to be approaching you from 32 yards away, you'd hear his heartbeat gradually get louder. It's the exact same thing as Myers, but instead of getting gradually louder, it gets louder a lot faster because he's coming around the corner at a wicked speed. Now, you could run Play With Your Food, you could run Save the Best for Last, you could run Sloppy Butcher. There are a lot of options. Make your choice if you wanted to go back to the hook, but this is what I have the most success with based on the meta we're currently in, with people running around injured, working on generators. I have the stability on terms of at the beginning of the game, therefore I can get out of my tier 1. I have Thrilling Tremor, which is going to allow me to build up my build. It's going to allow me to know where I need to go throughout the trial after I hook or down a survivor. If I down a guy and then I see multiple Jennies being worked on, there's nothing stopping me from dropping that guy off my shoulder and going across there and leaving him as a slug right now, especially if I think he has DF. And if I did down him, and for whatever reason I was still chasing him, and then Thrilling Tremors off cooldown, and I down him again, I can pick him up, and if he DS's me, it's not the worst thing in the world, because then I have information through Thrilling Tremor, all the Jennies are sealed, and then I can still rotate off it. It's not the best play, but you can still work around it. There's another reason why I prefer Thrill. You can't counter Thrill, but you can counter Barbecue by getting it a locker, running Distortion. There's quite a few ways to counter Barbecue, get close enough. You can't counter Thrill. You let go of the Jenny for 16 seconds, well, you're doing nothing for 16 seconds, therefore it's countering you. You might have 99 to gen, but still, it's still taking effect, the perk, if that makes sense. Anyways, guys, that's going to be all for this week's video on Michael Myers. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This is my educational build, what I choose to run, and what I choose to have a lot of fun with when playing Myers. Let me know in the comments below what you guys enjoy, and keeping in mind, this is my build based off no add-ons and no offerings in the red ranks, trying to go for those juicy 4Ks, guys. But take care, be awesome, be safe, and make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video, and pop into the live streams where I stream DBD 5 days a week. Alrighty guys, and welcome back on in. We're going to be doing another informative video based on the build I recommend for the current killer, which you can see as the nurse based off as well, no add-ons and rank 1 gameplay. Now you'll notice it says I'm rank 4 in the top left hand corner or the top right hand corner. That is based on the fact that rank did just reset not too long ago and I haven't had the time to play through the games. But anyways, without further ado, let's have a look at the build. Remember guys, it's based off no add-ons and consistency on every map. The first perk is going to be Corrupt Intervention. What does this do? For 120 seconds in the trial, the furthest 3 generators away from me where I spawn will seal white. I'll know which generators are sealed white because they will be white. The other Jennies will be that reddy orange color. The entity's claws will then cover the generator. Therefore, a survivor knows they can't work on it for the period of time. Next perk I have is Barbecue and Chili. Barbecue and Chili is going to give me mass information when I down a survivor and I hook him of where his teammates are, providing they're outside of 40 meters of the hook, allowing me to know where to go for my stability on the generators. You'll also notice I have a perk called Surge. Surge is all about when you down a survivor with an M1, based on the fact that Nurse can only hurt people with M1s. It's great for her. When you down a survivor, it'll regress all nearby Jennies within a 32 meter tear radius around her. It has a 40-second cooldown, and Surveillance works with the regression from Surge. Therefore, the generators I regress will be glowing white based on the information provided through Surveillance. I can also walk up to a Jenny and press the spacebar key to have a generator regress by default at 0.3% per second and be glowing white as well. Now, why do I take these perks on Nurse? Now, yes, you could be looking at a lethality Nurse build with Make Your Choice, Haunted Ground, these kind of things. You can look at Thrilling Tremor to steal and stall out the game, Devour Hope, Agitation, Sloppy Butcher. There's actually a lot of really good perks on the table for the Nurse, but you wouldn't believe the amount of times I've gone against really good survivors, and this has allowed me to come back and snowball. Not many people expect Surveillance and Surge on a Nurse based on the fact that most people, if you're going to run into like a random encounter on Nurse, they might be running Ruin, but you don't normally see a lot of Nurses run Surveillance too. Barbecue is pretty common. They'll see Corrupt from the start, but these two are my hidden aces at the end of the game. For all they know, if they put it together with Surge and Surveillance, it's fine, but at the same time, it'll allow me to rotate really easy and efficiently between a 3-gen if I had it at the late game, and it also allows me to play far away from generators as well. If I down somebody in the corner of the map and I hook him and his gen's nearly done, I don't have to walk over and kick it. I can just go right across the board based on the fact Surge, and if there was, 2 Jennies around and I just downed one, I'll look around, see if anyone touched any of the Jennies. They'll be glowing white. Remember, if they touch them, they'll be glowing yellow. Then I can blink straight to them, try and get a pressure M1 out, hook the other guy, cause regression. It just depends on what is happening. I find this build works very efficient and very well as Nurse on any map I've played on. I've played on Red Forest, I've played on Haddonfield, I've played on maps like the game. Regardless of the size of the map, I've had a lot of success. The only map I haven't played this build on is actually Hawkins. Now, Hawkins is just a very hard map default for the nurse, but I think I'd have a lot of success with it based on the line of sight blocking, and I'll be able to go for those long 18-meter blinks for 2-second charges through walls and both up and down the platforms as well to catch people off guard that aren't expecting me to have surgeon surveillance. But guys, that's going to be it for the video. I know it was a really short and sweet one, but this is what I highly recommend on the nurse. And if you guys want to have a little bit of look at some live educational nurse content, make sure you pop into the streams where I stream Dead by Daylight 5 days a week. It'd be great to have you guys on in here, and I will see you in the next video. And make sure you hit that subscribe button, because we do educational DVD content live here on Twitch. So guys, take care, be awesome, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you, chat. Alrighty guys, and welcome back in. Today we're going to be looking at an educational informative plague build that I highly recommend. I have got a lot of experience running this build, and I can comfortably say it is not, if not the best plague build, one of the best. There are a couple of things that could be changed, guys, but like before, we're going to quickly call over, am I following the 4 principles of perks? Do I have gen protection? Do I have situational awareness? Do I have stall? And do I have an optionable perk? I highly do. Everything, I fall under every single category. Now let's get straight into it. But before we do that, guys, make sure you hit the subscribe button for more educational survivor and killer content. It'd be great to see you guys popping into the live streams where I stream DVD on Twitch 5 days a week. But guys, let's jump straight into it. What are we looking at? We have Corrupt Intervention. Now you're probably sick of me explaining this by now, but let's get into it. What does Corrupt Intervention do? It seals the 3 furthest generators. Generators? It seals the furthest 3 generators away from your location and spawn. Basically, the entity's hand will come over the generator and they'll be sealed for 120 seconds. They will be glowing white, therefore you'll be able to know that there's no survivors able to work on that generator during this period of time, regardless. You'll also be able to look in the bottom left or bottom right hand side of the screen, and that'll show you how much longer is left on this perk. Therefore, you know what you can get done in 120 seconds. Now, the Plague's ability is a little bit of a combo, right? There's a couple of things to note. When you spawn as the Plague, you're going to have a couple of wells throughout the board, right? I think there's about 6 wells. I don't know the 100% how many there are. You're also going to start with 1 corrupt well, okay? A corrupt well will have a red glow, and it'll be like a blacky red water. Every other well will just be a normal, like, waterfall looking well. It'll look nice and presentable. Your ability is pretty gross. You vomit. So you pull your head back and you channel a vomit, and you vomit on a survivor. When you vomit on a survivor, they will be making a cough sound that they're sick. This counters iron will. This counters calm spirits. It counters all form of quietness that a survivor can do. However, you can contaminate things. If something is contaminated and a survivor touches it, they then become sick. You can contaminate totems. You can contaminate lockers, windows, pallets, survivors. You can contaminate all kinds of things, right? More people that are sick, the bigger the penalty that happens. While a survivor is becoming sick, there is a waiting period. Survivor can see how close they are to being sick, but you cannot. A Plague can channel a large amount of vomit. She suffers a movement speed penalty, and then she can shoot it out. When you're playing Plague and you're trying to shoot directly in front of you, you need to aim at a 45-degree angle behind, generally to shoot in front. It's a little off, but it depends on how you're moving your character as well. While you are vomiting, you are still an entity. Therefore, there is collision. Michael Myers stalking has no collision, therefore he can't body block you in a corner stalking, get tier 3. If you, for whatever reason, have caught a survivor in between a window and they can't vault, you can full channel your vomit. The more vomit you get on a survivor, the faster they're going to become sick. When a survivor is sick, not infected, but sick, so the bar has gone all the way around, they are permanently injured for the remainder of the trial. Unless... So while they are sick, they'll be periodically vomiting, right? They'll be making a real loud vomit sound. You can hear it a mile away as killer, okay? When a survivor is sick, they will become when they're infected, they become sick. They can now cleanse at a well. If they put their hands in the well and wash their face off, it takes a couple of seconds. The killer will get a sound indicator, and a well will now become available for the killer. The killer can walk up to the well, and when they press spacebar on the well, they're going to put their hand in it, and the Plague, kind of takes the well's evilness or the well's sickness, and she becomes stronger. Now, what this means is every survivor on the board will hear a power-up sound. That means the Plague has become stronger. The Plague does not have a powered down sound. You do not know when her power expires. unless you're looking at her. Looking at her, she'll have red orbs glowing around her, so you'll know she's empowered. When she vomits, rather than making a survivor sick, it will hurt a survivor. Much like a throwing axe from the Huntress. She can become a sprinkler and shoot down layers of it and hurt multiple survivors at once. She is empowered for 1 minute, right? Very powerful. However, if a survivor pallet stuns you, you instantly lose your ability. That's the con. The other con is you need to get survivors to cleanse at wells. If they don't cleanse, they're running around the entire trial injured. It means you can one-hit down them. Now, unfortunately, the Plague is 550 feet tall. I'm a little dramatic there. She's tall, so she can be seen over a lot of jungle gyms, so hiding your light moonwalk doesn't work as effectively as it would, for example, on the pig. Can still be used well if you can force a survivor to hesitate. Back on track. I have Discordance. Discordance is going to allow me to know where multiple people are grouping up. I have Corrupt Intervention to seal the 3 furthest away generators, funneling people together. If I vomit on a generator, the generator is now infected for the next 20 or so seconds. If a survivor touches that, they will now become sick. A sick survivor can work with a non-sick survivor. When a survivor starts vomiting, if they're continuing to work with another player, he will infect the other player. If I downed a survivor by M1ing them, or whatever means, as long as I do not have the power-up active. So how do you know if the power-up is active or not? You can look in the bottom left and there'll be a timer going around, much like Michael Myers. If the timer isn't going around, you can vomit on the person, infecting them. When you pick them up and put them on the hook, they're infected. Anyone who comes and saves a fully infected survivor will be able to become sick as well. So the more sick people, the stronger you will become. Because if they cleanse, you get a benefit if you use the well for the 1 minute power up. If they don't cleanse, they're one hit down. So there's good and bad. Good survivors will split pressure and work in different areas and punish you. Bad survivors will just use all the wells. If every well is used as the Plague, you will receive 1 power up for 1 minute. That is bad. You will lose all these wells. As opposed to going around individually activating the wells, you would have 5 power ups for 5 minutes rather than 1 minute. So you don't want every well sitting there. You want to use the wells, I don't want to say as quickly as possible, but when you see a good opportunity throughout the trial. Remember, that's the difference between your vomit hurting a survivor and your vomit making them sick. If they're sick, it doesn't hurt them. Remember, you still have to M1 them. If they're broken status, then you can 1-hit down them as opposed to 2-hit down them. But if you have your power up, you can just 1-hit them down. It's hard to explain, but in practicality and seeing it, it's actually really fun. I went through a long stage of being a Plague main. I had a great time, and I had the most success with this build. It hasn't changed. The only perk I'd look at changing would be the next one. Pop goes the Weasel. When I have downed a survivor and put them on the hook, the next generator I kick or regress will be regressed 25% of what is done. Generator takes 80 seconds to be completed. Therefore, if I regress a generator at 99.9% completed, it'll go back 20 seconds and then start regressing at 0.3% per second. Right? Very powerful. I would look at substituting Pop with Surge. That way I can snowball with my utility perk. What is my utility perk? Infectious Fright. This means whenever I down a survivor by any means, whenever I down a survivor, anyone within my terror radius, not the down survivor, much like the Huntress. If a Huntress cross-maps and downs a Jake, it's off her terror radius around her, which would be 24 meters. The Plague has a 32-meter terror radius. So if I just vomited it on a guy with my Corrupt Vial, so my power up for 1 minute, and I downed him through the shack, any survivor around me within 32 meters that isn't in a locker will scream. Even in a locker, you scream, but if you're not in the locker, you will scream and leave a speech bubble above your head where you currently were at that time, allowing me to snowball, which means go for a win in the current situation that has presented itself. That is why I like Infectious Fright. That perk is there to punish the people that don't cleanse at wells. That way I can snowball off them a lot easier and more efficient and effective than I would be able to if I didn't have it. I could replace this perk with a lot of different options. I just find that this build here gives me the most success by far. Now, a lot of people would say, Thanatophobia, Goose, and I would say, shh. Alright? Thanatophobia gives you a benefit the more players that are injured. Alright? Thanatophobia gives you 4% per injured player. 4% of 80 seconds on a generator. That's 0.8% per second, right? So it's 0.8. 0.8 times 2 is 1.6. 1.6 times 2 is 3.2. At one person injured, it's going to take 3.2 seconds additional for a generator to complete itself. It might seem like a lot, but it really isn't. Thanatophobia is a wasted slot, and I do not recommend it at all on any killer, let alone Plague. It is by far one of the best choices you could run based on her kit, but at the same time, the numbers are not large enough for you to be able to get a benefit. Whether you're stacking Thanatophobia and Dying Light, it just doesn't add up enough. The time you've got all the stacks ramped up, you've lost 2 or 3 gens, and you don't have a good late game, right? Keeping in mind that I can come to generators that I think I know players are stacked on, if they're not sick, vomit on it and just leave. I don't have to look for them during the leave. I'll just vomit on the Jenny. I'll even walk up. I'll vomit on the Jenny, I'll regress the Jenny, and I'll just walk away. They have to make a decision. Do they want to become sick and become weaker throughout the trial, or do they want to outweight it while it's regressing at 0.3% per second for 25 seconds or so while I apply pressure elsewhere? So you got to keep these kind of things in mind. There are different things you can run. You can run Barbecue. You can run Enduring Spirits Fury, I've seen. You can run Bamboozled. I do recommend this build. Like I said, I can stand by it. I've used it in a lot of games, and I was a Plague main for quite a long period of time that a lot of you guys will know, and this is the build I went to based on the fact it has no luck dependency. This build is about how well you can play. If you can play really well, it'll work well. It also depends on map to a degree, but I have Corrupt Intervention to counter that, therefore I'm not relying on the stability luck bonus that I would from Ruin, because it's based off. If I got a map like the game, well, I don't need 4 perks. The other 3 perks will allow me to snowball win the game, but I'll still have it at the beginning of the trial. Honorable mentions for add-ons is going to be Rubbing Oil. Everybody loves a bit of rubbing oil, but rubbing oil is going to allow you to channel your vomit a lot faster. So you'll go, and rather than having to wait that 2.2, 2.5 seconds for the full channel of vomit, you can get it straight away. You can pretty much get the whole load and just... Moving on. Right. Something else I want to point out. If a survivor is looping you at a pallet, you just had to put a little bit of vomit. Rather than channeling all of it, you can go 0.5 seconds, put a little bit of vomit on the pallet, and keep running through the pallet until he interacts with the pallet. If he pulls the pallet down and stuns you, he becomes sick. You then know that in a couple of, well, in a few minutes from, oh, not minutes, but, you know, in like 40 seconds or so, he's going to be sick. You can then break the pallet and leave, or choose to chase him. Rather than running around and trying to vomit on him, vomit on the pallet, vomit on the window, tiny bits of vomit, then chase him. And you want to know what he's going to do? He's going to bait the pallet. He's going to run to the other end of the pallet, wait at it, make it look like, and then go for a lap. So what do? You walk right through the pallet with your face pulled back, and you're ready to channel the entire load of vomit straight onto him, right? Keeping in mind, you can infect every player. The more players infected, the stronger you become. Plague is a very fun killer, and you want to know something? She has a really low pick rate. In my opinion, I barely ever verse a Plague. She also has some really good add-ons too. For example, when a survivor vomits because they're fully sick, you can see their aura for 5 seconds. You see their aura. It doesn't matter if they're across the board. If you're vomiting in a locker, you have your aura blocked, obviously. But no matter where they are in the trial, you're going to be able to see them. They periodically vomit every 15 seconds or so. You're going to fucking see people glowing like Christmas trees all around the board. It's going to be great. I don't recommend the seal too much, but she has some fantastic choices. You can have apples as well to start with more corrupt wells if you wanted more power-ups at the start. That way you can get one right at the beginning. But guys, give her a go. She's a very fun killer. She comes into the game with 2 phenomenal teachables, Corrupt Intervention and Infectious Fright. And do you want to know something? Dark Devotion isn't bad and can be fun to use as well. Not the best perk, but still a really fun perk. I think she's hard, not intermediate. I know that she's very tall. She's moving at 115 at a 32 meter terror radius. I don't recommend Modern Abuse, but I like Infectious to be able to snowball for the right opportunities if they do present themselves. But anyways, guys, let me know what you run on the Plague. What do you guys think's fun? Do you think she's a fun killer? Do you think she's balanced? Do you verse Plagues quite often? What perks do you think are really good on her? How do you feel about Thanatophobia on the Plague? Let us know all these answers in the comments down below, guys. Thank you all for watching. Make sure you pop in and hit that subscribe button right here on YouTube, or you pop into the live streams where I stream DBD 5 days a week doing live educational survivor and killer content if you want to learn a little bit more about each killer and each survivor builds. It'd be great to have you in there, guys. Guys, take care. Have a great day. And I will see you in the next video. Alrighty guys, and welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at my build that I run on the Spirit. Now it's a little different to some people's, but I'll walk you through it right now real quick. I just want to quickly point out that does my build follow the 4 basic principles that we're always talking about? Do I have a gen protection perk? Do I have situational awareness? Do I have a stall? And do I have a utility perk? Well, I can tell you I have 3 of the 4 perks. This first perk here, I'm currently running Haunted Ground. What does Haunted Ground do? Well, basically this means when a survivor breaks a totem that is lit, that is Haunted Ground, there are going to be 2 totems that are traps. When one breaks, both of them are counted as being consumed, even though the other totem will be a dull and can be relit through NOED, but I won't go into details about that. This means all my attacks that I do that are not special attacks, therefore M1s, will be an instant down and an instant 2 points of damage unless the person has borrowed time. They will go into dying state, or Metal of Man. Metal of Man will stop them too. Very strong perk. I run that in conjunction with a perk called Devour Hope. What does Devour Hope do? Devour Hope is when I hook a survivor, if I'm outside of 24 meters and that survivor is saved, I then receive a token. At 2 tokens, I get 5% movement speed for 10 seconds after hooking a survivor. At 3 tokens, all my attacks will put a survivor into dying state that are not with my special ability. Therefore, a Huntress will not receive it on her projectiles. Only her M1s will receive it. I wouldn't recommend Devour Hope on the Huntress. And then at 5 tokens, I'm going to be able to Mori a survivor on the spot, regardless of whether they've been hooked or not. Keeping in mind, each time you hook a survivor and they're saved when you're outside of 24 meters, that will count towards a token. Now, a lot of people don't understand what I'm about to say here, so I want to make sure you guys know this. Your heartbeat is based off your actual body. Now, what is a spirit's ability? Alright? She can enter a different realm and activate phasing. She will stand there and do this ability. Her shoulder will glow in terms of these little shards. It's very hard to note though. It'll take 2.5 seconds. When it activates, she cannot see survivors anymore. She can see crows, she can see the grass move, and she can still hear. She doesn't see survivors. She doesn't see blood unless she's running add-ons as well, which I believe are the farthest glasses. But it takes her 2.5 seconds to activate. She now runs at 176% movement speed. That's right. She goes from 110 by default at a 24 meter terror radius to 176% after activating her ability for 2.5 seconds. She then receives a massive lunge coming out of letting go of her ability. She can activate her ability for 5 seconds, and then she can't activate her ability for 12 seconds. She can only activate her ability when it is fully charged. Okay, so if she phases by activating her ability and runs around and uses about 3/4 of it, you cannot use it again. Much like Legion's Feral Frenzy, you have to wait until it's fully charged before you can use it. Now, keeping in mind, the whole reason I'm bringing this up is if you hook Jeff, you see somebody on barbecue and chili, you start phasing and going across the board. If a survivor unhooks while your husk is still there, you will not get a stack of Devour Hope. What is your husk? Well, when you activate phasing, your body stays somewhere, but a little ghost that the survivor can't see leaves the body. Your husk is still counting as a body, therefore a survivor cannot move through you. The second you let go of your ability, the body disappears and appears where you were. So it's just an empty shell while your spirit moves around, therefore known as the spirit. Okay? I want to point out the spirit is better worked when she uses her ability in small doses, right? 2.5 seconds to activate by default. If you use about 0.5 seconds worth, you can do a crazy lunge and bait down or force down a pallet really early. I see a lot of spirits use their entire ability and stand there waiting, pretending to phase. Remember, when you activate your ability for that 2.5 seconds of activation, survivors are invisible to you. You can't see them. You can hear them, you can see the scratch marks, and that's all. You can see them run through grass, set off a crow, these kind of indicators. You can't see them on nurses calling, can't see them through barbecue and chili, can't see them through object. All that is not revealed. So you need to be smart about your movement. A lot of high-skilled spirits will do this play. They will look one way, and then they'll phase the other way. They'll make sure their husk is facing this way, because the husk never moves, and then they'll run this way. That way, if you're running a jungle gym, and I'm looking this way, I'm probably going to do a crazy loop around. You don't have to hide your light because your light's coming out of your corpse, your husk, right? She's a complicated killer to explain. She's easy to play. She has a high skill gap, and she, in my personal opinion, is the strongest killer in Dead by Daylight with add-ons. Without add-ons, I'd say Nurse is the strongest killer, even though the Spirit doesn't have a bad map. The Spirit on Liar's Institute isn't a great map for her, but she could still make it work. The Nurse on Liar's Institute is a test of how skillful you are at the killer. Very hard, but you can still make a comeback. If you have things like Infectious Fright, it'll help you out a lot. Keeping in mind, the Spirit has no form of lethality, so she can't instant down. That's why I've got Make Your Choice and Devour Hope. I could not Make Your Choice, sorry. I have Haunted Ground and Devour Hope. I could replace Devour Hope for Make Your Choice for the consistency, as I have 3 totem perks here. 3 out of 5 totems will be lit. Chances of them all staying up, very slim. I have Thrilling Tremor. Thrilling Tremor will allow me, when I've downed a survivor, to pick him up. Every generator that doesn't have a player on it will have the entity's hands going around it, and it will be glowing white. This being said, any generator not glowing white means the survivor's on it. Then if I hook Jeff, I can activate my ability and go through the board. When playing the Spirit, at the start of the game, trying to find a survivor, I recommend, if you are going to use your ability, make sure you use it into an area where you have a field of view. That way you can see, maybe you used it to a hill for information, look for a scratch, see a scratch on that tree, what do you see to your right while you're going towards that? Use information, generally a height advantage, or if an open area is where you should be phasing to. Alright, a lot of survivors will double back on their scratch marks. Remember, like I said, if they're running Iron Will, you can't hear them cry unless you're running the S++ tier perk on Spirit. That is called Strider. I'll explain that in a moment for you. A lot of survivors will run, and then they'll walk backwards on their scratch marks, and you will phase right through them. There is no collision through phasing. If David's standing in a doorway and you're in your spirit form, you can go right through David. You used to not be able to, but now you can. So you can go right over him. You need to be listening for his breathing, for his running footsteps, for the cry of pain. Is he walking over or running over wooden floorboards, dirt, pavement, cement, concrete, snow? What is he on? Did you hear him inhale? That means he got in a locker. Did you hear it above you to the left-hand side? He got in a locker on the wooden floorboards above you. Did you hear him exhale? He got out of a locker above you to the right-hand side or below you to the left-hand side, and he's on concrete. Sound is your best friend as a spirit. Therefore, her best perk in the game isn't even in my build. Right? So I recommend Haunted Ground, Devour Hope, Pop, and Thrill. I've got a lot of experience as a killer, and I find this gives me a fun time and a really good experience when I play her. Right? She can be hard to verse, and as you can see, I don't have many perks on her, but I do have generally what people would refer to as the meta and her strongest build. You'll notice on screen right now, this is it. Right? Corrupt Intervention is going to seal the 3 furthest away generators, therefore you're going to get good value out of the fact that you're moving around at 110% movement speed, and you're going to funnel people together. Barbecue and Chili is going to give you information on where targets are, so you can phase straight to them or straight to an objective, but can be countered through lockers or being close, or even a perk called Distortion. But Pop Goes the Weasel stays there for the consistency of regressions gen. You could put on Surge, but I do highly recommend Pop based on the catching potential on the killer. And then you have Strider. Strider is a perk that counters Iron Will. Iron Will is a survivor perk by Jake, unlocked at level 30, and that means you no longer cry while in pain. You will still cry in dying state, you'll still cry on the hook, but when you are injured, you do not cry. Strider means you cry and you can be heard. Keeping this in mind, your breathing is 25% louder, your cry of pain is 50% quieter, but still there, still really easy to read. As a spirit running Strider, if the survivor doesn't have Iron Will, you'll have to phase that extra second longer until you're right up behind them. A lot of people come out a tiny bit short because they don't account for Strider as well. It is by far, like I said, an S++ perk on her. Her best perk in the game. I don't generally run it as much. This would be my go-to build on Spirit if I were to choose to use add-ons. Now, Spirit has some of the best variety of add-ons in Dead by Daylight. She has add-ons to allow her to activate her ability faster. Instead of 2.5 seconds, she has the bloody hair brooch and the hair ribbon right there. Do they stack together? You bet your bottom dollar they do. Now she'll activate her ability in about 1.5 seconds. So you know how she's normally standing still, baiting the face? She's going to go boom, straight around and flick hit you. Very quick. Very powerful, very punishing. Do you need to run both of them? No. So you've got activation add-ons, you've got duration add-ons, they last longer, you've got recovery add-ons, you've got movement speed add-ons, you've got so many good options as a spirit. This is why I put her as the best killer when incorporating add-ons. For example, this add-on here and this add-on here. Movement speed and movement speed. Wait, sorry. That allows you to track blood, but you can no longer see scratch marks. While tracking blood, if you're running something like a Wraith Teachable, oh my god, I can't even think of what the perk is called. I can't even think of what the Wraith, I think it's called Predator. No, it's not Predator. Predator will funnel together the scratch mark. It's called Bloodhound. Bloodhound will mean the scratch marks are going, not the scratch mark, the blood is going to be glowing bright pink. Bright pink. You're going to be able to see it a mile away no matter what surface it's on. And if you're running Sloppy Butcher, that's even better for training wheels to show you. If you run Father's Glasses and the Mother's Dwelling, you're now going to be moving at an insane movement speed. You're going to be able to track blood but not scratch marks. Remember, if a survivor is not injured, they're not bleeding. If they are injured, there is only a few perks in the game, like Off the Record, that can stop them from Leaving Blood. There is another one also unlocked by Yui as well, but not many people will be running those. If you choose to run this and this, you have the fastest movement speed in the game, but the Demogorgon. Demogorgon Shred comes in at a whopping 460% movement speed with this shred. 420. I think it's 420% movement speed. This here will allow you to move well over 300% movement speed. Faster than a Billy running Doom and Death Engravings. Faster than Oni as well. Keeping in mind, you're going to be phenomenally fast. If they're injured, you're going to hear them through Strider. You can close distance regardless. This here is her best add-on she could ever have in the game. With Barbecue, you see auras for 4 seconds, you'll look at the aura, you'll activate your ability, you'll be on them before the 4 seconds is up. You just need to know where they were. This gives you phenomenal movement speed. But, like I said before, she has honorable mentions. You've also got the Amulet, which is going to allow you tremendously increase the duration. Remember, it lasts longer, but you can only activate it when the ability is full. Therefore, double-edged sword. Slightly decrease the movement speed, so you'll take a penalty to it as well. Like I said, there are a lot of great add-ons. You also have this one here, which allows you to have a tremendous lunge while you come out of your phasing. That does stack as well with the other one, which gives you lunge, which I believe is... I don't actually know what it is, but what I'm trying to say here is she has a vast variety of very powerful add-ons regardless. I can say... Personally, guys, she is the strongest killer. She's pretty easy to learn. She's hard to master. She's the strongest killer in terms of with add-ons. Without add-ons, I still put Nurse above her. But that's in my opinion. Guys, let me know what you think. Who do you think stronger? Do you think the Nurse is stronger? Do you think the Spirit's stronger? What build do you run on her? Do you like Sloppy Butcher? Do you like running Predator? That way you can see the scratch marks funneled together because you're training on the Spirit. Let me know in the comments down below. But guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. And make sure you hit that subscribe button to support the stream, and you pop into the live streams where I stream DBD 5 days a week, and I teach a bunch of beautiful people the game. And if you think you know everything about DBD, you can help me teach people. Otherwise, if you want to learn, you're definitely in the right place. But thank you guys, and we'll see you in the fog. Have a good one. Guys, and welcome back. We're going to be doing an updated educational video on my build that I recommend on the Trapper. Now, recently you guys have been asking me, hey, now that Ruin's been changed, what kind of new builds will you be running on all your killers? And this series is going to be dedicated towards showing you guys what I run and why I run it and why I'd recommend it. Do keep in mind all my builds that I will be saying over the next couple of videos are going to be based off the fact that I recommend no add-ons, or this is the builds I recommend with no add-ons against rank 1 survivors that are in a pre-made. Okay, with add-ons, I'd obviously change my build. It also goes to say the same thing with playing and offering, taking me to a certain map. This is all based on RNG and what map you could possibly be rolling. Now, if we take a straight look at my Trapper, I follow the same 4 principles when I generally play the vast majority of killers, okay? So almost all of them will follow this. That you have 4 perks. The first perk is a gen protection perk, something that gives you time to protect the generators. Your second one is going to be your situational awareness. Your third one is going to be your stall, and your fourth one is going to be your utility perk. Now, not every killer I play will follow these principles, especially some of the powerhouses in the game. However, a lot of the weaker killers, or some killers that don't have the lethality and threat of an instant down, will follow these principles. Now, if we get back into here, I am currently running Ruin. Now, Ruin did suffer a bit of a rework or a bit of a nerf in some people's eyes not too long ago, but basically it is a Hex Ruin perk, and all it does is basically allow every generator a survivor is not working on at that current point in time to automatically regress itself at a 0.6% per second, as opposed to the stock standard 0.3% of the generator per second. So keeping in mind, it's almost going back 1%, or it's going back more than 1.2% every 2 seconds. Okay, so it's not too bad. However, when you're running Ruin, the generators are always regressing. Therefore, you're going to get no value out of Overcharge, you're going to get no value out of Pop, you're going to get no value out of Surge. Even though this is the current state of the game being in, let me explain to you why this build comes together really well. As a Trapper, when you spawn in a map, the first thing you need to do is take note of all the generators that are far away from you, right? Majority of the time, I'm going to say 70% of the maps that you spawn in on, there's going to be a player at the furthest away generator. Now, you instantly have to know, what generator is that? What map am I on? Is the map shaped like a dumbbell? Is the map shaped like a plus sign, a square, an X? What is it shaped? Is it an indoor map? Is it an outdoor map? What is currently going on? Where am I? Okay? I'm on this side of the map. How many generators are here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5... 3 generators, etc. How many on the other side of the board? How many are in the middle of the map? How many strong jungle gyms are around here? This is why people recommend Trapper for a new player, and I personally cannot. Trapper is a very complicated killer to play to a high skill gap, and we're not even getting into the point that we're pointing out trap placement as well. That is a completely different story, which will be done in a completely separate video as well. So Ruin, what does Ruin do? Basically, the whole play with this is I could be running Corrupt Intervention instead of Ruin, and that would allow me to seal these 3 faraway generators and have people come towards the middle of the board. As a trapper, where's the most likely place that I'm going to be trapping, right? There's 2 answers. 1, the middle of the board. 2, around a 3, 4, or 5 gen strat that I have in a bad area for survivors where they have very limited either window utilization or pallet utilization as well. This is generally all that will be going through your head when you start a game as Trapper in the first 10 seconds of a trial, right? So straight away, do I want them to come through the middle of the map? Well, the answer behind that is no, I do not. I want them to work on that generator in a group of 3 or a group of 2 in the corner of the map, finish that generator in the first 45 seconds or 47 seconds of the game, and by the time they do that, I want 3 or 4 good pallets placed or good traps placed near pallets and good jungle gyms that I can utilize. For example, let's talk about a map like Blood Lodge, right? Blood Lodge is going to be one of the harder ones for Trapper at the start of the trial. Why? Because depending on where you spawn, do you spawn near the shack? Do you spawn near the little house, the little crooked house down the street? Where do you spawn? You spawned in the middle of the map. That means there's going to be people to your left. There's going to be one in the far right-hand corner. There's a guy going to be behind you to the right. They're going to be all around you. So if you instantly go, great, I'm going to prep the middle of the board, chances are one of these little guys is going to come over here and they're going to trigger your traps, and it's going to really hurt you. Now, on Blood Lodge, typically, not all the time, obviously flips and RNG is taken into account, there's going to be anywhere between 3 and 5 pallets in, I'm going to call it the middle section of the board. It takes up like 60% of the board, don't get me wrong, but there is a horde of pallets. Now, there's going to be cards that you could place your traps at. I'm not going to tell you how to place your traps just yet. I have high recommendations and suggestions, but at the same time, you need to look at not prepping all of them. If you prep every single one of them and a guy catches on, you're prepping to every single one of them, you're going to have one guy coming around triggering your traps and then being that thumb, and now you're an M1 killer with no cloak at 115% movement speed who has no power or lethality. You're going to catch one guy and you're going to trap the hell out of him, and then you're going to be forced into proxying your current location, which isn't what you want to do as Trapper. Trapper is one of the old school lethal killers, right? He's nowhere near as strong as some of the other guys in the game with all these new people coming in like the Oni. Even the Billy's been around for a very long time, and he's phenomenal. Don't get me wrong, he's always been phenomenal, massive powerhouse of the game, but we talk about him in a video down the track. So what we've got right now is we've got Ruin to stall out the game, right? They're going to work on generators far away. Ruin is a gamble perk. If it lasts, brilliant. If it doesn't last, I still have Surge for stability, right? Thrilling Tremor. So what does this do? Say, miraculously, I catch somebody before any generators are done. I'm not the one that's going to be chasing as Trapper. If I see you trying to play around a God pallet, I'm going to walk through it. A God pallet is a pallet I cannot bloodlust around, or it's going to be excruciatingly difficult for me to bloodlust around, or near impossible, like the Shack pallet, the one beside the window. Very hard for you to play around. If you're playing around that and you're trying to bait me into lunging, I'm going to walk into it. It doesn't bother me if I'm going to get pallet stunned. I'm going to get rid of a really good obstacle in the trial, and now that means there's 2 traps I don't have to place anymore, or even 1 trap. Break the pallet. Realistically, I would try and take the hit if I can, and the pallet, or I'll just walk through the pallet. We take the hit, he doesn't throw the pallet and he leaves. Do you think I'm going to chase him, or do you think I'm going to do what my name says? My name's Trapper. I'm obviously going to be going for more prep. A lot of people overcommit to their chases when they're playing Killer, alright? They see an object of obsession when they're playing Trapper and they just panic, alright? He can't really do much if he's on the hook. And if he's waiting to trigger your traps, it's not doing objective. Now it's a 3v1. And he might be waiting with a flashlight. You know, you can play around somebody with object, yeah? If he's going to be a thumb in your ass too long, you can always leave him as a slug. You can always leave him on the hook. If you leave him on the ground as a slug on the opposite end of the board, you go all the way across the board to apply pressure to people and then place traps. He's not going to remember where every trap is when he's lying on the ground for 3-4 minutes. He's going to try and crawl to somebody to try and get picked up. Just one of these examples, right? Thrilling Tremor. I just caught Jeff. Now I pick Jeff up and I look around instantly. How many generators are not currently sealed? Alright? There's X amount of generators that are currently left. Let's say they've already done 2 generators, okay? So there's a couple of generators left. I just picked them up and I can see 2 generators that aren't sealed. I know I've got Jeff on my shoulder. That means at least 2 players are accounted for. Jeff's accounted for on my shoulder, meaning 1 person is MIA. What do I do in this situation? Is that going to be breaking a 3-gen strat? Is that going to be leading to a 3-gen strat? Is that going to be powering the exit gates? Is that going to be in the corner of the map with no prep around it? I take all these questions into account, and then I evaluate the situation, okay? That's going to be popping adrenaline. I have to go over there. How long have they been on the generator? Are they doing it right beside me? I don't have Pop Goes the Weasel. I would have just got the surge value out for that. These kind of things you need to take in mind. Do I want to hook this guy in the basement and play around the proxy, or do I want to hook him above the basement to the left, where he's going to get saved now, or where he's going to get saved in 60 seconds from now? Very important questions you have to be asking yourself when playing Trapper. At the same time, you need to be prepping as well. You need to be understanding survivors' movements. Where are they? Where are hotspots? Where are high traffic zones? Am I wasting a trap putting it here? How far away is the next trap I have to pick up? So there are so many questions to ask yourself as Trapper, and that's why I think a lot of people that are new to the game that pick him up because he's a free killer go, oh, this is going to be great, and then they don't understand how it works. He's so difficult to master based on trap knowledge, understanding. Are you versing good looping survivors, or are these guys going to throw pallets? Do they camp pallets? Do they utilize windows? Are they on comms? Do they split up? How does it work? You need to know all these kind of things, and you need to kind of adapt it into your playstyle. You might do some complicated traps, some simplistic traps in the trial. You know, you need to switch it up, just like moonwalking, hiding your light, as opposed to respecting and not respecting pallets. The next perk I have is Surge, alright? So I just downed Jeff, alright? 3 generators around me. All of them start regressing based on the information I have through surveillance. Now, I forgot to mention earlier that Ruin and surveillance does stack together. Okay, so this means any generator a survivor is on that they let go is going to be regressing at 0.6% per second, and it's going to be glowing white. Pretty easy to see if something's white. My hair's white. It's not actually white, it's silver, but I'll show you guys another time. Right, you get the point, okay? So what I'm trying to point out here is white is very clear and it's very obvious to be able to see. But I want to just take this into account that if a survivor touches that generator, that will change to a yellow color. Okay? If they let go again, based on Ruin giving you stability and regression, it'll glow white again, rather than staying currently glowing the color it currently was. Therefore, it'll go from white to then yellow, back from yellow to then white. If I didn't have Ruin, it would go from white to yellow, and then would go back to red after X period of times with surveillance expiring, which would be, 16 seconds, sorry. It'll be glowing yellow for 16 seconds. Now, this is okay. This is hunky-dory. Now, don't let me lose you here right now. I know a lot of people are going to get sidetracked. So the reason I have Surge is I'm going to be able to down somebody, and if there's a platform Jenny upstairs that I need to rotate around to, as a Trapper, when my job is about prepping the board and having more information and awareness, do you think I want to pick up Jeff, I want to look around and see 2 or 3 different people on different gens, hook Jeff, go upstairs, regress that generator, then go across the map to these other people? You already know the answer to the question. The answer is no. Now what can I do? I can pick Jeff up, I can hook Jeff, now I need to make a decision. Am I going to make it there in time? Am I not going to make it there in time? Are they important Jennies? Do I want to keep them? Do I want to let them go? Answering all these questions are, okay, I don't want to let the Jenny go, I need to go. I'm going to run through the center, that way my heartbeat's in the middle, and I'm going to listen for both Jennies on each side. Whichever's close to being finished, I'm going to turn on, and I'll go in that direction. That way I'll apply pressure both areas. I'll try and take a hit, I won't respect anything, I'll go through every pallet. He stunned me, great. Regress a gen, break the pallet, go upstairs, do the other one. The other guy will be going in for the save, therefore, now I know where everyone is. These kind of different things you're going to have to be keeping in account for, yeah? So Surge is so good on any form of prepping killer. I highly recommend it on Hag and Trapper. A lot of people would disagree with Hag, but just when you know how valuable this perk is, I still run it on other people like Clown, but when you understand how valuable Surge is, I think a lot of people undermine it. Keeping in mind, it is based off 32 meters. Doesn't matter about your tear radius. You could have a 0 meter tear radius, tier 1 Michael Myers. It's still based off 32 meters with a 40-second cooldown, 8% regression, and then it's going to start the stability and regression. If Jeff is working on a generator, and I just downed Nancy beside him, that generator will explode with Jeff on it. He will let go, it'll regress 8%, then Ruin will kick in. A lot of people don't understand that. As long as Jeff didn't let go, the Surge explosion will activate. So remember that. Not going to get much value out of surveillance for it, but then again, it's still going to regress all that way. Now I have the information through Thrilling Tremor if I pick him up, and I'm also going to have Ruin regression too. I have to honestly say this is the best build you can run on Trapper with no add-ons. If you're going to be running Dark and Tar add-ons, then I actually like Devour, Hope, and Agitation as a combo. Without running those kind of things, I keep coming back to this. Remember, your job is about prep, stability, and the later the trial goes as the Trapper, the stronger you become. Now, I could mention honorable mentions for perks. Now, it's always good to have, like, Sloppy Butcher in amongst the mix and all that, but right now, as of this current patch we're currently in, which I don't know what it is off the top of my head, this is the best build that I can recommend based off no add-ons for the consistency of 4Ks and what works with me at rank 1, guys. Anyways, that's going to be all for this day's video. I hope you enjoyed the up-to-date Trapper build, and if you guys want to pop into the live stream, I do stream DBD 5 days a week doing educational survivor and killer content. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube and you pop into the live streams as well, guys. Take care, and I will see you in the next video. Alrighty guys, and welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at a Wraith build that I highly recommend for players in the red ranks if you want to have a lot of fun in your games and you don't want to use any add-ons. Now this build is pretty simplistic. The fun thing about the Wraith is you can run a lot of different options on him. You have things like Sloppy Butcher, you have things like Nurse's Calling. It just depends on your personal playstyle and how you currently enjoy him. Based on the games that I've been having a lot of success with right now in the low ranks, this build has been phenomenal. Now, without going into too many details, we're just going to have a quick one over the build. We have Corrupt Intervention, we have Discordance, we have Surge, and we have Haunted Ground. Now, if you're unaware of what the Wraith's special ability is, basically he starts the trial cloaked. He then has to ring a bell by holding the right mouse button for 2 seconds, which will make a sound indicator twice, allowing a survivor to know. He will then become out of cloak. While he is cloaked, he has no heartbeat. He makes very loud footstep sounds, however, and he has this little growling you can hear in the background. Based on these kind of things, he'll ring his bell. He'll receive an additional movement speed of for 0.5 seconds, which will be old school windstorm, allowing him to lunge a very far distance. However, the default Wraith moves at 115% movement speed. With no add-ons and a cloaked Wraith, he'll be moving at 126% movement speed. I thought it was 126.5, but it's 126%. These perks here go hand in hand together with the Wraith. Now, what do we have here? We have Corrupt Intervention. Realistically, Corrupt Intervention is integratable with Sloppy Butcher, depending on how ambitious you're feeling, but based on the fact this build is based on no add-ons and RNG in the map, I'd rather take the consistency I will receive from a stability perk, or from a stall perk, or even a generator protection perk. So the way I normally build a killer is I follow these 4 basic steps when I play. I have a gen protection perk, I have a situational awareness perk, I have stall perk, and I also have a utility perk. Now right now I can already tell you this killer does follow the principles that I just said. We have a gen protection perk, which is going to be corrupt. It's going to allow me to seal the 3 furthest away generators from my current spawn. I have situational awareness, which is going to be provided to me through discordance for multiple people targeting on a generator. I have surge for my stability and my regression, and I have haunted ground for my lethality. Right, so the Wraith doesn't have a form of instant down, and based on that I want to make sure that I can always apply a lot of pressure. The thing about the Wraith is normally it's a good call to M1 a survivor cloak and then rotate somewhere else. Based on the fact I don't have any mangled add-ons, I don't have Sloppy Butcher, I don't have any form of enhancement to movement speed, you need to know when to commit to your chases and when not to commit to your chases. Based on something else I'm currently running as well, being Surge, you want to be able to down a survivor near a generator. You want to be able to down a survivor near a generator where there's going to need to be regression, right? Haunted Ground comes in hand in terms of being able to go, if this totem's broken, to information provided through Discordance, ring your bell, come around the corner, down one instantly for the regression stability through Surge, and then chase the other guy for the remainder time of Haunted Ground, depending on how good he is, and depending on how many pallets he will utilize, and then that way you can capitalize off this perk, getting multiple people down. You can also take advantage of the fact that you're going to be opening the board up. Alternatively, you could just down one guy, pick him up, hook him, and hopefully find the other guy, but it depends on what you want to do with your Haunted Ground time. It also depends on the map you're currently on. For example, if I'm on a map like the game that is small and stacked on itself, I will down one, I'll pick him up, I'll hook him, and then I'll go looking for somebody else and let the other guy run away. Also depends on if I've eaten the pallets around the location or if it's a fresh new spawn. So that pretty much goes hand in hand for the entire Wraith build. So we got the stall from the Corrupt Intervention. We have Discordance as well. There's not too much to tell about this killer. Remember, when you ring your bell and you come out of your being cloaked, your heartbeat will be up at 32 meters at 115% movement speed. Everyone's going to know that you're uncloaked. When you ring your bell to go invisible again, it's a very obvious sound indicator. Both bells make different sounds, so a survivor that understands can tell that you're cloaked or you're uncloaking. Now you can run special add-ons which will allow you to cloak faster, allow you to uncloak faster, allow you to cloak silently, allow your bell to be heard from the entire board rather than directionable and from a closer distance. So there's a lot of different ways you can play around the Wraith. However, based on what I like, this is what works for me in the red ranks. Alternatively, if we're looking at things we could change, we could easily get rid of Surge for Pop Goes the Weasel if you prefer that. I really do like Surge with my Haunted Ground. However, if you didn't want to run Haunted Ground based on the fact that it does rely on a survivor breaking the totem, but believe me, a lot of them do that. You could run Devour Hope. I don't recommend it. It's too RNG dependent, especially with the maps shrinking down. Considering some of the maps have shrunk, you kind of want to make sure that you either have a damaging totem or no totem at all. It also depends on the killer. If you have a good totem like Devour Hope on a nurse, it's not going to hurt you too much losing one perk, but losing a perk on somebody like the Wraith will hurt you a lot. Realistically, if you wanted consistency on everything, you could take Sloppy Butcher on the Wraith, but I just want to point out that there is an add-on down here as well. Oops, sorry, it's right here. This will give you... Where are you, darling? This will give you the effect of Sloppy Butcher if you ring your bell and M1 somebody, so that pretty much gives you a 5th perk. And if you were to do that, I don't recommend stacking Haunted Ground and Sloppy Butcher. There's only one killer I recommend that on. You could do do it on the Wraith, if you felt ambitious enough to get rid of Corrupt Intervention and put on Sloppy instead, you will still have good consistency. You could take the M1s, you could take the Split Pressure, but you're going to be playing around the end game if you try to do that, as opposed to this is about trying to take advantage of the earlier game, or that earlier section that the game can put you in. But anyways, guys, that's going to be all for the Wraith video. I know it was short, I know it was sweet, there's not much to talk about with it, but this is the build that I love and I recommend. I highly recommend you try it as well. Some people say save the best for last is great on the Wraith. I have to disagree with that based on the fact he can't preserve his stacks. However, you guys give it a go, try it for yourself, and let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget that I do stream DVD 5 days a week, and you can pop into the live educational DVD streams that I do here over at Twitch, or you guys can also pop into the live streams that I do over at Twitch. I don't know why I said that twice, guys. Thank you so much for watching the video, and I hope you have a wonderful time, and stay safe. I'll see you in the next one. Alright guys, and welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at my clown build, also what I like to refer to as the Mean Green Machine. Now, if I was good at editing YouTube, I would have had like flashy colors and it would have like, you know, came in, but I'm not. Anyways, let's have a look at the video, the build. Okay, what do we got? So I'm currently running Corrupt Intervention, Spirit's Fury, Surge, and Enduring. But before we talk about that, guys, make sure you subscribe to the channel for more educational Survivor and Killer content. I'd love to walk through a couple of things. I'll pop into the live streams where I stream DVD 5 days a week, and say g'day to Mr. Puddles, also known as the Clown. Let's talk about the build. Does it follow the 4 basic principles? What are the basic principles? Perk 1, Gen Protection. Perk 2, Situation Awareness. Perk 3, Stall. Perk 4, Utility. Right, what do we have? Gen Protection. Yeah, sure. Situation Awareness. No. Surge. Regression. Great. And optional perk, Enduring. So I don't follow the 4 basic principles. I've tailored my build a little differently. Let's have a look. Corrupt Intervention. What does it do? This will seal the 3 furthest away jennies from the point of which I spawn. Based on being a weaker killer and not having a lot of map momentum, this can be really good for me, especially at stopping a 3 gen, or, you know, preventing them from working on gens all the way across the board while I have to chase somebody else and gen rushing me into oblivion. Spirit's Fury. What does this do? After breaking 2 pallets, the next pallet that stuns me will automatically break. You heard it. The next pallet that stuns me will destroy itself. Now, by default, that will take, like, what, 2.5, 3 seconds? But I have Enduring. Enduring allows me to recover 50% faster from being pallet stunned. So, yes, Enduring stacks with Spirit's Fury. So, all I have to do is break 2 pallets, and then the next pallet that stuns me, I'll be able to recover almost straight away and go straight onto the Survivor. Very strong, very good and efficient at catching people off guard that don't know you have it up. Also good on the Pig, as well as people like the Wraith, based on the Windstorm lunge he gets out of Tier 1. Tier 1, out of ringing his bell, sorry. Alright, what do we have? Surge. Now, I'm running Surge for stability on generators. I refer to this as the Mean Green Fighting Machine. This is the build that I love so much on the Clown. Is it his best? Not necessarily. I mean, I like to run Haunted Ground, Devour Hope on the Clown for the lethality, based on the fact the instant downs with the mind games that you can do with your Moonwalk plays if you play him really well. Let's talk about the Clown's ability real quick. Alright, the Clown has 4 tonics on him. These are bottles. Now, when the Clown goes to throw out the bottle, he will pull his hand back and he will point in a direction. While he is doing this, he receives no movement penalty. Much like the Doctor. When the Doctor is running, charging Static Shock, he receives a penalty. When he's not charging Static Shock, he doesn't have the penalty. But with the Doctor, when the Doctor's running with the bottle out, he's moving at 115% movement speed. When he releases the bottle, unlike the hatchets on a Huntress, when he releases the bottle, he receives a massive penalty to his movement speed. Why does he receive that? This is because the bottle has a hinder effect of its own. What does the bottle do by default with no add-ons? It will create a massive green smoke. The higher the bottle in the air when it breaks, the larger the cloud. That sounds really weird to explain, but let me explain it to you. If the Clown were to throw a bottle in front of him and smash on the ground, there would be a cloud of smoke. If he were to aim high in a tree and break it on a tree, it'll cover an entire jungle gym. There will be little puddles in areas where survivors can sidestep. However, the initial fall down will pretty much cover the entire jungle gym, allowing you to catch straight away or force the pallet down, much like a 1 puddle Freddy, or a 1 snare Freddy, as they call them as well. Keeping in mind, what happens when you're in the smoke? Your character will scream unless you have a perk called Calm Spirits, which will counter the scream. You'll still do the animation. You'll cover your mouth and cough, which you should always do if you cough. That being said, you will receive a penalty for 15% towards your movement speed for 2 seconds after you leave the cloud of smoke. However long you stay in the smoke, you have the penalty on you. The Clown penalty, or the smoke, will last about 3.5, 4 seconds. This time, the Clown's going to mind game and walk around or push. Remember, If you stay in the smoke the entire time and it expires, you then still have the 2-second penalty on you too. The hinder penalty is 15%. Therefore, a running survivor will be moving at 85% movement speed while the killer's moving at 115. Now, there are add-ons I want to mention out real quick. Remember, numbers I just talked about. 15% penalty and a 2-second penalty when you leave the smoke. Therefore, you've got 15% movement and 2 seconds it'll last. You can run an add-on called the Flask of Bleach. The Flask of Bleach increases the penalty you receive as the clown, or as a survivor walking through the clown's smoke, by an additional 5%. This means you will be hindered by 20% rather than 15%. They didn't really mention this, but the clown received a massive nerf a little while ago when they gave you window momentum, allowing you to shift vault through a window and move through faster. Normally a clown could have lunged through and hit you through the medium vault. He can no longer do that as efficiently as possible as he used to be able to do. Therefore, keeping in mind a 20% penalty hinder, remember how much 5% is in Dead by Daylight. It is a lot. You're pretty much, if you were moving at 100% movement speed, the clown might as well be moving at 135%. Keeping in mind, 35% difference is phenomenal. The other add-ons I want to quickly point out is the Ether 10 and the Ether 5 and the Ether 15%. Right? So, no, is it the Ether 10%? Okay. The Ether 10% and the Ether 15%. I do not understand why this is called 10% and this is called 15%. Let me explain. When you have this add-on on, rather than it having a 2-second penalty for you leaving the smoke, you receive 2.5 seconds of that movement speed penalty at 15%. So you'll be coughing and you'll be running 15% slower, 20% if I had this, but you'll be running that slower for 2.5 seconds rather than 2 seconds. With this add-on here, it makes it 1 second longer. Yes, they stack together for a 3.5 second penalty at 15%, but this here is commonly known as one of the strongest combos you can do on the clown, bar the pinky and the middle finger and the Solvent Jug, which I'll talk about momentarily. What does this do? This allows you to be hindered an additional 1 second. Now, I don't understand why this is a 1 second hinder and this here is a 0.5 second hinder. That's 15%. Shouldn't that be called 20% and that should be called 10%? Or that should be 7.5% and that should be 15%? See, the wording is a little off-putting there. So this means when you leave the clown smoke, you receive a 3-second penalty at 20% movement slowed. You're not going to be able to loop that as clown. You're going to be throwing the pallets straight away. Now, keeping in mind, without these add-ons, you're all about forcing down jungle gyms and pallets as quickly as possible. You can run Bamboozled on the clown. The issue with the clown, a huge debuff he has, is when he vaults a window, he makes a really loud grunt. He goes, grrr, when he goes through. And that's really easy to hear and tell if he goes through the window or if he's going to mind game and go back through the window. There's no counterplay to it. You cannot quieten the grunt when you play the clown. The Trapper has a similar thing, but he doesn't yell out, I'm going through a window, like the clown. The Trapper, you can hear the rubber on his apron when he goes through the window as well. People like the Spirit don't have a sound indicator. So unfortunately, our friend here, Mr. Puddles, does have that debuff. I did main clown for a little while too, so I know a lot of the numbers. I want to quickly point out another add-on for you guys called the Solvent Jug. This forces exhaustion. With the Solvent Jug, anyone that walks through your smoke cannot use Dead Hard, cannot use Balance Landing, cannot use Life, cannot use anything. However, obviously Adrenaline trumps Solvent Jug. It is probably one of the strongest add-ons in the game that is yellow. Alright, you've got things like the Primer Bulb, don't get me wrong, but this here is so strong because you don't have to hit a survivor for it to activate, much like the Toxin that the Huntress has. It's just a cloud of smoke, which is really easy to land. Keeping in mind, it'll force the exhaustion and they'll have to walk for 30 seconds for that debuff to activate. Anyways, back to the build. Surge is going to allow me to regress multiple generators in an area around me when I downed a target. Keeping in mind, I have no information perk here, therefore I don't have barbecue and chili. I don't really recommend this clown build to an inexperienced clown player, based on the fact there's no form of tracking. You've got to use your map movement, your map momentum to understand movement or tracking. You could easily replace Spirit's Fury for barbecue or thrill and get rid of enduring and brutal for brutal strength and respect pallets based on the hinder penalty. If the guy tries to bait you out, you can wait and then run through and catch him if he was hindered, keeping in mind he won't be able to make another loop unless he has Dead Hard. So there's other ways to build your clown. I like to go for the Moonwalk M1s through pallets to take the stun to then catch the guy through Spirit's Fury, right? That's how I like to play my clown, a little differently. I also like Lethality instant down clown. However, this is what I run, especially for a hoot and a great time. I love running the full green build. It doesn't work on any other killer anywhere near as good, but believe it or not, it works on the Spirit. Keeping in mind she's 110% movement speed, and there are other builds on the table that are better. This is a fun build everybody can run if you have the right teachable perks. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it. It's going to be a nice short video for the clown. And honorable mentions as well. Save the best for last. Remember, when you hinder a survivor, if I were to hinder you and then M1 you, rather than getting 150% movement speed, you suffer the penalty from the smoke, remember. So if I have Ether, not really Ether, but in fact Ether's a perfect example. If I have Ether 15%, that means the hinder will last for 3 seconds. When you're hit with an M1, you get the sprint burst for 3 seconds. And if I were to be running Flask of Bleach, that's 20%. Rather than sprint bursting away for 3 seconds while you take the M1, you run away at 120% movement speed. Remember, if I have 8 stacks of Save the Best for Last, I'm going to recover and be right behind you in that time. I'm moving at 115% movement speed. You're moving at 120. You're 5% faster than me. So keep that in mind. You can catch up to people pretty good if you're good with your clown bottles. Something I really want to point out that people don't know about the clown, your bottle, direct impact, cancels animations. Now, it doesn't cancel like a vault animation, but it will cancel a hook save. Somebody's going for a hook save, and you hit them with a clown bottle, that will stop them from doing it. So if you, for whatever reason, are under hook, and the guy's getting saved, and he's doing one of those freaking, I'm going to grab him, I'm going to run to the other side, grab him, I'm going to bait, I'm going to try and get you to hit. If you direct impact him with a bottle, you can then pull another bottle out straight away, direct impact him again, another bottle out straight away, so if he's waiting to the last second, you can do that to counter his last second save. Shouldn't really be under the hook for that, but just keep in mind, you can also do the exact same thing to stop them from completing a generator if they're trying to do an adrenaline play. There's a lot of different cheeky plays around it. It is a higher tier gap kind of skill thing to do with the clown, but just wanted to mention it as well because I'm sure there's a lot of clown mains out there that are going to be thinking, oh yeah, I know how to do that too, Goose. But remember, aim high with your jungle gyms when you're going to be releasing a bottle, and watch how much larger the cloud of smoke is too. You also obviously have add-ons that allow you to instantly down a survivor if you throw the bottle. That being said, the clown throws the bottles really weird and unique. He doesn't throw it like a Huntress does with the hatchet. With the Huntress hatchet, she does a small loop. With the clown, he does a large loop. So if you want to throw in front of you, you got to aim down a little bit. So it's a little odd. You're lining up. It's not like a crosshair in the middle of your screen. It's off to the side a little bit as well. But just a little bit of practice, and you'll be able to do it in no time. And then you've obviously got the tattooed middle finger, which is when anyone runs through your smoke, their aura is revealed to you for 6 seconds, allowing you to do some insane jungle gym mind games if you know how to play clown really well. Also, both the pink add-ons, keep that in mind. Anyways, guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'm going to be doing more educational survivor and killer content in the near future. I hope you guys pop in, and you guys can pop into the live streams where I stream DVD 5 days a week. If you like the video, guys, let me know, and tell me your favorite clown build. Do you actually play clown? Do you think clown is too strong? Would you like to see clown with a bit of a rework? I personally think he's actually a fun killer, but it could use a little bit of a tweak. Keeping in mind, the clown only has 4 bottles. When he is out of bottles, you need to hold the control key, and then you'll cook up another concoction of bottles on the spot rather than having to search a locker like a Huntress. But guys, GG's. I will see you in the next video. Thank you all for watching, and have a wonderful day. Alrighty guys, and welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at the DeathSlinger. I know I'm a little overdue when it comes to making a build on the DeathSlinger and explaining a lot to you guys, but that's what this video is for right now. Now, what do we know? Straight away, the DeathSlinger is a 24-meter heartbeat killer. He also moves at 110% movement speed, also referred to as 4.4 meters per second. He's a very tall killer. He also has a rifle. Now, with his rifle, he can ADS, which means aim down sights. No other killer can ADS in the game. A Huntress can throw a hatchet, but unfortunately, she cannot ADS with it too, because a hatchet doesn't have a sight. That being said, when the DeathSlinger aims down his gun, which is what you just saw then, he can left click rather than auto-attacking. He will release a chain out of the gun, which can go up to 18 meters. If this chain were to connect with a survivor, the survivor will then scream. The DeathSlinger holds right mouse button and reels the survivor in. The survivor can wiggle and keep obstacles in between the DeathSlinger to break the chain, such as another survivor, a barbed wire fence, even a pallet, a window, these kind of things. With a DeathSlinger, if you walk backwards while reeling in, you're going to reel them in at a much quicker rate as well. Now, a lot of his add-ons are around that as well in terms of reeling in, reload speed, applying like Sloppy Butcher. Now, a lot of people wonder what is a good build on the DeathSlinger. Now, I'm going to go through quite a few honorable mentions in terms of perks. Something else I want to point out, yet again, keep in mind, he has a 24-meter heartbeat at 110% movement speed. doesn't have a lullaby like the Huntress. His projectile can never down a survivor. However, when he reels them in, he does an M1, which is an auto attack from a close range. During that small window of time, survivors are in animation lock in terms of the fact they cannot use a pallet, they cannot vault a window, and they cannot dead hard or get in a locker, giving him a small window to M1 and down a survivor. Now, the perks I currently have selected, let's go through them. Now, based on the fact the killer's 110% movement speed and a slow movement killer, I like Corrupt Intervention. Corrupt Intervention is going to funnel survivors closer together, and it's going to stop them from gen-rushing generators across the board where I'm struggling to keep up with them. Now, the next perk you're going to note is my replacement to Barbecue and Thrilling Tremor. Barbecue and Thrilling Tremor is also a plausible option if you so inclined choose to, but I run Discordance. Discordance is going to go hand in hand with Corrupt, allowing me to funnel people together and know what objective they are going to be stacking on. That also being said, I'm running Surge. Now, Surge is integratable with Pop Goes the Weasel, depending on your preference. I personally prefer Surge, as it will save time. I can down a survivor on a bottom floor and regress generators around. A lot of people don't realize that Surge is based off a 32-meter tear radius and can never be increased. It won't be increased with Mono and Abuse, it won't be increased with Distressing, therefore it'll never be decreased. So a Mono and Abuse Michael Myers with an 8-meter heartbeat will still activate Surge at a 32-meter circumference around. Now, that being said, the fourth and final perk I'm running on my DeathSlinger is Mono and Abuse. This is a utility perk. Now, if I felt I was going to get gen rushed, or if I felt that we're going to use a lot of healing, this perk is integratable with things like Sloppy Butcher and Save the Best for Last. A lot of Deathslingers like Save the Best for Last because they'll M1 a survivor, then they'll shoot, reel them in, and M1 them again. I personally prefer Sloppy Butcher for the consistency of keeping multiple people injured. If they choose not to heal, I'm going to be in a better spot because then I can activate Surge quicker. I know where they're funneling together through Discordance. I know it looks like a full green build, but a lot of people don't understand the sheer power behind that. This being said, Mono and Abuse is going to reduce my 24-meter heartbeat down to 16 meters. Now, there are add-ons that the Deathslinger can select as well, which are going to, for example, moderately increase the reeling in speed. You know, they apply Mangled, that's your Sloppy Butcher if you shoot the chain on them and they break the chain as well. If you are reeling a survivor in and the chain breaks and you don't get a hit, he's under the effect that he needs to mend, much like a Legion's Feral Frenzy attack as well. But if you have a very close look, there is one here that I want to point out to you guys of the fog. And it is going to allow him to moderately reduce the tear radius while aiming down sights, which, yes, it does stack with Mono and Abuse. Remember, your hook shot will always go 18 meters. Nothing can make it go further. Nothing can make it go less. That being said, if you have a basic Deathslinger with a 24-meter heartbeat, you're going to be looking at a 16-meter heartbeat with Mono and Abuse. Therefore, you can aim outside of your heartbeat and shoot and reel a survivor in before they know what happened. Keeping in mind that the smallest heartbeat can be heard at the edge of the heartbeat. Therefore, the smallest heartbeat will be heard at 16 meters. Now, another honorable mention will be Nurse's Calling. A lot of people like knowing where people are healing and going for the people healing. This is what I choose to like to run around the red ranks and the rank 1 category, where I seem to have the most success based off no add-ons. Now, Ruin is an option, so is Surveillance. It just depends on how you want to build your Deathslinger. Realistically, I like a generator stalling perk, so either Ruin or Corrupt Intervention. I like an information perk, therefore Barbecue, Thrilling Tremor. My personal preference and my favorite is Discordance, knowing where people are grouping and stacking with a smaller heartbeat, allowing me to get regression and possibly split pressure through Surge. Surge is also my favorite regression perk, as opposed to Pop Goes the Weasel, even though Pop is really good under the under set circumstances, like on Oni and like on the Hillbilly, for example. Pop can be utilized on everyone. I just find the time I save through Surge will preserve jungle gems and, not jungle gems, will preserve generators at a much more efficient rate for me. And obviously the last perk, integratable as a utility perk. I take a smaller heartbeat, but if I felt they were going to heal a lot, I'd take Sloppy Butcher. If I felt I needed mass split pressure or mass being able to injure targets at the same time, I'd take Save the Best for Last. And that is generally how I would build my Deathslinger. Now, Make Your Choice is an option. I don't think it's a good one. You can shoot a target that just got saved, reel them in, and one hit down them. His ultra rare add-ons will allow you to do a very similar thing as well. Personally, if I were to take add-ons on my Deathslinger, my build would change. If I wanted to keep the build very similar to what I have right now, I would look at applying the Mangled effect on a survivor for 60 seconds after the chain breaks, and I'd look at a reload one as opposed to anything else. Reload allowing me to get my shots off more often. Keep in mind that it is a chain gun, therefore it can shoot once, then you have to reload every time. When you reload, you do take a movement speed penalty, unlike the Clown as well. Now, that's just a little bit of information to get started on the Deathslinger. If you want to check out some informative educational Dead by Daylight Deathslinger videos, I have done a couple here, not as many as I should, but I'll be getting to some more in the near future as well. Anyways, guys, thank you all for watching. I was going to say GG's well played. Thank you all for watching, and if you have any questions about it, don't hesitate to pop into the live streams where I stream DVD 5 days a week, and I constantly upload educational survivor and killer content up to YouTube. Anyways, guys, make sure you slap that subscribe button, and I will see you in the fog in the next video. Alrighty guys, and welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at an informative Freddy build that I highly recommend in the red ranks. Now, you guys will know I'm currently doing a Freddy streak. It's only at 11 games, but we're going to see how many games we can 4K in a row with Frederick or Freddy, depending on how you want to call it, with no add-ons, no ruin in the red and the purple ranks. 4K meaning I get every kill and no one escapes via hatch, no one escapes via the exit gate. So let's have a look at a little bit further in depth in the build that I choose to run, right? I recommend Corrupt Intervention on Freddy. This perk is subject to change based on a couple of things. Now, the reason I recommend Corrupt is I'm going to be looking at stalling out 3 generators while I build up my power. But before we get into that, guys, make sure you like and subscribe to the video to make sure you have to see any more educational, informative content by me, and you can pop into the live streams where I stream DBD 5 days a week. But let's jump straight back into it. Now, before we talk about Corrupt, my 4 perks: 1 gen protection, 1 situational awareness, 1 stall, and 1 utility perk, right? One gen protection, corrupt intervention. Those 3 gens are sealed far away while I'm channeling and building up my ability. Now, it does take a little bit of time to get Freddy's ability to work up. He has 2 abilities. That's how strong he is, alright? Freddy is all about keeping survivors asleep. Now, basically, all survivors fall asleep every 60 seconds. There will be these random clocks around the board, only 1 clock per player at a time, and each clock a player can walk up to, talk to, or put their hands on. It'll wake them up, and they'll be awake for 90 seconds. Taking any form of damage from Freddy, therefore an M1, an attack with his claw, will force you to fall asleep. While you are asleep, you are not in Freddy's heartbeat. I will repeat, while you're asleep, you are still beside Freddy, but you're not in the heartbeat. Therefore, if you try to do a borrowed time save on somebody, he will not receive the effect of borrowed time, as the person who is doing the save has to be within the killer's heartbeat, and the heartbeat hits 0 for Freddy. That is very important to remember, and very strong for the low ranks when you're going to be versing really good survivors that try and utilize borrowed time. That being said, what is Freddy's other ability? He can put a blood pool on the ground. A blood pool takes about 2 seconds to activate. It takes him about 1 second, 0.5 second to place on the ground. If a survivor is asleep, they will be able to see the blood pools. If they're awake, they're invisible. While you're asleep and you step in a blood pool, you will scream. It'll hinder your movement speed by 15% for 2 seconds or 3 seconds after you leave the blood pool. It is very strong, and it allows him to counter every loop. Every loop's a bit of a stretch. A lot of the jungle gyms. And the thing about Freddy is the faster you play him, the better off you're going to be. When you watch my videos of Freddy, you'll notice I put 1 blood pool to 1 loop, and I always hide my light and moonwalk and make those fast plays. When you hesitate, that's when a survivor can outplay you in those current situations. You'll note that at double L walls, I will be able to place 1 blood pool on either play, depending on which side the survivor is on, much like when I do it with the clown, to guarantee that hit. Very important to keep in mind, especially if you play a lot of these kind of killers. The same hinder penalty is received from both the clown and Freddy, but the clown penalty after you leave the smoke is 2 seconds rather than the 3 seconds that Freddy has. However long you're in the clown bottle, we're not here to talk about the clown, but however long you're in the clown bottle smoke, you will suffer the penalty. And when the bottle expires or the smoke expires, you will then have the 2 second penalty. However, Freddy, once the blood pool is activated, will disappear after a couple of seconds. It'll disappear about 4 seconds after it's been triggered. Freddy can put 10 blood pools on the ground at a given time. Now, the other part of Freddy's ability is he can teleport to a generator of his choice, regardless of where it is on the map, providing the generator is not complete or not sealed. A sealed generator being a corrupt intervention generator or a thrilling tremor generator. Therefore, if you see a generator people are working on, you can press the control key. After 5 seconds of channeling the ability, during this entire time, blood will pour out of the generator, and an illusion of blood will come out of the ground with Freddy Krueger in the blood. You do not have to take the teleport. You can bait it by letting go of the button while you're coming in to distract the survivors while they're looking at the generator, or you could take the teleport. If you bait it, the cooldown is dramatically reduced. If you take the teleport, you reset your ability. You can still use the dream snares. Now, Freddy does have an add-on that allows him to have dream pallets, which replaces the dream snares, and therefore survivors that have destroyed pallets, or you can place fake pallets around the board to confuse survivors. They will see fake pallets only when they're asleep. If they pull down a fake pallet, it'll explode with blood. It doesn't hinder the movement speed, but they're obviously locked in animation while they're pulling down the pallet. It is phenomenally weak. I do not recommend it as opposed to Blood Pool Freddy. Now the build. Corrupted Dimension will seal the 3 furthest away generators. Keeping this in mind, that when they're sealed, this is giving me time to build up my ability naturally. My ability being my ability to teleport around the board. Therefore, it's pretty crucial at the start of the trial. I could replace Corrupt with Haunted Ground or a form of Snowball, even save the best for last, Sloppy Butcher for consistency, Devour Hope, make a choice if I wanted to rotate. A lot of ways. That's a free perk, if I'm going to be honest. But I do find the most success through Corrupt Intervention. The next perk is Thrilling Tremor. Now, here's the thing with Thrilling Tremor. This seals generators for 16 seconds a survivor is not on. So if a survivor's working on the generator and I just picked up Jeff, the generator will not glow white. If a survivor is not on a generator and I just picked up Jeff, the entity's hand will cover the generator and it will glow white, so I know nobody is working on that and no one can work on that for 16 seconds. Nothing trumps it. Now let's skip this perk and go to the next one, Discordance. If more than one survivor is working on a generator, it will pulsate, it'll glow a yellowy green color, and it will constantly give me a sound notification that there are 2 or more people on that generator. So here's what you do. You just down Jeff. You see a generator glowing and pulsating. You then teleport over there, but you don't really teleport. It takes 5 seconds of holding control. So at 4.9 seconds, you let go of control, because by then, a illusion of Freddy has came out of the ground, and it looks like he's ready to attack. But then you pick Jeff up from the ground. Those 2 people will most likely let go of the generator. You've then sealed that generator for 16 seconds. You then get to hook Jeff, and now you have a stack of Pop Goes the Weasel. If you see any other generator glowing, not glowing white and being red, you know there's 1 player there, there's 2 players there, and the other player's on the hook. You know where every single person is on the map. Some survivors will greed for the gen when they understand your playstyle, but that is why Discordance and Thrilling are S-tier plus perks on Freddy if you know how to use this combo. Pop Goes the Weasel will allow me to decide what needs to happen. If the generator to my left is being worked on, I can then teleport to the Jenny to the left, use Pop, and walk across the board. If the generator is nowhere near done and I've walked over there, I'll then teleport back to the Jenny that I thought people were nearly done and completed on. It gives so much information and situational awareness, keeping in mind that this build works hand in hand. You could get rid of Pop for Surge, but I find good regression out of Pop, allowing me to know where multiple targets are through Discordance, where I'm going to get the most bang for my buck as well. This is my personal opinion, the best Freddy build. There is nothing better. Now, you could tailor builds based on the map you're going to, like Nurse's Calling to the game, for example, but based on no add-ons, no map offering, and RNG, this build has worked for me on every map. Now, I do still lose games, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I lose every game. I haven't lost the last 10 in a row as Freddy, but still, what I'm saying is the build will fail at times. The way you beat Freddy is like an endurance test. You out-endure him. You wake up, you apply pressure to a gen, you wake up again, you know, you keep your teammates awake, you split pressure. That's how you beat him, right? The way he wins is he keeps as many people asleep and he goes for snowballs. That's Freddy's win condition. If he has an indoor map and you're all asleep, you'll hear the lullaby, much like the Huntress, but you won't be able to hear the heartbeat. So you don't know how close he is when that comes. So keeping that in mind, the lullaby isn't pinpoint directionable. So that's a good understanding of Freddy. You could run Barbecue rather than Thrill, but you can see why I recommend Thrill, Discordance, and Pop with your special ability. I can understand running Barbecue, running Sloppy Butcher, or Save the Best for Last, and Surge if you wanted to do that for the blood points and replace and Corrupt with Haunted for the snowball opportunity, or even Ruin, Surveillance. It depends on what you want to run. Some people go Thanatophobia with add-ons to reduce how long, or increase how long it'll take to complete a generator. But like I said before, honestly think this is the best build you can run. I can see running other things, but with a lot of practice as playing Freddy, I did put a lot of games into him when I was doing my Plague games, or my Plague streak, but I didn't do them. I only like to do 1 killer streak at a time, because I like to give the hatch and have a little bit of a giggle with the survivors at times. But while we're on the Freddy streak, like I said, guys, this build has performed really well, regardless of the map we've had. So try it out for yourself, and let me know in the comments down below. What do you guys think about the build? What do you run on Freddy Krueger? Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, guys, for the YouTube algorithm, and you can pop into the live streams where I stream DVD 5 days a week, and you can learn some educational, informative survivor content. It'll be great to teach you a bit about the game, or you can help me teach people that are new to the game and trying to learn. Anyways, guys, stay safe, stay awesome, and I will see you in the next video. Take care, guys. Alrighty guys, and welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at an educational informative build on Ghostface and why I recommend these current perks in the meta that we're currently in. You'll notice it's a little different to other people, and we're going to walk through that real quick. But before we do that, guys, make sure you hit that subscribe button for more educational survivor and killer content that I will be doing and posting up here on YouTube. And if you want to catch it live at hand, you can definitely do that by jumping over and checking us out at twitch.tv. So keeping that in mind, and you can pop in with all the other people and learn all these awesome builds and tips and tricks, or you can help me teach the new people as well if you think you know a lot about Dead by Daylight. But guys, let's jump straight in. We're going to be talking about Ghostface's ability, Night Shroud, straight away. Now, what does this do? Night Shroud is going to allow you to activate your special ability. Now, what is that exactly? Ghostface can press the right mouse button at any given time, and the red stain in his chest will disappear, his heartbeat will disappear, and he will enter stealth or be undetectable. He can still be detected through things like spine chill, so he's not technically undetectable, but this means you have no light in your heart. Or light in your heart? That sounds horrible. You have no light in your chest. So when a survivor runs around a wall and breaks your line of sight, rather than moonwalking and looking the opposite direction, you can easily just push the right mouse button, and this is going to allow you to have the light disappear in your chest, and you're going to be able to come around the corner and M1 the survivor, so keep that in mind. He might hesitate in that second too. What else can you do? You can push the control key and it will allow you to lower yourself to the ground really low. Okay, a lot of people do it to teabag. Keeping in mind, when you lower yourself, you see these tassels on his arm, they're much easier to see. Some of the skins come with smaller tassels, which some people could say is an advantage, but at the same time, it's pretty cool, not gonna lie. So what does Ghostface do? While his ability is activated, he has no heartbeat. He can M1 a survivor, which will end his ability. It'll then put it on a 30-second cooldown before he can activate it again. However, remember he has no heartbeat. If a survivor stares at Ghostface and has him in the middle of the screen, even in third person, for 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds, that will deactivate Ghostface's ability. While Ghostface's ability is activated, he'll be running with his knife up. When his ability is deactivated, he'll pull the knife back down and be walking. Therefore, you'll know if it's activated or not if you can't see the red stain in front of him. Keeping in mind, he doesn't need to be chasing you. You can be watching from the hill and break Ghostface out of his stalk. You'll get 500 points for it too, and he'll lose his ability. So you gotta be very careful about how you maneuver around the map for Ghostface for those current reasons. He can also do another thing. This is stalking, much like Michael Myers. Ghostface can stalk a survivor. Now I want to quickly point this out because a lot of people don't understand this. Ghostface does not have a range penalty like Michael Myers. The further away Michael Myers is from you when he stalks, the less stalk he gets. The closer he is, the more stalk he gets. Doesn't matter with Ghostface. Ghostface doesn't have a power-up ability with his stalk for him. It's a debuff for you. So Ghostface can stand and crouch or stand, doesn't matter either way. If he holds the right mouse button, he can look in the bottom left-hand side of the screen. You don't have an indicator for it, but you can prep a survivor. This means you're stalking them. If you stalk a survivor successfully for 5 seconds while they don't know you're stalking, you are going to be able to activate your ability. So you should do it for 4.9 seconds. If you do it for all 5 seconds, they will hear a sound. It'll say exposed on their screen, and there'll be a red timer around their name, which they can see in the bottom left, and you can also see as well. I want to quickly note as well, Ghostface can lean. He's the only killer in Dead by Daylight can lean. Rather than standing out in the open for 5 seconds trying to stalk somebody, if you lean behind a wall and peek from the side, you're going to do it in 100% faster rate. 2.5 seconds of leaning behind something will allow you to be able to utilize this information. You're going to be able to prep them. Doesn't matter how far away they are. So if you spawn on a map like Thompson House and you're in the house at the start of the map, go upstairs, take a lean, look around corners. Doesn't matter how far away they are. You can stalk from a very generous distance, something like 45 meters away, to prep somebody. It can be very deadly and dangerous. Something I want to point out, a prepped survivor, if they break you out and you didn't tear up on them and you M1 them or attack them, it'll still take 2 hits to put them in dying state. If they're exposed, it'll take 1 hit. Smart survivors will let you prep them. Then when you pick up their teammate, they will force you to hit them while you're carrying. Because while you're carrying a survivor, you can't activate your ability. You can't crouch, you can't stalk. Therefore, you'll have to hit the other survivor, resetting the stalk. So keep that in mind when you're playing Ghostface. You've got to be mindful with your time management when you choose to stalk, when you choose to not stalk. It's going to be very crucial and important to your success. So keeping that in mind, some people prepped and some people not prepped can be good or bad. Generally, if there's multiple targets on a Jenny, I will go for multiple stacks of Sloppy Butcher unless the Jenny's in an open field and on a map like the Disturbed Ward where I have a field advantage and I can see every point of the generator from upstairs. Keeping in mind, if a survivor breaks you out of stealth, while your ability is activated on them, you can still one-hit down them, providing you catch them in the 30-second timer. That can obviously be changed based on add-ons that Ghostface can choose to run as well. Alright, let's have a look at the build now that we understand the killer a little bit more with a quick nose scratch yet again. What are we looking at? We've got Corrupt Intervention. Corrupt Intervention is going to seal the 3 furthest away generators that is currently from your location when you spawn. That being said, the entity's hand will appear around the generators and they will be sealed. This generator will be glowing white for you to be able to see, but the survivors won't. They'll see the hands instead. The generator will not be able to be worked on for the next 120 seconds, those 3 generators. They're always the furthest 3 away generators from you, and that is good based on the fact that you're 115% moving to killer. You're kind of about stalking and prep, depending on how you want to play it as well. The next perk I have is Discordance. Discordance could be replaced with Thrilling Tremor or Barbecue and Chili. Why do I like Discordance? Because it goes hand in hand with Sloppy. What does Discordance do? When there's more than one target working on a generator, the generator will glow bright green, yellow. I will be able to see it from across the board. They have no indicator unless they understand that's when I'm coming over. It'll be making sound notifications for me to know that there's more than one target there. Then I know 2 people on a Jenny is going to take 47.5 seconds to be done as opposed to 80 seconds. So I can time manage myself around the board to be able to play around that. I can also go for Stalk, Lean. If people are stacking on a generator and I have multiple injured targets, I'm not going to go for the Prep Lean Stalk. I'm just going to go in for the M1 down and play off that. The next perk I have is Pop Goes the Weasel. Pop Goes the Weasel allows me, after I hook a survivor, even though I have no information through Barbecue and Chili, Thrilling Tremor, or even Tinkerer, I have no information like that, I do have Discordance. After I hook a survivor, the next generator I regress is going to go back 25%. Therefore, 25% of a nearly completed generator is 20 seconds. So keeping that in mind, that's very good. And if I know where multiple people are working on gens, I know exactly where I need to apply my pressure. The next perk is Sloppy Butcher. Sloppy Butcher is going to allow me to injure multiple different survivors. When these survivors are currently injured, when they try and heal, it's going to take them longer. If they're using things like Inner Strength, which allows them to heal in a locker in 6 seconds, doesn't get affected by Sloppy Butcher. Adrenaline doesn't get affected by Sloppy Butcher. Botany Knowledge counters Sloppy Butcher as well, but this means if a survivor is going to heal with self-care, rather than take 32 seconds, it's going to take them 40 seconds. It takes a lot longer. It takes 80 seconds to do a Jenny yourself. If you're spending 40 seconds self-caring, that is a win in my book. Keeping in mind, I love Sloppy Butcher on Ghostface for a couple of reasons. In a perfect world, you're going to be able to stalk, lean, and M1 and down everyone in one hit. Well, unfortunately, it's not like that. A lot of people are going to be trying to keep you out of your stalk because it's got a 30-second cooldown, and they're going to be trying to help their friends out so your heartbeat's around the entire board. Keeping in mind, activating your Night Shroud counts as borrowed time because you don't have a heartbeat during that. You can wait at the top of a staircase when somebody's at the bottom and lean if there's a wall, and it's going to take him more than 2.5 seconds to run up the stairs and down him straight away unless he had Sprint Burst, the other guy who just did the hook save. You can do that stalk real fast. The most crucial thing about Ghostface is learning to lean. Learning to lean is going to allow you to stalk twice as fast. The Ghostface that's out in the open and just walking around and crouching, he's not playing Ghostface the correct way. Now, there's no real correct way, but, he's not utilizing his ability to his maximum potential. Sloppy Butcher is going to help me keep the consistency. If multiple people are injured and they want to work on gens, then I can punish them by not going for the stalk and just M1ing them down. Now, a lot of Ghostfaces would swear by Nurses Calling and Thanatophobia and Ruin and Surveillance and all that stuff. This is what I run in the red ranks. It gives me the most success. There's no luck involved. It's all about how I play the match. There's no Ruin and Surveillance combo to know. There's no Nurses Calling and hoping I get lucky and finding people group healing. It's all about what I can do in the time. Only thing that I would say would be luck dependent would be Discordance, knowing that they're stacking on a gen. If nobody stacks on a gen, I get no value out of the perk. But at the same time, because of Corrupt Intervention, I funnel them together through Discordance. So I'm more likely to get it to activate because of this Wombo combo too. At the same time, a lot of people won't expect this kind of build on a Ghostface as it is slightly off meta. Still on meta, but off meta. Keeping in mind, like I said before, Sloppy Butcher, if you apply that to everyone, it'll apply always to your hit. If the guy's full health and you have him prepped and you then stalk him, boom, one hit down. You don't always have to walk around the board with Night Shroud active. If you activate Night Shroud, yes, you lose the light. Yes, you have no heartbeat. Yes, you can stalk. But the second that ends, when you hit a survivor, regardless, if I were to use this ability at the start of a trial, which you should, it doesn't go on cooldown until the ability has been used. Until I hit a survivor, until I get broken out of stalk, then it goes on 30-second cooldown. Sometimes if you just hooked Jeff in the middle of the board and everyone knows where you are, you don't want to activate this. You want to pretend you have barbecue and chili straight away. You just hook Jeff, look at every single generator. Jeff's going to be like, oh, he's got barbecue and chili. Do you have barbecue and chili? You don't. You just mind game the shit out of Jeff. Now Jeff, when he gets off the hook and somebody else gets hooked, Jeff's going to jump into a locker thinking you have barbecue and chili. So you just mind game that guy with making him think you have a perk you don't have because you looked around. You could be going, I don't know which generator to go to, and Jeff's overthinking things with all these complicated things. So it's little plays like that that'll make the time difference you need to be able to get that generator with Pop Goes the Weasel, to be able to stall the timeout that you need, the Sloppy Butcher, to stall the game even longer, to have multiple people injured, to be able to go for the snowball potential. This can be a great build on Ghostface if you know how it works. If you don't know how it works, it can be hard. You do have the consistency through Sloppy Butcher if you get a bad map that's open like Blood Lodge. If you get a small map that's closed, you still have the consistency through Sloppy Butcher. If I just spawned a trial on an indoors map and more than 2 people were on a gen and I'm running over there, depending on the gen's location, 99.9 times I'm just going to run around the corner, I'm going to M1 a guy straight away, and then I'm going to I'm going to change targets straight away to the next survivor. I'm going to try and get Sloppy Butcher on him. I'm going to try and get Sloppy Butcher on him. And then we'll see where we go from there. That will be my play. Unless I came around the corner, I just M1 a dude, and he literally runs to a dead zone. And I'm like, hey, you've got nothing to use. I'll punish him and down him for it. Because if I just M1 that guy, because think about the 2 ways this works. Discordance activates. There's 2, 3, or 4 people on this generator. I jump around the corner. I just M1'd Megan. Megan runs away. I chase Megan. If Discordance activates again, I know there were 3 people there. If it doesn't, I know there were 2 people there, meaning there's 1 person hiding there, or there's 1 person working on that gen, or there's 3 or 4 people. All those calculations happen straight away while you're in that chase with Jeff, if you're thinking right back there what is currently happening. So you can absorb that information and track players straight away while you're doing something else. It just comes down to a little bit of time, and these little tricks and tips will help you become a better killer, understand where your Pop the Weasel needs to go, and all these kind of things. But guys, that is going to be it for Ghostface. There's a lot of ways to run him. This is the build I recommend with no add-ons. If I was forcing like a game map, I would look at replacing Surge with Pop Goes the Weasel with Surge. I'd probably get rid of Corrupt Intervention because I was on the game, and I'd look at running Surveillance in Wake. I could also look at going Nurse's Calling, but a lot of people would predict Nurses, so I wouldn't run that if I would run those offerings. I'd look at running an add-on called the Chew Pen, which is going to reduce my cooldown by 5 seconds, therefore it'll take 25 seconds rather than 30 seconds when it comes out, and I'm not 100% sure on the other add-on. It'll depend if I'll be using multiple toolboxes. If I think I could get the Lean Stalks as well, could get Ghostface caught on tape. It depends on what we're looking at. Anyways guys, like I said, that is going to be all for the video. Make sure you like the video and you subscribe, and make sure you pop into the live streams, Restream DVD 5 days a week for more educational survivor and killer content, guys. Let me know in the comments down below, what build do you run on Ghostface? Do you think he's a strong killer? Do you feel that there could be things change? How do you play him? Do you go for the M1s? Do you go for the stalks? Let us know, guys. Anyways, take care, have a wonderful time, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you. Alrighty guys, and welcome back. Today we're going to be having a look at my up-to-date recommended build for the Executioner. Now, a lot of you guys have been asking about it. Now, I want to point out some very important key factors when deciding your build on Pyramid Head. There are quite a few ways to play him. Now, if you're unaware of his ability, he has a lot going for him. Now, what does his ability do? Well, basically, if he holds right mouse button, he will drag a very large sword along the ground. It's a butcher's knife, but he'll drag it along the ground, making a trail of torment behind him. Any survivor that runs or walks through the trail of torment will scream and have the barbed wire effect around their screen. You'll be able to look in the bottom left-hand side of the screen, and you'll be able to see who is affected by the barbed wire. Now remember this, it's going to be important later on during the video. While Pyramid Head is dragging his sword along the ground, if he presses left mouse button, he will stab the sword into the ground and he will flick it up. When he flicks it up, it'll do an animation where rubble will come out of the ground and can hit survivors, right? It goes through walls, it goes through pallets, it can hit multiple targets. He also can run double duration add-ons, or he can run double range add-ons as well. Keeping in mind, whenever Pyramid Head drags his sword along the ground, it will drain his ability, which will recharge when he's not using his ability. The Trail of Torment will stay on the ground for a period of time as well. That being said, a survivor that urban evades or crouch walks over the Trail of Torment will not be under the effect. If they're already under the effect, they cannot be under the effect again. The effect will last for the rest of the game until you down a survivor. When you down a survivor, you need to make a decision. You can stab the sword through them, which will send them to a cage across the board far away from you, which counts as a hook, or you can hook a survivor. Now, what is the difference? A survivor you stab through the ground will go in a cage right across the board. They will still have 60 seconds before struggle, and then 60 seconds from struggle to death. They will have periodic easy skill checks to land. If they miss it, it'll cut quite a substantial amount of time off their life. Remember, Pyramid Head is a 115% movement speed killer with a 32-meter terror radius, so he cannot get across the board quickly. If he, for whatever reason, comes within heartbeat or very close towards a survivor in the cage, they will instantly get sucked through the ground, the timer will pause, and they'll get teleported across the board. Therefore, he cannot camp somebody in the cage. While a survivor is in the cage, hook saving them does not count as a hook save. Therefore, giving a survivor borrowed time will not work. A survivor having decisive strike will not work. Any deliverance will not work. None of these perks can benefit somebody being in the cage. Remember, Pyramid Head can hit multiple targets as well with his chain move. Now, why would you send somebody to a cage rather than hooking them? It saves time. And you can also do a little cheeky thing. Say I just sent Megan to the cage and she was saved. That means Megan will no longer have the effect of barbed wire. Say Megan gets in the barbed wire again and I down her. I can then cage her again. On the third time that she gets downed and in barbed wire, I can mori her on her location. Now wait, let me explain that. You have to hook a survivor 2 times and then a third time to kill them on hook, or you can cage them 3 times. You can integrate both. You can cage them and then hook them, and then if they're under the effect of the barbed wire, mori them. You can do any order that necessary. Remember, whenever sending them towards the cage will count as a hook. Now, what a lot of really good Pyramid Heads will do is they'll try and get you under the effect of the barbed wire. They will hook you, then they will hook you, then they will mori and kill you on your location. That way they don't have to worry about it for the late game. That's what a lot of good Pyramid Heads will do. A lot of great Pyramid Heads will understand the value between hooking and caging. If I just down Megan, and I hook her, and then Jeff was waiting for a hook save, and I grab Jeff off the hook, I would drop Jeff on the ground, I would stab the sword through Jeff, get Jeff across the board. If Jeff is saved within the next 10 seconds, I know there are at least 2 survivors in that general direction, meaning 1 person is Maya. If I had barbecue, I'd have information provided through the first hook I did as well. Thrilling Tremor will activate when you pick up a survivor as well, therefore Jeff would have given it to me too, if it was still on cooldown from the person that was currently on the hook. Now that might sound like a lot of information. This is a complicated killer, but can work really well if you know how to play him. Now let's walk up and look at his ability a little bit further. Now remember how I told you he stabs the sword into the ground? When he does that, he loses momentum. He'll be holding the sword, and he won't be able to turn his camera to be able to do that hit through the ground, okay? There is a small window of about 1.5 seconds where Pyramid Head lifts up the sword just before he slams it into the ground. The second it's in the ground, he suffers a movement speed penalty. While it's lift up, he doesn't suffer a movement penalty. So literally the 1% Pyramid Head gamers that are really good at him will know that when a survivor is running for a pallet, you lift up the sword, and if he drops the pallet, you slam it and you hit him through the pallet. If he doesn't, you cancel the animation and you M1 him. Much like a Demogorgon shred. Now a Demogorgon will come up to a pallet, activate his face and go for a shred, and if you respect, he'll go through an M1 you. This is the exact same thing, but he can hit you through the pallet when a Demogorgon cannot hit you through the pallet, making it phenomenally good if you know how to play Pyramid Head. Commonly used perks you'll see will be things like I'm all ears. When a survivor fast folds a pallet or a window, you can see them through the wall and try and go for the crazy hit. The longer you channel your ability, the less charge you will have. Now, Pyramid Head is one of the few killers in the game that can use his ability without it being full. Who's a killer that needs their ability full? Let's take a look at the Spirit. When the Spirit activates her phasing, even if she doesn't gap close, the bar will start going down. 2.5 second activation time, 176% movement speed for approximately 4 to 5 seconds with a 12-second downtime. She has to wait for the whole bar to be refilled before she can activate it again. Legion is another example. When Legion hits a survivor with Feral Frenzy, it will reset, but if he cancels the ability, he can't reactivate it till it's at full. Pyramid Head can activate the sword in the ground and hit the survivor. He can then do it again if he misses. He can then do it again if he misses. He can then do it one more time. Now remember, whenever he's slamming it into the ground and he misses, he's on a bit of a cooldown where he can't move for a little bit. He gets a movement penalty. The bar recharges during that time, allowing him to constantly spam the ability. The better you get at Pyramid Head, the less you're going to need to spam it because you can get some crazy hits. It is a very generous hitbox as well in a straight line. Remember, a lot of survivors will look in one direction and sidestep the other way, much like they do against the Huntress. Now that is a basic kit and understanding. basic. There was a lot of information of how Pyramid Head's ability works. Now let's have a look at the perks that I recommend on him. Now you're going to notice Corrupt Intervention. Now realistically, the first perk is based on what do I want to do? Am I a fast killer? Well, I'm 115% movement speed. Can I teleport around the board like Freddy Krueger? No, I can't. Can I get around the board fast like the Billy or Oni? No, I can't. Or the Nurse or the Spirit? No. Therefore, I'm slow. So will I get more value out of Ruin, or will I get more value out of Corrupt, funneling survivors together, and also preventing a 3-gen early, well, helping me with a 3-gen for late game if I go for that? Well, Corrupt is a bargain then. Corrupt is going to bring them closer together. The next perk is Information. Now, I could get rid of Thrilling Tremor for Barbecue or for Modern Abuse, but I already have a 32 meter tear radius. Reducing a 32 meter tear radius to 24 meters isn't going to benefit me as greatly as it would on a Michael Myers. Michael Myers moves at 115% movement speed, and in stage 2 he will be moving at 115% movement speed with a 16 meter heartbeat. Modern Abuser Michael Myers would get a much better benefit, giving him an 8 meter heartbeat in tier 2, a 0 meter heartbeat in tier 1, and a 24 meter heartbeat in tier 3, as opposed to a 24 meter heartbeat Pyramid Head. So therefore, Discordance is not a good option because I'm not going to be able to sneak up on people. So Thrilling or Barbecue is the option. Based on the fact I can't get around the board, quick, what would be a better option? In my personal experience and opinion, I prefer Thrilling Tremor. Thrilling does have a bit of a cooldown, but that is okay. I also have Pop Goes the Weasel for when I hook a survivor. Now, if I was feeling really cheeky, I could get rid of Thrilling Tremor and put on Surveillance based on the fact I'm currently running Surge as well. But remember, I can't get around the board at a very quick rate. Now let's have a look at the next perk I'm looking at. It's for stability. It's Pop Goes the Weasel. Now I want to mention this. Remember how I was talking about stabbing the survivor and making them go through the ground? Well, remember, they have to run through the effect on the ground and have the barbed wire on them for you to be able to do that. Much like a plague, when you're sick and you're coughing, you'll have the same effect at the bottom of the screen. You know, you'll be able to tell if a survivor is under the effect of the barbed wire. Now that being said, if I cage somebody, I do not get barbecue and I do not get barbecue and chili. I do not get Thrilling Tremor. I do not get Pop Goes the Weasel because I sent them to a cage. However, if I down Jeff and he's under the effect, based on if I know where I'm going, I can cage him straight away, or I can pick him up for information through Thrill, and if I felt necessary, I can drop him and cage him. That way I still get that perk. That is a lot of time to waste, and it's not always going to be the right call. That being said, Surge is also going to give me information of who is around, what generators are around, and what is currently going on. Pop will only work when I hook a survivor, and believe it or not, the way I play Pyramid Head is I try and get everyone under the effect of the cage, I try and only hook, and then I try and Mori a survivor after they've been hooked twice. That is generally how I will play it. That being said, if somebody makes a poor play, if I have a 3-gen on one side of the map and I downed a guy in between it, I need to think, how many survivors are left? 4 of them? There's 4 people? I wouldn't hook them in between the 3-gen. Okay, there's only 3 survivors left. How close are these gens to being done? They're really close. I might cage this guy, send him across the board, and get regression on my generators. That way they don't pop adrenaline. So you have to react to the situation that presents itself in the game to be able to get the full beneficial of when to and when not to cage. Some people cage to counter DS. It just depends on what you are going to be doing at the time. Therefore, I do have Pop Goes the Weasel for my stability on objectives. Some people will say Infectious Fright. Infectious can be a good idea if people do stack. Same with All Ears. It's all about what people are doing. Some people run Enduring and don't respect pallets. Some people run Brutal. Enduring isn't a bad choice, because if you're really good with Pyramid Head and you take a pallet stun, you can recover, slam it in the ground, and hit an enemy. They will have time to react, and you will probably need range add-ons, but you can make it work if that's the kind of play you're going for. I don't recommend it. Remember, this is what I am suggesting based off no add-ons. With add-ons, I would probably recommend a bit of a different build. Now, the most common add-ons you will be seeing are things like this right here. Moderately increase the duration, allowing him to be able to use his ability more, spam it out more often. You'll also see this one here, which will allow you to have more reach. You will see quite a few people running double reach as well. It just depends. This will allow your effect to be on the ground for a longer period of time. Now, if you think you can drag your sword through the ground underneath somebody around the hook, that way you can put the effect around them, think again. There is a certain distance where it'll automatically despawn near a hook and a generator, these kind of objectives. So you cannot do that, I'm afraid. Now, the final perk you'll notice is Surge. Whenever I down a survivor through an M1, Surge will activate. If I down somebody through the sword in the ground, it will not activate Surge. Therefore, this is a kind of thing that'll come into effect only 50% of the time, much like Pop Goes the Weasel. Under the right circumstances and I can down somebody making a bad play, I can get both of them. If they made a good play and I have to hit them through the pallet, I cannot get get both of them. I will only get Pop Goes the Weasel, but I will always have stability on a generator. Based on the fact I can't get through the board quickly, I want to have as much regression on objectives as I possibly can. Alternatively, you can look at Ruin and Surveillance with Pop and Surge. Surge does work with Ruin, but Pop will not, but it's there for stability after you lose Ruin. There are a lot of ways you can build this killer. This is just what I recommend to him. Honorable mentions, like I was saying before, would be things like Infectious Fright. You can always give somebody a heartbeat through Dark Devotion. At the same time, you cannot through your special ability. Therefore, you can't give Sloppy Butcher through your special ability. You'll notice it's a very strong core build. In fact, I recommend this build on an up-to-date Doctor build as well that you guys might see in a couple of videos as well. That also being said, that's going to cover it as well. If we have a look at his iridescent perk, his iridescent add-ons, what do we got? Basically, when sending a survivor to the Cage of Torment, reveal the auras of everybody else for 6 seconds. So when you stab somebody through the ground, they get sucked in, and they're in a cage, you can see where everybody else is. It's both good and bad. Remember, you want to save the cages generally for the Mori, depending on the map and the situation you're currently in. And this basically gives him Insidious when he's walking on the Trail of Torment on the ground, which is very bad, unfortunately. Anyways, guys, that's going to be all for an educational, informative, up-to-date understanding Pyramid Head and what I recommend for him. Guys, if you enjoyed the video, make sure you slap that subscribe button. I do educational survivor and killer content all the time over at Twitch. If you want to pop in the live stream, if you think you know everything about DBD, you can help me teach the people that do not. Anyways, guys, thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the fog in the next video. Okay guys, welcome back. We're going to be doing another educational, informative look at another killer that a lot of people have been asking me about, and this build here is my hidden gem Doctor build. I never see anyone run. That is OP in my opinion. Now, a lot of you guys are going to be looking at that and going, wow Goose, that is a crazy build, and you're right, it's just so crazy it might work. With the right add-ons, it could be even better. However, we're going to run you through it real quick. Now, the common builds that you're going to be looking at when you verse a Doctor is you're going to be looking at things like Pop, things like Overcharge, Unnerving Presence, or Overwhelming Presence, depending on the kind of build he's running. You're going to be looking at a doc that plays around proxying generators. Now, my whole build is about playing to stop objectives. Now, you might look at this and not understand the perks, but that is okay. So let's quickly get into it. Like always, guys, make sure you hit that subscribe button for more educational survivor and killer content like this, but let's get straight into it. Now, realistically, when I build a killer, and if you're new to Dead by Daylight, following these 4 principles will help you out a lot. Now, you should generally have a gen protection perk, a situational awareness perk, a stall perk, and a utility perk. My Doctor doesn't really follow those rules. My Doctor has a stall perk, has a stall perk, has a regression perk, and has another stall perk, or basically a perk that allows me to get out the stall. So this build is a little whack. I could show you a more comfortable build, but remember, this is the build I recommend at rank 1 with no add-ons. You can make it work really well with add-ons if you're going to force a game offering, for example, and you're going to be running double calm add-ons. Like, you're looking at calm, and you're looking at a game offering, you'll be putting the survivors in a very difficult situation. Now, I'm going to skip over Dead Man Switch. It's a little hard to explain. I'll get back to that momentarily. Thrilling Tremor. What does this perk do? When I down a survivor and I pick them up, all generators will be glowing white for 16 seconds that do not have survivors on it. Remember, there are only 4 survivors in a trial. I've downed 1, I've picked them up. Worst case scenario, 3 generators aren't glowing white. Any generator that is not glowing white means the survivor is currently working on it. If 2 generators are currently not glowing white, that means there is either 2 survivors accounted for, or there's 2 on one and 1 on the other, or 2 on one and then 1 on the other. I don't know. That means one person's MIA. Now, if you don't know how the Doctor's ability works, it's very complicated, but I'll try and explain it. This has a 60-second cooldown. The generator will have an entity's hand over it for 16 seconds, meaning people cannot work on the jennies during this time. Just a fun fact as well, while the generators are sealed, no one can work on it. There's nothing you can do. So just keep that in mind. This is the superior version to Barbecue on a lot of the killers, but it does have a cooldown. Keep that in mind. And depending on your add-ons, if obviously you're running movement speed add-ons, Barbecue would be better, but the Doctor doesn't have any movement speed add-ons. The next perk is Surge. Like I said in the previous video, Surge is a hidden gem. What does it mean? When I down a survivor, every generator that a survivor is currently working on, or in fact, not even that, when a survivor is downed, any generator within 32 meters that has had anyone work on it previously, that generator is now going to get regressed 8% of what is complete, and it's going to start regressing at 0.3% per second. So that is amazing. So if Jeff is underneath me working on a Jenny, and I just downed Nia, if I can manage to down Nia, and the generator explodes, and then pick Nia up, Jeff can't get back on the Jenny. Now, there's about a 2-second window between there, which can obviously be cut down based on save the best for last, based on including things like Infectious Fright. Infectious Fright and Surge do not stack in terms of time survivors can't do anything. They stack in terms of the generator will explode and the survivor will do the animation, but it doesn't make like a longer stun animation. Just keep that in mind. So, the whole build comes together with Nemesis. Now, what does Nemesis do? When a survivor decisive strikes me, flashlights me, pallet stuns me, if they do any of these actions, even stun me through head-on out of a locker, they become my obsession. Now, what does this mean? Why is this good? Well, while they're my obsession, they will not be able to hear my heartbeat. They will have oblivious status as well, keeping that in mind. When they pallet stun me, their aura will be revealed for 4 seconds. They will be glowing bright pink. Therefore, I can moonwalk, I can hide my light, I can twist. Remember, I'm a doctor. I can counter loops pretty easily if I play right. So that there is a hidden gem on itself. Remember, he will have no heartbeat. He will see the red stain, but he won't have a heartbeat for the next 1 minute. So if I left chase and I did something else, this guy still doesn't have a heartbeat. Just because he can't hear it doesn't mean he's not in it. Therefore, when I use anything like a shock ability, if he's still within 32 meters, he will experience it. Just because he can't hear the heartbeat doesn't mean it's not there. It's different to Freddy. Now, this first perk is where the whole build comes together. This is Dead Man Switch. This is a very hard to explain perk, so bear with me. I'll do my best. It is a DeathSlinger perk. Basically, when you hook your obsession, has to be your obsession, no one else. Therefore, this is why Nemesis is in the build, to force the person to become my obsession. When you hook your obsession, any generator a survivor starts working on and then gets off will be locked for 45 seconds from the time I hooked that other person. Alright? So why is that good? I just downed Jeff and picked Jeff up. Every generator is currently glowing white through Thrilling Tremor, but 2 generators. I now know survivors are on those 2 generators. I walk in between the both of them. I push the control key to activate the doctor's ability. This will take 3 seconds. It's called Static Blast. Anyone within 32 meters, when I release Static Blast, will scream and put their hands in the air. You just let go of the generator to do the animation. Therefore, the generator in front of you cannot be worked on for the next 45 seconds. Do you see the synergy coming together here? Therefore, I can steal a Jenny for 16 seconds, plus another 45 seconds. I can steal a generator for over 61 seconds. Over 1 minute, you cannot work on the generator. Now, something I want to point out here, full disclaimer, is if I were to down somebody through Surge and pick up a gen, the generator does not regress while sealed. Even if I had regression on it, doesn't mean the Jenny's going to regress for 61 seconds. No. It will stop. Nobody can work on it. It won't go up. It won't go back. It's just sealed. Now, that is my doctor build. I find it whack. I've never seen anyone else run it. I've been having a lot of fun and a lot of success with it. Nobody expects it, keeping in mind that you can force Dead Man Switch to work through Nemesis. You could replace Nemesis if you were good at tracking your obsession, but at the same time, you'd only get Dead Man Switch to work 3 times in a trial. Now I can get Dead Man Switch to realistically work 12 times in a trial. Therefore, Nemesis is important. Surge is substitute to change. You might have more convenience with Pop Goes the Weasel, but Surge with the time management is very important and crucial with the Doctor. Keeping in mind, I need to get around the board and be able to... Remember, I don't have a movement speed enhancement. I'm 115%. You could get rid of Surge and run play with your food. Don't know why you do it. It wouldn't be good for your build in the slightest, because you wouldn't have stability on regression. You'd get gen rushed into the ground unless you had a good map like Liar's Institute. Or not Liar's Institute, like the game where Jennies are on top of each other and you can funnel people together. It could be really good. I actually replaced Surge with Haunted Ground at one point. It worked phenomenally well, but the consistency I get through Surge is actually flawless. Now, I can really stand by and say this is an off-meta build. I highly recommend it. It is crucial and fun to play with. It makes the Doctor feel like a brand new killer and really good when you get the gist of it. I've never ran into anyone else running it. I don't know if you've ran it. If you've ran it before, let me know in the comments down below. But like I said, if you want to be a really strong Doctor, you can run double calm add-on. And you can also run a game offering. Now you're forcing survivors to a map where the gens are bunkered on top of each other. You have double calm, so when you use the control key, you're on cooldown, your heartbeat is lowered. But when you don't, and you use Static Blast, your heartbeat is more than 32 meters. Therefore, you seal generators even further away. Now, walking through the Doctor's ability a bit more, the Doctor has 2 abilities. First one is press the control key. You will hold your hand out and then you'll do a bang. Anyone within your heartbeat, therefore 32 meters, will be increased with distressing and moderate abuse if you're currently in chase. Anyone within your heartbeat will scream and tear up through Madness. Madness has 3 stages. Madness 1, Madness 2, Madness 3. Madness 1, the generator skill check will randomly appear over the screen. Madness 2, an illusion of the Doctor will appear, looking in the direction of the survivor for a current period of time. Unlike the Hag, when you trigger a Hag's trap, the Hag's trap follows you round. When the Doctor's ability triggers, it will stand stationary. Survivor can run round, Survivor can run through, but it'll be looking in one set direction for the period of time. If he's across the board, it'll give you good information as well, but keeping in mind, it's not a really good, valid way of tracking unless you had Static Blast off cooldown. You can then go, there's a guy around here, Static Blast, and find him straight away. I do love this build on Doctor. The Doctor can hold right click on a mouse. Now recently the Doctor suffered a massive nerf, and that nerf was he can now no longer build Bloodlust and use his ability. It was a little overpowered before. If you experienced it, you'll know what I mean. Much like Freddy received that nerf a while ago too, where he can no longer place a blood pool while building his ability, which is fair, it's balanced, don't get me wrong. This being said, when the Doctor shocks, it'll come out in front of him at about a 4 or 5 meter range. If you are hit by the shock, you will scream and put your hands in the air, like you just don't care. I'm sorry, I tried to make it rhyme, please. You'll put your hands in the air, and when you do that, this is animation lock. You will see in the bottom right-hand side of your screen a little bar going around. During this time, you cannot use a pallet, you cannot use a locker, you cannot vault a window, you cannot hook save, you cannot search a chest, you cannot savo, you cannot open a door, you can't do nothing. You are in animation lock. Keep that in mind. So a lot of Doctors will moonwalk, hide their light, shock, twist, and walk right through a pallet that you won't be able to loop or throw down because you're in animation lock. You won't be able to dead hard over it. You won't be able to exhaust you. There's nothing you can do during that time. If the Doctor was to shock you while you've just fell off a hill and you land, you will be able to balance landing. That is like the only time. Based on the lag on a dedicated server, you can shock somebody as they're going through a window, then life will activate, etc. But it can be very hard to use. Every time a survivor is shocked, you will then increase their madness. Madness 2, like I said, the clone will appear and the skill checks will be around... Madness stacks. So every effect from Madness will be applied to the higher tier Madness. When a survivor hits Madness 3, they instantly go back to 1 when they snap out of it. What does Madness 3 do? Well, a survivor will be doing a different run animation with their hands up and grabbing their face. During this animation, they cannot mend. That's very important to note. So they cannot mend. They cannot work on a generator. They cannot heal. They can be healed, but they can't do it. They cannot open an exit gate. The only thing a survivor can do is a hook save during that time. There might be 1 or 2 other little things around it, but the important thing is they can do a hook save. So keeping this in mind, if you get a survivor in tier 3, and then you M1 him, and he needs to run away and mend, you can moonwalk behind him while chasing him. This is high skill doc shit. I'm talking thousands of hours of gameplay understanding. You can moonwalk to be out of chase while he can't mend, while he can't snap out of it, because he has to snap out of it and then he has to mend. Full disclaimer, when a person is snapping out of it, they have to land skill checks. If they miss a skill check, the bar goes back. This being said, if they get to 99% snap out of it and I shock them, the snap out of it bar does not reset. They can literally just tap the key and they're out of madness. Now there are different add-ons that'll give you different benefits. They are very complicated to go into, like the Iridescent King and Queen. As you can see, they give a lot of static effects. It's going to take me too long to cover them all in one video. But this is my build that I like on the Doctor. Like I said, honorable mentions, you'll see Docs running Barbecue, you'll see them running Pop, you'll see them running Overcharge, the odd guy with Lullaby, sometimes Discordance if people are going to funnel together, even Ruin, but this is a really off-meta build that I've never seen anyone run. Give it a go. Let me know what you think about it in the comments down below. Like I said before, guys, make sure you slap that subscribe button for more educational and informative content. Keep in mind, all my builds are based off games that I play in the red ranks at rank 1 with no add-ons, generally against pre-made squads as well. So hopefully you guys will have fun, and don't forget to pop into the live stream where I stream DBD 5 days a week. It'd be great to have you in there. If you think you know everything about DBD, you can help me teach people that don't. If you're just new to the game and you want to learn, you want some tips and tricks, definitely the place to tune in. Alright guys, have a wonderful rest of your day, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next informative video. We're going to be doing an educational, informative video about the pig. Now, a lot of people look at this killer and think she's one of the stronger killers. Now, I'm going to have to disagree with that based on a couple of factors. Now, there are a lot of different builds you can run on the pig, right? I'm not going to say there's any set in stone, god tier, perfect build that's going to work really well on the pig based on the fact that it is RNG based. What do I mean by that? So let's have a little bit of a closer look at the pig, right? Currently, I'm running Haunted Ground, Barbecue and Chili, Pop Goes the Weasel, save the best for last. This build is easily subject to change. I don't think it's the best build in the game. I don't, not for the pig. You're relying on RNG for them to break Haunted Ground. You're relying on good RNG off your helmets. It's literally a luck-based piggy build. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna try and tell you it's the best. I'm gonna let you know that when I play rank 1, I have a lot of fun with this build. Do I 4K a lot? Next question. Alright, what do we got here? This is the pig's ability. This is Amanda's ability. It is basically a bear trap that you're allowed to put on somebody's head. As you can see in her hand, this is referred to as a reverse bear trap. When a survivor is has a bear trap on their head, what has to happen prior? Well, first of all, the killer has to catch you. So she has to outplay you, have you on the ground. Once you're in dying state, she can walk up behind you, press right mouse button, and put the helmet on your head. When the helmet is on your head, nothing happens. When a generator is completed, the timer starts ticking on your head. Very cool concept, I'm not gonna lie. When you initiate chase with this survivor, the timer pauses. Therefore, tunneling them while they have it on the head is not the right call for a lot of the situations you're in or overcommitting to the chase, right? A generator has to complete for the helmet to activate. The survivor now has 3 minutes to search 4 boxes throughout the board to get this helmet off their head. Every box has a random chance for them to be able to get the helmet off straight away. So these are jigsaw boxes. You put your hands in, you then have to land skill checks, and when you complete, there will be a little guy above that does a little cheeky laugh. If you got it wrong, if you got it right, you pull the helmet off and you're alive. If the 3-minute timer expires, the helmet snaps, snap, crackle, pop. I will see you in the next trial. It's just like instantly executing the survivor. Now this seems really strong and overpowered at first. Let's take a look at the facts. A, you need to catch the survivor first. Therefore, if you ran the best add-ons on the pig, or you're looking at some of the stronger ones, like the Crate of Gears and the Tampered Timer. Crate of Gears is... No, not the Crate of Gears, sorry. I'm going to be looking at the Jigsaw box. So, it doesn't mention this, but let me explain this. Remember, like I said, there are 4 boxes around the board. Running a Jigsaw sketch piece, or a sketch, whatever it's called, is going to add an additional box. Now there's 5 boxes. 5 boxes to search with 3 minutes on your head? That's not a lot of time. If you run that add-on, survivors get an extra 30 seconds to get the helmet off their head. It doesn't tell you that though, so that's rough. So, if we were to get rid of this box, and we have this, now there's 4 boxes, and you have 2 minutes and 30 seconds to get the helmet off your head. You have 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So Tampered Timer can be great. However, what do both these add-ons require? They require you to hook or get a survivor into dying state so you can put the helmet on their head. Therefore, you have to catch them. So all these great add-ons are based off when they have the helmet on their head. These brown add-ons down here slightly decrease ambush charge time, and decrease crouch time. They're all about having a survivor caught. So the other ability a pig has is called ambush. If she presses the control key, the heartbeat will fade as if she ran out of your heartbeat or ran out of range, or if she had insidious, both fades. The heartbeat is now gone. I want to keep in mind, I want to remind you guys that the heartbeat fades. So if you try and crouch when somebody's doing a borrowed time save, you better hope they're more than 3 seconds out, because that's how long it's going to take your heartbeat to approximately fade away. When the heartbeat is gone, you'll be crouch walking, you'll be really low to the ground, lower than the hag. Lower than the floor. Alright, so you're going to be really low, and you're going to be able to be spotted easily, but the grass is going to be up in your face. It's going to be hard for you to see. That being said, you have no heartbeat and you can ambush. When you ambush, you hold left click. Your character, your pig, will make a loud roar for no reason at all to reveal your location. You will then pull your hand up and you'll do a dash at an incredible movement speed. It's about 136%. I'm not 100% sure at that movement speed. I'm not 100%, so don't quote me on the numbers there. You do a massive lunge, and then the survivor, if they take a hit, you'll do a normal recovery time hit, and if you miss, you'll fatigue after that, and you'll have to go. So what a lot of piggies like to do is they like, when you're at a really good jungle gym, to crouch, make it look like they go one way, and then they go the other way. They'll, and they'll do a twist. That dash only lasts for about 4 seconds as well, so keep in mind, they've got to catch up to you. I think it's around 160 movement speed to be precise. It isn't great, because a good survivor will just sidestep the jungle gym when you crouch to go for a mind game and leave. And then you're lunging at no one in nowhere. So waste time. I generally use it to get around the board. Therefore, if I'm running a perk like Discordance and Sloppy Butcher, I know where multiple people are stacking on Jennies to do objectives. I then have Sloppy Butcher applied to them, so they're most likely either greeting for the gen, and then I either take Pop or Surge. If I take Surge, I'll down the guy, I'll slug him under the generator, and then I'll make a decision, do I want to chase the other guy or do I want to go for the slug on the ground? Sometimes people run Knockout on the pig so they can down somebody, then they put a blindness add-on on the helmet. Therefore, they can't see any of the teammates, and they're on the ground, so they have to be very close to see them, so they don't know where to crawl, and then the bleed-out timer starts for them. Then they got to go looking for their teammates, so they're not wasting time doing objectives or using their time. So there's a lot of ways to play the pig. Now, let's talk about the build that I've got here. I have Haunted Ground. Haunted Ground is by far one of the funnest perks that I like to use on a killer that doesn't have a form of lethality. By lethality, I mean instant down. Now, yes, the nurse doesn't have an instant down, but I still don't think she needs it. I don't think the spirit needs it, but it's still pretty cheeky to run on the spirit regardless as well. Haunted Ground. There's going to be 2 lit totems on the board. There's 5 totems when the game starts. 2 of them are going to be glowing, also referred to as a lit totem as opposed to a dull totem. When a lit totem is broken that was Haunted Ground, it is a trap. All survivors will now go down in 1 hit, providing it is an M1. Your ability hits, therefore the pig's ambush, a Demogorgon shred, a Huntress's projectile, throwing hacks will not instant down, but your M1s will. It's the exact same as Make Your Choice, but on every single person. And the only prerequisite is they have to have broken the totem. Keep in mind, if both totems are there and one is broken, the other one instantly becomes unlit. This allows you to down somebody in 1 hit, therefore making it more likely you can get your party hat or your reverse bear trap out at a quicker rate. I then have Barbecue and Chili. Now, realistically, Thrilling Tremor is a better option than Barbecue, but Barbecue and Chili tells me where people are throughout the board, and I generally use Barbecue and Chili to go for the person that's trying to get the helmet off the head. Because remember, he has to run around the board and find these jigsaw boxes where he has to put his hands in, and it takes time for him to get the helmet off. Therefore, if I come over there and down him off that, I can slug him under the box, or I can hook him beside the box, and I know roughly where he's going to be, because he's on a timer, remember, to get that helmet off his head. So that's why I like Barbecue and Chili for the information. At the same time, I have to catch somebody for Barbecue to activate, and Pig isn't a strong killer to catch. Therefore, Enduring, Spirit Fury, Bamboozled, Brutal Strength are commonly used perks on her to speed up the game in her favor, as she lacklusters in those departments. If you look at my build, I lackluster in those departments as well, based on the fact I do not have any form of those forms of pressure. I don't have nothing to assist me getting through the game faster, apart from my mind games, my wits, and understanding rotations. Alright, so you guys will know I generally follow the 4 principles when it comes to building a perk. I have 1 perk for situational awareness, which is the second one. I have 1 perk for gen protection. At the moment, I have Haunted Ground as opposed to Corrupt Intervention or Ruin. I have 1 potion, 1 perk for stall, and I have 1 utility perk. Save the best for last. Now, Pop Goes the Weasel, what does it do? Once you hook a survivor, this will activate. Therefore, I'll get information through Barbecue where I need to go, where people are working on objectives. When I regress a generator, it will regress 25% of what is completed. It takes 80 seconds to do a generator by yourself. Therefore, at 80 seconds, then when a generator is done, that is 100%. Therefore, 25% of 80 is 20. So therefore, it knocks off 20 seconds off of a generator, and large red sparks will be coming out. If I was using Surge, small red sparks will be coming out. But large red sparks will be coming out, letting people know I have Pop Goes the Weasel. They'll instantly lose 20 seconds, and it will start regressing at 0.3% per second. If I were to have Ruin, I couldn't use Pop Goes the Weasel. It is impossible unless Ruin has been broken at the time. So Pop is there for the stability after Barbecue. Save the best for last. Save the Best for Last is a good perk on Pig. I would say it's an S perk, but I wouldn't say it's an S+. It's an S+, or an S++ on Demogorgon. It is by far Demo's best perk. I'll explain that in the Demogorgon video. However, on the Pig, it's really good. Why is it good? Now, on-hit effects are no longer applied to an ambush attack. You used to be able to ambush, come around the corner with no heartbeat, and apply Sloppy Butcher, or apply Make Your Choice. You can no longer do that. That being said, you can no longer consume stacks of Save the Best for Last while using your ambush. So what does Save the Best for Last do? Every time you attack a successful hit on a survivor that is not your obsession, you receive a token. There is no cooldown on the tokens, therefore you can get them really fast, alright? Every token represents 5% cooldown on a successful hit for your recovery time, up to a total of 8 tokens, which is 40% CDR on every attack that you would do. If an obsession runs in your way and you M1 him, you will recover from however many tokens you had at the time of hitting the obsession. You have 8 tokens, you recover from 8 even though you have 6. Then when you hit him again, you recover from 6 even though you have 4. However, if you were to crouch and ambush hit the obsession, you consume 0 tokens, allowing you to stay the powerhouse when you have all the tokens. The issue with the tokens is they take a lot of time to ramp up. If you find your obsession early, that can be good for you to snowball, get a helmet on him, and then, you know, you don't have to worry about him stopping or body blocking you to get rid of the save the best for last stacks. Now, it is a great perk. Realistically, I would rather Sloppy Butcher for the consistency over Save the Best for Last. I know a lot of people are going to look at the build and go, wow, that's an interesting endgame god tier pig build. I don't think it's an endgame god tier pig build. I think it's fun and it works for me. I could run Devour, I could run a lot of different things. The thing about the pig is I don't think there's any proper build that I would say would be the best build in the game. Fun fact about the pig, she recently got a rework. Alright? You used to be able to put a helmet on a survivor's head when all exit gates are powered. Therefore, when all 5 gens are completed, and you down a survivor through no-ed or through outplaying them, and put a helmet on, helmet instantly starts ticking when they get up. That is no longer the case. If a survivor has a helmet on their head, and they finish the final generator, then the timer ticks. If they try to run through the exit gate with the helmet on, they instantly die. Now, you might think, wow, that sounds OP. However, if you give them the helmet after exit gates are powered, it does nothing. That being said, a survivor can escape via the trapdoor or the hatch with a ticking timer on their head without any form of penalty. So if the guy has a key, he can get out and doesn't have to worry about the helmet off. So you've got to keep that in mind too. She's not the best killer in the game. I put the pig down there near the bottom, to be honest. She's fun. She has a lot of great builds, Amanda. There are some great one-trick Amanda mains out there. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to say she's map-dependent. I'm going to say she's fun. She's RNG-dependent to a degree, depending on how lucky you are with your helmets. At the same time, I think she's a great killer. She's fun to play. She has a pretty cool build. She comes with Make Your Choice if you choose to purchase her. She also got Surveillance, which is a fantastic perk, and she has Hangman's Trick, which is a bit of a giggle. Right, so she has some cute teachables. Do keep in mind she's 115% movement speed. She's shorter than a lot of the other killers like Trapper, so you can do some Moon Game Mind Walk plays that normally you'd be able to be seen over the top if a survivor was watching you, based on the fact they can see you in third person. You know, she won't be able to be seen over some of those jungle gyms, so she's got that going for her. She's fun. Give her a go. Anyways, guys, that's going to be all for this week's video on the Hag. Today's video on the Hag. Today's video on the pig. God, way to go to butcher it at the end. Alright, guys, I hope you had a wonderful time. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you pop into the educational live streams where I stream DVD 5 days a week for more great content like this. And if you guys think you know everything about Killer, you can help me teach people that don't. But guys, thank you all for watching. And let me know in the comments down below, what pig build do you like to run? I'd love to know what you guys run, how you run it. It'd be really interesting to compare your build to the build that I run. Thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Alright guys, and welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at another educational informative build that I choose to run on my Huntress. Keep in mind that all my builds are based off being at rank 1, running no add-ons and versing 4-man pre-mades. Now there's going to be a lot of Huntress mains out here that can swear by certain perks like Modern Abuse, Barbecue and Chili, Nurse's Calling, Shadowborn, Ruin, Agitation, sometimes Brutal Strength. Now that's pretty much what a lot of the Huntresses run. Now you're going to be able to see that my Huntress build is a little bit different, and I'm going to explain to you why that is, keeping in mind that no add-ons are taken into account. My build has 4 perks, much like everyone else, and the 4 perks represent 4 different points. What are these 4 points? A Gen Protection perk. The Gen Protection perk I've chosen is Corrupt Intervention. What does this mean? I'm a 110% movement speed killer, therefore me trying to get around the board, if I were to spawn on a map like the Mountain, there's going to be 3 gens if I'm in the middle of the map that are all sealed on massive different areas on the map, and it's going to be hard for me to get over there and down a survivor and pick him up and then hook him and then get to another generator and regress it and then apply pressure without losing 2 to 3 gens based on how unbalanced and how large the map is in its current state right now, based on the fact of the killer that I'm playing. If I was playing somebody like Freddy Krueger, somebody like the Billy, it would be a bit of a different story, but based on the fact, yet again, like I said, I'm moving at 110% movement speed because I'm a slow killer. Now, being a slow killer, I want to make sure that my build comes together and allows me to make up for the time that I'm lacking. As a Billy, I move at 230% movement speed across the board with no add-ons. As a Huntress, I'm only 110. Therefore, technically, I'm moving less than half the speed of the Billy, which is a bit scary. Now, the next perk I'm going to have is going to be Situational Awareness. Now, Situational Awareness is Thrilling Tremor for me. Personally, people would take Barbecue and Chili so they can go for the cross maps with the hatchets. Why would I take Thrilling Tremor? And Iron Maiden's a very common one that a lot of Huntresses use too. Thrilling Tremor. I like it because this is going to tell me what generators are sealed. If I see multiple Jennies sealed, if I manage to see every generator sealed and I just hooked a guy, this means I got time to go to the locker, I've got time to grab something out of the locker, and I've got time to take a field of view, height advantage over the map, and be able to see from a hill what kind of information is being provided. Maybe go for a cheeky cross map with a hatchet. It just depends on the information that is provided. If for whatever reason 2 or 3 gens that are currently being worked on and I just hooked a guy, I'm going to go straight in between the 2 generators that are closest together as opposed to the other one, depending on what's going to happen if they complete those gens. Keeping in mind I'm 110% movement speed killer, sometimes sacrificing gens, much like on a trapper, you're about prepping. Sometimes sacrificing that gen on a platform in the corner of the board with 3 jungle gyms and a machine gun is the correct thing to do, based on the fact that's going to be out of your rotation loop. So keeping in mind, some generators are more valuable than others, especially when you're playing a slow movement speed or a prep-based killer. If you're playing Freddy Krueger, you can really call the bluff wherever you are on the map regardless. The next perk is going to be for consistency on stability, also known as a stall perk. This perk is going to allow me to regress a generator after I hook somebody at a whopping 25%. Now, it takes 80 seconds to do a Jenny. 25% of 80 is 20, therefore 20 seconds is instantly deleted off a Jenny. Giant red sparks will be coming out of the generator, not to be fused with Surge. Surge, generator will explode, there'll be small red sparks coming out. The sparks are 2 completely different sizes. Keeping in mind that while a generator is regressing, it will always regress at the rate of default, which is 0.3% per second, unless you have Ruin. Now, a lot of people don't know that if you have Ruin, somebody's working on a Jenny, you just down somebody with Surge. Surge will regress that Jenny the 8%, then Ruin will take in effect for that. A lot of people don't realize that. That way, Surge can entwine with Ruin, in case you wanted to put that in your build as well, and Surveillance for whatever reason. I'm not sure if you want to run all 3 of those perks, but it could work. Now, the next perk is going to be probably the most crucial part, or the second most crucial piece to the puzzle. Obviously, the most crucial is stalling the beginning of the trial, seeing what I can do in 120 seconds. That's pretty much going to tell me how the trial is going to go. Is it going to be a hard game? Is it going to be a smooth game? Is it going to be an easy game? Can you take your foot off the pedal? Depends. Are you going to have enough rotation? Are they funneling together? Are they altruistic? What kind of survivors are versing? Are they good loopers? Are they split pressuring? It just gives you a lot of time to be able to understand what is happening in that period of time. This also being said, Discordance. Discordance is going to be the key to your success, based on the fact you're 110% movement speed, you're a slow movement killer, right? There are killers that are slower. Michael Myers at 105, Nurse at 96.5, bar the fact that Nurse can blink. So you're one of the slowest killers in the game. This being said, you want to know where you're going at all times. Rather than running Whispers, which is another common perk another common perk that a lot of Huntresses swear by, rather than running that, you're going to be able to go, okay, this generator is pulsating, therefore there are multiple targets on this generator. There's 2, 3, or 4 players over here, so I will rotate over here with my highest chance of being able to apply pressure towards multiple targeting. That being said, I know if I down one, I'm going to get good value out of my Pop Goes the Weasel. 2 people on a Jenny will get it done in 47.5 seconds as opposed to 45 seconds as of the recent changes to toolboxes and generator speed with multiple targets on it with the 15% diminishing returns that it has now. So, keeping this in mind, this is what I refer to as a utility perk. So just to one over and cap, we have a gen protection perk, we have a situational awareness perk, we have a stall perk, and a utility. Realistically, you can put whatever you want in the utility. You'll notice that my build comes with a lot of information. I have 2 information perks. I have a perk that's going to stop them from doing gens, and I have a perk to give me stall and regression and allow me to come back into the trial from a snowball, especially if I get multiple stacks out with my Pop Goes the Weasel. You can only have 1 stack at a time, but if I were to down Jeff, kick a generator, pick Jeff up, then hook Jeff, and somebody went and tapped that generator, then I can kick the generator again, I can get popped twice, keeping in mind sometimes using pop in different areas would be the correct call. It also depends on what kind of late game you're looking at. Do you have a 3, 4 gen strat? Is there a gen on a platform upstairs, down there? Do you know where every target is? Now, like I said, guys, honorable mentions. Monitor and Abuse, smaller heartbeat, 24-meter heartbeat down to 16 meters. Lullaby isn't pinpoint directionable, can really throw some people off. Shadowborn, so you've got the field of view to help you out. Iron Maiden, so you can reload quicker. Nurse's Calling, so you can see people healing outside of your heartbeat. You've also got barbecue and chili information when you hook somebody, so you can go for the cross maps. Some people would say Ruin, brutal strength for the pallets that you choose to respect rather than pulling up. You can break them straight away. You can do a couple of cheeky mind games with it as well. I've even seen a few Huntresses with Bamboozled. I couldn't recommend it though. So there's a lot you can run on her, but this is what I choose to run in the red ranks, and this is what gives me the most amount of success when I play, as opposed to the fact that I'm using no add-ons as well. With add-ons, the build would change, but this is what, as somebody who, I'm not a Huntress main, somebody who plays Huntress and has a good time running a build like this. Anyways, guys, that's going to be all for this week's video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button for more educational survivor and killer content that'll be coming in the near future. And guys, don't hesitate to pop in a live stream where I stream DBD 5 days a week. You guys take care and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you, guys. Righty guys, and welcome back in. We're going to be taking another closer look into Oni and what I recommend and what I've seen a lot of people run. Now, being a rank 1 player, I've ran into quite a few Onis based on the fact I do put him in the top 5 best killers in Dead by Daylight, even without add-ons. Now, that being said, we're going to go quickly over what I currently have selected on the screen. Now, currently, this is the most meta Oni build that you're going to see, generally in a lot of the rank 1 games. Now, there are variations, obviously using Corrupt, using Ruin, Surveillance, even the new Tinkerer that got a bit of a buff. But let's go through what we got here. Now, what do we know about Oni? Just from start off with, here's his basic kit. He comes with Zanzin Tactic, he comes with Blood Echo, and Nemesis. Nemesis being one of the best perks in the game to stack with Play With Your Food, if that is a combo that you are going for. Blood Echo working on killers like Hag, but not very being able to be utilized efficiently and effectively. Also works well on somebody like a Nurse or even a Ghostface if you have consistency on injured targets through Sloppy Butcher. Wouldn't recommend it on any of them though, but still, moving on to Zanzin Tactic, it's basically the killer version of Windows of Opportunity for survivors, just to help the killer out. Now, that being said, what do we know about Oni? Oni is a 115% movement speed killer in Dead by Daylight. He has no ability that can be powered until he hits a survivor. When Oni hits a survivor with his sword that you can see over his shoulder, he will build his Fury. Okay, when a survivor is hit, they will leave blood on the ground and it will give Oni 45% of his ability for his actual power. Now, if he hits the same survivor that was not currently injured, he will get nothing out of it. For him to hit a full health survivor is when he gets to 45%. When Oni has fully built up his ability. So while a survivor is injured, they'll be leaving blood on the ground. They'll also be leaving blood orbs. Blood orbs Oni can see, and a survivor can see blood orbs when they initially drop. Unless he has his ultra rare add-on, survivors cannot see their own blood orbs. When they're on the ground, they'll disappear for them, but they will remain there for the entire trial. Oni can walk over and kind of suck the blood orbs into his hand. When he's fully enraged, you will hear a drum sound. You will also see his hand will be glowing red. Oni will then be able to push the control key, he will scream, he'll put his sword away, and he'll pull this very large hammer off of his back, which we can kind of see there. With this hammer, he's now going to be able to dash at 195% movement speed with no penalty towards collision. Now, in hindsight, the Hillbilly is 230% both prior to nerf and after his rework. I wouldn't really call it a nerf, it's a bit of a rework. Now, that also being said, he's 195% movement speed. He has no penalty for collision. He can turn incredibly well, and he can also flick almost 180 degrees with a multi-hit instant down dash. Yes, that's a mouthful, and he's very powerful with it. So you're going to notice a lot of people will be running Infectious Fright on their Oni. That being said, his ability lasts 45 seconds. If he is to pick up a survivor from dying state, grab a survivor out of a locker, these things turn off his ability. However, being pallet stunned does not turn off his ability like a Plague while she has her Vile Emmet, or however you want to refer to it, as active. So you can pallet stun an Oni and he won't lose his ability. Now, when he holds M1 while he has his hammer out, he has the longest lunge in the game. That being said, it is a multi-hit instant down, keeping that in mind. All he has to do is hold his button for about 1 second, and that will instantly down a survivor in full health, as opposed to if he taps it, it'll just do 1 stage of damage as well. When he has a sword up, he has no form of lethality and cannot down a survivor in 1 hit. That also being said, downing a survivor with your special ability out, your hammer, even though it counts as an M1, does not apply to things like Surge, so just keep that in mind. Also, now let's have a closer look at Oni's build. That's basically how Oni works. When he runs out of his power, he'll, make a sad sound like, oh, I'm out of ability. And then he'll look at the ground, and then he'll be able to draw blood again from different locations. A survivor that is slugged on the ground will no longer leave blood. Survivor on the hook will no longer leave blood. Survivor crouch walking will leave a little bit more blood, keeping that in mind as well. The abilities that I currently have here is Modern Abuse. Modern Abuse reduces his killer's terror radius from 32 meters down to 24 meters until he enters chase. When he enters chase and he downs a survivor, that'll help proc Infectious Fright at a much larger radius. Now, the next perk is Barbecue and Chili. Barbecue and Chili, so when you hook a survivor and you activate your ability, you know exactly where you're going to be dashing to, therefore you can get the most value out of your ability. Next one is going to be Pop, because you know where you're going for your stability and your aggression throughout the game. Now, some people would recommend trading out Modern Abuse for Corrupt Intervention, and depending on your comfortability on Oni being able to snowball, and one of the best snowballers in the game, I would agree with taking out a Corrupt for Monitor. Monitor does help a lot though, don't get me wrong. However, the extra range will help you use your ability to go for more snowball plays as well. Keeping in mind that Knockout did get a bit of a rework, and Knockout will not activate off your special ability. when you're enraged and you have the hammer out, you will have to M1 somebody down with your katana out. So just keep these things in mind. It was a little bit of a rework, so a lot of people aren't running knockout on Oni anymore. And the final perk is Infectious Fright, which is when you put a survivor in a dying state, doesn't matter how, whether you put them into dying state through a projectile being a Huntress's hatchet, it's all based off around you. Your terror radius around you will basically make people scream. You have a very small terror radius, not many people are going to scream far away. If you have a very large terror radius, like a Distressing Doctor, then everybody far away will scream, and that will stack with your Static Blast and obviously Calm add-ons as well. So Infectious Fright is good, because Oni will have a 32 meter terror radius. He'll down somebody. If he does have Modern Abuse active, might be a bit larger than that as well. He will be able to see people scream, and then he'll dash across. Remember, 195% movement speed. He's about a 2.5 second activation time. Now, if we have a proper look at his ability, he has two abilities. He has his lunge, where he pulls his hammer above his head and does a multi-smash on the ground. Then you have his dash. When he dashes and hits a survivor as well, he can do those crazy curves that I was referring to as well. So keeping in mind, Oni is one of the stronger killers, in my opinion, when you know how to work him. Now, how do you play against Oni? This is probably one of the only killers in Dead by Daylight I recommend giving a pallet to early. That comes into subject with what pallet are you giving him. If I had to choose between giving him the God Pallet and taking a hit in the first 10 seconds, the answer to that would be, is the basement beside the God Pallet? If it is, I wouldn't give it to him. If it wasn't, and it was just the shack, I would give it to him. That just goes to show you how much this killer can snowball off one hit. If he hits the survivor once, remember, they're going to constantly be dropping blood until they're healed. Yes, some people do run Sloppy Butcher with that. That being said, Oni is very loud with his running and his, like, raw kind of sound he makes. Therefore, running Tinkerer on him, he can still be heard coming a mile away because of all the stomping, much like Demogorgon. People do recommend Tinkerer after it's buffed from 85% down to 70%. Therefore, you can get to Jennies in time. That just helps killers like Clown get around the map a lot easier with their Tinkerer, because they'll be able to get there before the generator pops. But it also enhances killers like this and people like Freddy Krueger as well. Now, that being said, there's some honorable mentions to point out about Oni. These two add-ons that I do have on him, I personally think are his best two add-ons available in the game. And this is going to increase how fast he runs. So instead of running at 195% movement speed, he'll be moving considerably faster. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head. That being said, the next one is going to be how quickly he activates his dashes, which can be very devastating, and his initial Fury Roar. So it can be very scary to verse those two. Other honorable mentions, this is what I was referring to a little while ago. This is basically all survivors can see their blood orbs, but when they move through them, their aura is revealed to the killer. Now this is pretty much Infectious Fright, but a lot smaller. So while Blood Fury is active, where he's enraged for 45 seconds, missing a Demon Strike will cause all survivors within 12 meters to scream, revealing their location. Scream bubbles, much like Infectious Fright or the Doctor making somebody madness up. Now, all in all, Infectious is much better than these kind of options. You can run quite a lot of different choices on Oni, but this is where I come in and say, hey, this is what a lot of people run, and it works really well. Remember, Corrupt Intervention is an option. You can run Thrilling Tremor depending on how you want to play. Unfortunately, Surge gets near no value out of Oni, so that is one of the cases I would walk away from Surge. However, Discordance does get good value if you can replace your Barbecue with Discordance and you understand map movement. Keeping in mind, remember how when I told you Oni, when he picks up a survivor, his ability cancels? If his ability lasts 45 seconds. So if he's used 20 seconds of his 45 seconds, and then he hooks somebody, he cannot reactivate his ability until the bar is full. However, the bar does not go down from where it was. Unlike Legion, who's, Feral Frenzy has to start from the bottom. His doesn't, unless Legion cancels his ability as well. That was a bad example. So keeping in mind that he will always need his ability fully enraged, and his hand will be glowing, and you'll hear that drum sound when he can activate his ability. So that Oni is one of the scariest killers, in my opinion, to verse in Dead by Daylight. He can do incredible curves and incredible hits, and you're always going to be like, wow. There's no real safe loops against Oni. I recommend playing Windows, blocking his line of sight as well. Now, unfortunately, Oni can still see scratch marks. Unlike Legion, when Legion activates their ability, they can't see scratch marks, but Oni can. Oni cannot see blood orbs while he has his ability activated. So if you're leaving blood in one area and you're hiding with Iron Will and he activates his ability, he won't be able to see the blood clustered in one area and know that you're around there. He has to be within approximately 6 to 7 meters to see blood around as well, so it's not like he can see all these dots around the board. But if he's walking and he sees a cluster of blood in front of a locker, he's probably going to go into the assumption you got in the locker and then be able to play around that if he doesn't have his ability activated as well. Now that's a quick rundown on Oni. What I recommend, like I said guys, I easily put him in the top 5 best killers in the game in terms of no add-ons. With add-ons, he's still a devastating weapon. I rate him a little higher than the Huntress based on the fact that Oni can work on any map, but the Huntress suffers, phenomenally on some maps. I still think the Huntress is very good, don't get me wrong, but this is based off no add-ons as well. And if we were incorporating add-ons, the question would be, are we incorporating pink and purple, or just green, and below. Anyways, guys, this is going to be your informative educational video on Oni for anyone who has any questions about it. Hope this answers the questions. But guys, don't hesitate to pop into live streams. I do stream DVD 5 days a week over at Twitch, so make sure you slap that subscribe button, and I will see you guys in the fog in the next video.